This young man and the dungeon known as S are currently sealed off, yet he easily destroys every monster within. After exiting, he is stopped by top-level hunter inspectors, but none can last more than a few seconds. This is because in his previous life, his world was destroyed by monsters emerging from hell, and he is the last warrior of humanity. But after encountering the final monster from hell, he failed. However, due to diligently liking videos, he was reincarnated as a young man in a different world. And now, no more unnecessary words, let's begin. The world I once lived in perished. Everyone had to fight monsters to survive. I spent my entire life doing just that, fighting day after day just to stay alive. And then, day after day, month after month, year after year, even 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. With just a sword, I could fell any monster. I was never afraid. The monster, enraged, glared at the sword god. Its eyes flashed red with danger as it spoke. Give up. The world you once knew has perished. The mastermind behind all of this stood in the vast expanse between the gates of life and death, speaking coldly. What a waste of talent. Become my sword. During this, the sword god was filled with rage, gritting his teeth and muttering, "Don't make me laugh." In a furious frenzy, he charged forward. The sword god leapt into the air and unsheathed his sword. The monster swung its arm but missed him. Instead, the sword god left a long cut across its wrist. Didn't expect this, its face twisted into an angry grimace. The sword god turned to assess the situation, but before he could act, the monster swung its arm again, knocking him through the air in a beautiful arc. Still unsatisfied, the monster taunted him as it advanced. "No matter how desperately you struggle in my eyes, you're just a worm." The sword god took the full brunt of the blow, coughing up blood as he collapsed to the ground. Yet with unyielding determination, he managed to land safely like a cat, regaining his balance and immediately charging toward the monster. Alone, sword in hand, he advanced, resolved to survive no matter what. The monster, in a hyper-erratic state, stared at him like inspecting a tiny ant. Then in a flash it swatted at him like killing a fly. The sword god, fueled by relentless vitality, stood back up. It did not strike to finish him, instead coldly observing him struggle. Suddenly, he noticed the pendant on the monster's chest. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, glimmered brilliantly. The monster saw him readying his weapon. The sword god seemed to be waiting for just that moment to act. He suddenly flung the sword like an arrow. It pierced straight into its chest and soared into the starry sky. The monster's weapon froze just 1 millimeter from him, while half of the pendant was knocked flying. A crack spread across its chest. The monster, filled with rage, bulged its eyes and roared, "You wretch!" That throw already drained the sword god's strength. The remaining pendant shattered into countless tiny fragments. At the brink of death, the monster screamed in terror and slammed to a halt. Though unwilling, it was forced to dissolve into dust. When it was completely gone, he allowed himself to relax. The sword god collapsed, exhausted, amid the battlefield. His jade-green eyes gradually lost focus. Lying amid the rolling smoke and flames, he gazed up at the sky in awe. What a magnificent scene. He, a young man, walked under the warm sunlight. Under a tousled head of hair, his lazy brown eyes betrayed boredom. Somehow he had wandered into a security zone and a loud alarm blared. On the fence, a sign was posted. South Sand Gate, grade C minimum recommended CC. 3 people. Civilians are prohibited. The loudspeaker blares. Please scan your hero registration code and personal ID. Civilians are not heroes. Kindly do not enter C-letter 1EADN wrong San Co. He approached the gate, ignoring the loudspeaker. Then he lowered his center of gravity into a ready stance, exhaled softly, and vanished, leaving only a wisp of smoke. Central alarm shrieked wildly, joined by the loudspeaker, warning that an unregistered hero had forced entry. Dajin continued moving, only stopping when surrounded entirely by trees and mills. As he stepped further in, a voice called out, "Hey, young man." Dajin instinctively glanced over. A group in uniform approached. A black-haired boy asked, "Are you lost? I don't know what's happening. We're about to leave, so just follow us." Dajin stared at them without responding. The girl muttered softly under her breath. "Look at his clothes," the bald boy whispered. "Right, doesn't look like a hero at all." They all shivered and sighed. "I know the logistics team has been wearing all sorts lately, but that outfit and that backpack, what's going on?" Oh no, could he be a rookie from logistics abandoned by the heroes? But that couldn't be. Dajin didn't want to listen to their gossip and spoke up. "Understand what you're saying, but I just arrived," the young man said casually, raising his voice. "See, I told you, he's been abandoned, isn't he?" The man with black hair appeared to understand and calmly advised, "I've seen many like you. I understand what you're thinking when you step through that gate. Don't act so familiar." However, thinking that simply watching a few clips online will prepare you for hunting in the gate is nothing short of suicidal. First, you need to obtain an official hero's license and pass the training and testing. Also, this South Gate is a Class C gate. If you want to get started, try a Class F gate first. Doran, with his calm and indifferent expression, responded, "I know you're trying to help, but I don't need your advice." The group was taken aback by this response. They were caught off guard. The two young men couldn't help but shout, "Who's this madman?" "I don't know, man, but please don't stop me this time." The older man extended his arm to stop him, saying calmly, "Just let him be. If he chooses to ignore good advice like this, let him face the consequences. He knows that this gate is nothing like what he saw online, but a brutal world." No sooner had the elder spoken than Doran immediately encountered something. A horned monster with a monkey-like face sneered and stared at him. Standing in the shadow of the beast, Doran calmly removed his gear and closed his eyes. The monstrous creature swung its hand to strike. Doran tilted his body to dodge. His eyes glinted, his pupils shifting from brown to gold. In an instant, his weapon crashed into the ground, sending a cloud of dust that rose like mist. When the dust settled, the beast was stunned as Doran, with his slender arm, rushed forward and struck, creating a huge hole in an instant. The monster's head seemed to vanish into thin air. The horned beast with the monkey face lay motionless. Doran glanced up and couldn't help but comment, "Nothing's changed." Doran slowly looked at the charred beast before him. After a moment, he reached down to pick up the creature's blade. He stared blankly at his reflection through the sword, as if still in a daze. Then, trembling, he pointed the sword at the headless corpse. With sharp sound, blood splattered everywhere. He focused, digging deep into the creature's body, searching. After a few minutes, he pulled out a blood-soaked, sparkling stone. It was a low-level demon essence stone. He couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Not long ago, he wouldn't have even bothered to look at something so ordinary. Jun pulled the zipper open and rearranged the items inside before stuffing more things in. During his busy movements, a loud thud echoed near his ears. It was the sound of footsteps from several of the creature's monstrous kin. This time, 3 of them appeared at once, one preparing to swing an axe. The monster swung the axe fiercely. He crouched down to dodge it, focused all his strength into the hand holding the demon essence stone, and suddenly threw it, stunning the monsters. The stone struck, decapitating one, and the creature collapsed, leaving the stage. The remaining 2 rushed forward in unison. Jun tossed his backpack aside. It was clear he was about to demonstrate a punch that would end it all. The human team was also wandering through the forest. The girl in the team hesitated and nervously said, "What if that rude guy died for real?" The young man smirked. "Wait, are you worried about him?" The experienced older man reassured. "If he's an intruder, by now the control center agents should be on their way. This is the South Sand Gate Class C, so they'll send agents of Class B or higher." The old man continued, "If he's an intruder, then agents with elemental powers at Class B or higher would be dispatched. They should be on their way right now. As long as he doesn't go crazy and charge at the monsters, he won't die, so don't worry." The man with the bald head reassured him, "I'm telling you, you're right. That arrogant fool is probably trembling like a leaf right now, waiting for the agents to rescue him." The monster with the jagged tail was shaking like a dog in a storm, taking a punch that sent its face into the dirt. The bald-headed man seized the opportunity to ambush from behind. He was too slow compared to Dajun. The pain was such that he could only slash at thin air. When he saw the target disappear from view, he couldn't help but feel hesitant. Dajun's hair appeared behind him. He raised his leg high and delivered a powerful kick to the head. Blood splattered like a downpour. And so, the one-sided battle ended with the monster lying face down. Dajun dragged the rough stone sword along, lifting it with strength. His sharp eyes counted 3 more demon essence stones, and then he was done here. He continued hunting, not knowing how much time had passed. His backpack had gotten a little heavier. The monster that had been circling him seemed to lose its enthusiasm. The haul wasn't much. So far he had 12 low-level stones and 16 mid-level ones. The agents from the center saw him and immediately reported to their team. "This way," Dajun heard them and glanced at the curious human. In an instant, 3 other agents appeared at the scene. The brown-haired agent spoke seriously, "We're from the Gate Control Center. Please present your hero registration. If you haven't registered, come with us to the Control Center." Dajun furrowed his brows, slightly suspicious, and said, "Control Center?" The agent's voice grew firm as he emphasized each word. "Please comply with our instructions." Dajun muttered inwardly, "What now? This is such a hassle," he thought, looking at them. There was a brief flash in his eyes as if he wanted to make a move but finally brushed them off with a nonchalant expression. "Get lost, you're too much." The brown-haired agent immediately gave a command, his hands raised. The man with blonde hair pulled out a tool and approached the lake. "Please cooperate. If you resist, we may be forced to use force." Then quickly grabbed the trembling man's wrist with his other hand. The blonde-haired agent raised handcuffs as a warning. "Any injuries caused by resistance will be your responsibility. It's best to resolve this peacefully at the control center, rather than waiting for your wrist to be adorned with accessories." He twisted the other man's hand behind his back and felt the pressure on the wrist. The blonde-haired man stared in shock, his eyes wide. Du-jun looked at him seriously and said, "Stop bothering me, leave." Seeing this, the agents raised their guards and drew their weapons. In an instant, the weapons revealed their true forms. He glanced at the tool in his hand, noting the magical sealing device, level 4A. It still works on these guys? He applied more pressure, twisting the blonde agent's wrist while speaking, making sure to emphasize the warning, "If you don't want to get hurt, go back." As soon as his words ended, pressure from the front rushed toward him. The agents attacked, and he easily blocked the strike with a casual motion. The agent on the right threw a punch. He tilted his neck slightly to avoid it and as fast as the wind, raised his knee. He struck the agent's side with a sharp blow, causing the agent to lose his balance. Without missing a beat, he kicked him away. The agent on the left was stunned by the scene. He stood frozen, staring at him as if he were a terrorist. Du-jun turned to look at the agent and nodded at him. Then his figure flickered and seemed to vanish. The second agent, unable to see him, panicked and thought he disappeared. Suddenly, he reappeared right beside him and landed a punch. The agent took the full impact, coughing up blood. He called out, "Hey," as the agent awkwardly clutched his abdomen. Du-jun asked. "If I register as a hero, I won't run into any trouble, right?" The agent hesitated, then replied, "That's correct, as long as you don't break the law within the gate. There's no reason to dispatch agents." Du-jun asked again, "What about the rifts?" The agent felt a chill run down his spine at that question. Paths to other worlds where bizarre monsters appear are opening up across the globe, and the byproducts from hunting these monsters are used as new energy sources. For that reason, areas completely controlled by the government where monsters are confined are called gates. Spaces that haven't been converted into gates are called rifts. After hearing the explanation, he summarized mentally. "So no matter which gate I go to, you'll come hunting for me anyway, right? Because of unauthorized intrusion or something like that." Reading Du-jun's irritated expression, the agent hurriedly explained, Yes, exactly. If a hero enters a gate without registering and lacks authorization, the control center will be alerted, and nearby agents will be dispatched immediately. Rifts aren't as easy to access as the primary gates. The Hero Association won't ignore them either. "I don't care about those petty nuisances," he said arrogantly. "So what?" The gagged agent couldn't help but regret internally. "That guy is insane, the bastard. I should have reported to headquarters from the start." Just as he cursed silently, Jun grabbed the agent's face and flicked him away like tossing a ball. Watching him fly, Du-jun evaluated him silently, a total nobody. The half-demon agent clutched his wound, cursing the bastard. "Next time I will definitely kill you." The fool continued on his journey without care. When the jewel on the monster's chest shattered, it let out a desperate roar. "Stop right now!" His voice, almost a scream, echoed through the air. Two was losing consciousness, feeling like I was being sucked into something. Death, I must be dying. With that mindset, the sword god closed his eyes and awaited his fate. After a moment, he opened them, confused, as no one had come to take him away. To his surprise, he was hanging upside down in the sky. In front of him stood a strange young man. The sword god spoke. "Who are you?" The timid, nervous-looking young man introduced himself. "My name is Seo-jo-jun. I am near death. If you accept my request, I will quietly disappear." As soon as he finished speaking, the sword god immediately responded without hesitation. "I refuse." Upon hearing this, Seo-jo-jun was confused, unsure of what to do. The sword god calmly explained his side. "I have nothing left to hold on to in this life. After 10 years of fighting, I was betrayed by those I trusted. My country was destroyed, my friends died. My family too. No matter how hard I tried to live, in the end there was nothing left, right? You're the same, aren't you?" Those words left Seo-jo-jun speechless. Seo-jo-jun couldn't help but try to convince the other man. "My life may be the same, but I don't want my grandmother and Yoons to suffer. You shouldn't live like this." The sword god finally softened and cleared his throat, asking, "And then? Just say one thing clearly. What do you want?" Seo-jo-jun didn't expect the change of heart to come so soon. Seo-jo-jun beamed with joy and quickly said, "What I want is the Gassen Technology Complex. Under the leadership of CEO Mission, it's now called the Hero Complex." The trade of byproducts at the portal was even more active than in some smaller companies. After collecting enough demon crystals, Yihao strolled through the streets with his runes and backpack. After walking a while, he came across a purchase shop and instinctively kept pace. "Maybe this spot will do." The receptionist, with a grim expression, greeted every customer. "Welcome, esteemed guest." Yao stepped inside and said, "I want to sell some demon crystal." The cashier jumped up excitedly. "You've come to the right place. We offer the best purchase prices in Seoul, actually in all of Korea." Hearing this, Yihao placed the demon crystals on the counter. Seeing the blood-stained stones, the cashier couldn't help but comment, "Honestly, you should at least wipe off the blood before bringing them here." Outwardly friendly, she added, "I've quite a few demon crystals. Please wait while I sort them." "Would you like some coffee while you wait?" Yihao replied, "Anything's fine." He sat down and waited while the cashier examined the stone. As she counted and typed swiftly, she said, 12 low-grade demon crystals, 16 lower mid-grade, 5 low-high grade. The commission fee is 40% of the purchase price, you know that, right? That comes to a total of 5.46 million gull. Hearing the outrageous fee, Yihao spoke up. Stop, I'm the one who hunted these. You guys just buying them take 40% commission. The cashier froze in surprise. Then immediately she forced a smile and said, Sir, I think you might not understand how things work here. Normally, we take 45%, you know. We only reduced it this much because it's you. If you don't want to sell, take it back. I'm sure no one will offer a higher price than I will. Dahlin lazily picked up the goods and said, then I'll just take it back. Counter attendant immediately grabbed his hand, then with a smirk, opened his other hand to demand compensation. Hey, sir, you still need to pay for the sorting fee, you know. The coffee isn't free either. The sorting fee is 300 gull and the coffee is 10 gull. Since I had to use an expensive cloth to wipe the blood and can't reuse it, you'll need to pay a total of 350 gull, which includes the cloth charge. Jerked his hand back and coldly challenged, I don't have any money to give you people. If you want, go ahead and try to take it. The counter attendant sneered. You'll have to pay, understand, we have a few C-rank heroes backing us up, the bastard. Before he could finish speaking, several large men emerged from the emergency exit. The scarred man glared at the counter attendant. What's going on? Why did you call me out? Another troublemaker? Dahlin turned his gaze away from the counter attendant and looked at the large man. The scarred man opened his mouth slightly as he looked down at Dahlin, applying pressure. The counter attendant looked pale and was crouched down behind the counter like a scared dog. The scarred man barked, causing the attendant to fly toward the reception desk. The C-rank hero was immediately knocked flat, unable to get back up. Two other men in armor fell to the left and right in perfect symmetry. Dahlin dusted off his hands and walked toward the counter. He stopped in front of the receptionist and quoted the price. Commission for this job is 1%. From now on, let's keep things smooth in our dealings. I'll come back next time. Later, he threw a thick pile of money onto the table when he got home. His mother and Yoons were left in stunned silence. His mother picked up the pile of money and hesitated before asking, Dahlin, what is all this money? He awkwardly scratched his head and tried to brush it off. No, I lent some money to a friend of mine for a business venture. Now their business is doing really well. He looked at him skeptically and asked, Do you really have a friend like that? He nervously answered, Do you remember the places where I grew up? They were my friends back then, the ones I used to play with. She gripped the money tightly in her hands, her voice a little dry. Of course I remember. Eons, innocent as ever, chimed in, So, are we rich now? Ajahn smiled gently and ruffled his sister's hair. From now on, the little girl cheered and ran around the room, shouting, We're rich now, we're going to be so rich. Ajahn looked at her with a thoughtful expression. Memories of the old Dajjal surfaced in his mind. She and Eons, I wanted them to live in the safest place possible. And then he disappeared before I could respond. He looked into the mirror, his face now resembling the sword god. When I woke up, I had become Seo Dujun. The safest house in South Korea is worth 110 billion won now. I don't have any obligation to keep that one-sided promise. But as long as my strength returns, that amount of money means nothing. Cracks. A gate to another world. Monsters. Everything here is weaker than my old world. My world was destroyed. To me, someone who was once a sword god, this place feels like a child's game. Even 10% of my power hasn't come back yet. He was deep in thought when the sound of a doorbell and a voice calling out interrupted him. Seo Du-jun, are you in there? He stood up, instructing his grandmother, Let me go check, stay inside the house. With that, he went to open the door. As he opened the door, he saw a brown-haired and a blonde-haired man waiting outside. The brown-haired one grinned smugly. Seo Du-jun, you know debts are meant to be paid on time, right? Blonde one added, Mao, do you even know how much you still owe? A full 48 million gull, he sighed, remembering that incident clearly. These are loan sharks. Pseudo-jun borrowed money before he died, 5 million gull for his grandmother's medical fees, and it's already multiplied tenfold in no time. Brown-haired one widened his eyes and said, You just made money at the gate, right? The blonde snapped, Hand it all over. We take it by contract, so don't complain. No sooner had he spoken than the brown-haired man took a punch to the cheek, flew backward, and slammed into the wall. The blonde sprayed glue sideways and glanced at the stunned brown-haired man. Dung didn't give him a moment to think and twisted his wrist. I've already paid over 9 million gull. If anyone deserves repayment, it's me. The blonde froze, his fear making him stammer, Why you really are Du Dung. Du Dung's hand trembled as he raised his fist, his eyes deadly. Tell your boss this in person. Meet him myself soon. Then came a flurry of punches, echoing all the way to the sky. Later, he and his little sister went to the mall and entered a stuffed animal store. Seeing the pile of adorable plushies, the girl asked eagerly, "Brother, can I really buy this? Can I have this doll?" Do-jun smiled gently, "We already bought some things. Pick whatever you want now." Sharing memories with Pseudo-jun changed the dry emotions inside me. This moment, it was only a quiet certainty. But why had Do-jun once treated Yulzeong, his half-sibling, with kindness? At the very least, I would protect that heart of his. After fiddling for a while, the girl timidly asked, "Brother, can I choose this one?" She held a thin little bunny plush in her hands. Quickly lifted the chubby little bear the girl had liked earlier and held her, saying, "I told you if you like something, just choose it." Eun-rae-ong giggled, scratching her head like an innocent fool. Afterward, the two of them stopped by a restaurant for a meal. They were enjoying their food when someone called out, "Is this Seo Do-jun? Is that really you?" He turned to see a plump girl flanked by two burly bodyguards coming straight into view. She curled her lips in a fake smile and asked, "Dressed like that and still criticizing others? You're not any better. Who's that girl with you?" "Another troublemaker like your mother." The moment she spoke, the atmosphere tensed instantly, leaving only Eun-rae-ong completely clueless. "Who is this girl?" Do-jun stayed silent, refusing to react. He just wanted a peaceful life, yet chaos kept coming. When she couldn't intimidate the adult, she turned her attention to the child. "What's your name?" The girl answered politely, Eun-daong. Out of boredom, she arrogantly sneered, "Are you part of the Yo family? Look at how you're dressed, pathetic, just like your mother, right? What's wrong? Cat got your tongue, can't answer." The girl had been taunting him relentlessly, yet he didn't react, which visibly frustrated her. She then leaned toward the little girl and said, "Hey kid, do you know what the word whore means?" Knowing what she was about to say, Do-jun cut in coldly, "You're as ugly as a crow." Shocked by the insult, the girl was left dumbfounded. Even the deity couldn't tolerate this woman anymore, disgust plain on his face. Shadow Jun was born out of wedlock and lived in poverty. At age 7, after his mother passed away, he was finally taken in by his biological father. He had to endure over 10 years of discrimination and contempt, completely abandoned after his stepmother gave birth to a son, and then he was thrown out onto the streets. He had to live with his grandmother and a half-brother he'd never met before, Seo Do-jun. What is his heart made of to endure all of this? Now everything will change. The sword god stood up and looked down at her, cursing, "We've lived together for 22 years, yet I still find you disgusting. From your face to your rotten personality, even that pig-headed brain of yours has no hope. You're jealous of girls who are prettier and better than you. And you always live with insecurities. You're even worse than this girl, who at least knows how to think about her brother's finances." Cursed her to his heart's content, then looked down at her as if she were a blessing. His stepmother glared back with wide eyes. The bodyguards were terrified. "What did you just say?" Just when things were about to get even worse, a lady walked up. "Long time no see, Seo Do-jun." She rushed over like a child who had just encountered injustice. Mom, do you know what that bastard said to me? He told me that you don't want to hear a soft scolding. Enough already, get out of the way. What kind of uncouth behavior is that?" "Seo Do-jun, are you okay? No matter how busy you are, you should still come home occasionally." The sword god, disgusted, cursed inwardly. "Such a hypocrite, you're the one who tormented Seo Do-jun the most for 12 years. She continued with her fake concern, "Your father worries about you a lot too." Commented, "It's really disgusting. We're not the type of people who can casually talk to each other, are we? Get out of my sight." She couldn't even pretend to be cold, her face colder than an ice cave. Do, upset, turned and walked away. She stared after her mother in confusion, repeatedly asking herself, "Is this really Seo Do-jun, the one I know? Guy who would just lower his head and endure even when treated unfairly?" She quickly panicked, grabbed her bag and ran after Do. "Mom, wait, I'm coming." The two of them were having a lively meal, but the joy was ruined. He said seriously, "Let's go." The little girl looked down, feeling utterly defeated. "Yes," she murmured, gazing into the distance, lost in thought. Seo Do-jun, the person who always remained silent when treated unfairly, was no longer around. She better realize that soon, the sooner the better. The car carrying the mother and daughter sped along the highway. The stepsister, gaining some courage, muttered, "Mom, why did we leave like that? I should have killed that bastard," she continued. "Do you know what he said to me, that bastard? He told me to apply more makeup and then called me Director Lai," the other side replied. "Yes," she coldly asked. "Why is Do-jun still alive?" Director Lai brushed his bald head and truthfully reported. According to reports, Kang Lu left Do-jun in a crevice. He should have been dead by now. Do couldn't contain her fury and exploded. "That's right. Then why is he still alive?" Director Lai quickly responded. "I apologize, I will investigate further." The stepsister was shaking, pale-faced. "He should be dead." "Mom, what did you just say?" Do didn't bother to pay attention, staring blankly into the void. Seeing her mother remain silent only made her more anxious. "Mother, what do you mean by that? What are you doing, mother? Are you planning to kill Do-jun?" Do didn't even look back but asked sharply, "Do you still have feelings for Do-jun?" Words struck at her core and she hastily tried to defend herself. No, that's not it. If Grandpa knew about this, Haidu quickly covered her mouth to silence her. Pressing her face close to her daughter S, she spoke coldly, "Leave this to me, you keep quiet." The daughter, terrified, dared not make a sound. Haidu's anger was fiercer than a mouthful of chili. She thought to herself, "Dare to defy me, you damn bastard. No matter what, I will make sure you disappear from this world." 10 years ago, the spatial rifts suddenly appeared. From then on, monsters poured out like a flood. Humans were slaughtered in large numbers and the world quickly descended into chaos. But then heroes emerged and they pulled the world back from the brink of destruction. At the same time, a strange substance was extracted from the corpses of the monsters, demonic crystal stone. These crystals quickly replaced all old sources of energy. Nations rushed to convert the rifts into portals. Now, the entire global industry revolves around these portals and heroes. In simple terms, to make money in this world, you have to become a hero. He stood in front of the small office, muttering to himself. Here it is, the headquarters of the HCS Corporation, i.e. Hungjungbo. Jun walked in casually, then with a swish, opened the door. The staff inside were puffing on cigarettes, with one blonde and one brunette standing behind on each side. He shouted loudly, "Who are you, daring to come here after smashing my men?" Dudu stared for a moment and then said, "The more I think about it, the more I feel I've been wrong." King Zipo shouted back, "Wronged? What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just stating what I feel," he replied. "I deserve compensation mentally, physically, and for all my property." "For all the damage you've caused," Dudu added. Zhang Zipo heard this and his mind spun in all directions. The meek boy from before had really changed. Seeing the way he handled his subordinates with ease, it was clear he had awakened within the gate. Han leaned in to intimidate him, looking as if he had just found an ally. "Let me tell you this," he said. "Those fools used to brag about awakening, now look at them." As soon as he finished, the subordinates rushed out in a noisy group. Each one looked like a common criminal, staring down at the floor. Zhang Zipo pulled his coat over his face, feeling lectured. Those guys were proud, but after awakening, it turned out to be nothing more than trash. "Listen," he continued, "I have a whole pile of trash under my command. They wouldn't even let you utter a single word." It was clear he had no intention of having a civil conversation. "Step aside," he warned. Ban called back, "Sit down, I haven't finished yet." Subordinate wearing glasses got excited and lunged forward, shouting, "What, you insolent brat, daring to talk back to me?" Dudu remained calm, swiftly adjusting the man's glasses. He flung them away and delivered a punch straight to his face. The subordinate collapsed to the floor, leaving everyone stunned. Then he dealt with each one in turn while speaking. "You not only lend money at high interest rates, right? I know you also forge documents. If you want to make money, I need a few heroes." After my father passed, the next man had his chance but missed. Then he took a blow to the head and collapsed. His appearance now was no different from a devil. His gaze was terrifying. He regained his calm demeanor, almost commanding. "Make it clean for me, leave no trace, and the deadline is by tomorrow morning." Unbelievable what they were witnessing. Everyone broke into a cold sweat. The vehicle's dashboard was glitching as if the CPU were about to freeze. This power, he wasn't just a Class C anomaly. No, he might even be Class B. The car's occupant waited, growing impatient. "Aren't you going to answer?" he asked. The dashboard occupant quickly shouted, "All right, I'll do it, I'll take care of it." It seemed like the disaster had passed. He grabbed the man's shoulder again. "One more thing, did Hong Haidu tell you to kill me?" Upon hearing the question, an image of her involuntarily flashed in his mind. But before he could respond, he was forced to squeeze harder. He didn't speak. The force on his collarbone made him scream out in pain. The car's occupant quickly shouted, "Tengizu, it was her," she said. "She wanted you to drown in debt and then commit suicide. That's what she told me. Let go, please let go, please let go." When Du Dung got his answer, he released his grip. Muttering to himself, "Suicide, huh? That's why she locked herself behind those gates." Hearing this, the dashboard occupant instinctively reacted. "He locked you behind the gates? Ah, I don't know anything really. I swear if you die I won't get a penny. Why would I put you in there?" I'm being honest, I could tell he was about to wet himself, and yet I didn't suspect a thing. His thoughtful expression lingered for a while and his lips muttered, "Kang Chan-hu, he was the one who pushed me to the gate. Give me all the information on him before tomorrow morning." The car roared away as Du Jun left the office, the entire department exhaling a sigh of relief. The sword god looked up at the clear sky, subconsciously thinking of Du Jun. "Please, let her and Ian Ziong live in the safest place possible," he prayed, his promise finally given. "Is that all? Fine, I'll help you." The next morning, holding his new identity card in hand, he arrived at the center gate and scanned it. A cold, mechanical voice announced, "The hero registration card has been verified. Your rank is below the recommended level. Please proceed with caution and reconsider entering." Du Jun looked at the card, muttering angrily, "That bastard at the company. It should have been upgraded to A by now." He continued walking into the building, the warning still echoing from the scanner. Rank is below the recommended level. Your level is below the minimum. The gate is a B grade, scale D, tunnel terrain. Recommendation A entry is not permitted unless accompanied by at least one other person. This is a B grade gate, but the scale is only D. It's quite hard to play solo here, but due to the tunnel structure, solo entry is allowed, meaning if you don't have at least an A rank, getting through this gate is nearly impossible. If he's unlucky, he'll have to face hundreds of monsters in a pitch-black tunnel. Right in front of him was a massive snake with a stunningly beautiful set of scales. A suffocating, deadly atmosphere surrounded them. "This is perfect," he said excitedly as he donned his armor. "This is awesome." The snake flicked its venom-soaked tongue at him. Jun ignored everything else and snatched the demon pearl, the blood-mad golden serpent writhing right before his eyes. After taking down one, Jun turned and narrated, "The black fang snake, just brushing against it is enough to paralyze the body." He leapt high and landed with force, his toes spinning like a whirlwind, striking from head to tail with a flurry of claws, appearing and disappearing in a blur. Even its scales were torn through. After finishing this one, his gauntlets were soaked with venom. Judging by its corrosive potency, it was worth the full 300 gul. The hissing rose again. Jun instinctively glanced over. This time they had dragged the whole group into the fray. He engaged deeper with these venomous snakes, growing ever more ferocious in battle. Blood sprayed everywhere and the venom from the snakes fell like a storm. Soon, Jun alone remained alive in the chamber. Reached for the spoils, frowning. No demon pearl, truly none. He thought to himself, if it's like the previous world, the drop rate from a black fang snake is under 3%. Looks like he'd need to hunt hundreds more. Then he continued through the passage to a lush green forest. He noticed the dry, deathly skeletons nearby, then followed the hollow gaze of the remains. A massive snake lay there, 3 to 4 times larger than any he had faced before. Dropped his backpack, muttering, "I don't even know the path, yet here it is. Convenient." Then he leapt with a punch. He had to end it quickly and return. This time, however, he was knocked back. His wrist throbbed, the snake's body leaving a clear imprint. He froze, realizing his strike had failed. Before Run could come up with a countermeasure, the tail slithered closer and struck him, sending him flying into the wall. The force of the tail swipe was so overwhelming that Du was momentarily stunned and sat still to recover. Only when the giant snake was almost upon him did he muster the strength to rise, leaping to the side just in time to avoid certain death. Immediately after dodging, forcefully pushed off the ground with his toes and quickly lunged toward the snake. He nearly flew forward, landing a punch that cracked part of its scales. Looking into its eyes, it seemed that he had already evaluated it highly. Standing before an opponent with superior abilities, he couldn't help but wonder, just as he had expected. It was completely different from the previous snakes. Its skin was so tough that his punch had no effect whatsoever. What should he do now? If only he could regain his strength, this kind of thing would be nothing. In the midst of his frustration, a glimmer of light caught his eye. Looked over and saw an old sword. Hesitating for a moment, he closed his eyes, accepting his fate, then drew the sword and muttered. Though old, it was his only option now. No matter how dull the blade, what mattered was how it was used. This sword let me borrow it for a while to dodge the snake's jaws. He gathered all his strength to leap up, not forgetting to wrap armor around his sword hand, his pupils constricting as he prepared to make a decisive strike. Struck down by my hand would be a true honor. You damn snake. His grip tightened on the sword as the snake, now coiled tightly, arched its head forward with extreme force. The sword spirit focused intensely, almost losing himself in the moment. Then with a single slash he split the snake's head open. However, the sword itself was shattered in the process. Run held his position, awaiting the next move. He gently pressed his lips together, then sighed in relief, muttering, "If I can't take it down with this, I'm done for." He stared intently at his newly acquired trophy. Then snake venom filled the air. Zun obtained a new material for crafting a weapon. It was a bit shorter than a longsword, but with a little sharpening it could be used. At least he had gained more than the portal in Nan's Sand. That was a relief, and by the time he left this place, it was already late at night. Jun couldn't help but feel amazed. He hadn't expected that a basic portal would take up so much time. Recovering his strength had definitely been his top priority. He could only hope that his brothers wouldn't see him in such a sorry state. The next morning, at the store he had visited before, a hunter placed his spoils on the table. The shopkeeper calculated for a moment, then said, "You've gathered quite a bit of magic stone. The commission is still 40% as usual." The hunter, hearing this, was somewhat dissatisfied and began to haggle. "What? 40% is too much. I'm a regular customer. Can't you lower it a bit?" 40% is already the lowest rate, the shopkeeper replied, continuing to count the money. "You know that our shop has the cheapest commission in the market, and the basic processing fee for the portal center is already 5%. Don't even leave any transaction traces. You don't have to pay any taxes. When you think about it, this kind of transaction is actually more beneficial for you." The hunter grudgingly agreed, then continued counting his money. "Well, I guess that's true. By the way, what happened to your face? Shopkeeper, hearing this, shrugged helplessly, giving up on further explanation. Don't ask, some crazy guy barged in and beat up my guards, leaving them in shambles. I also got a good thrashing. That hunter took the money, then kept jumping around non-stop. It just goes to show, never rely on those C-grade bodyguards. You need to look at skills, not just a flag. The flag is just something bureaucrats created to make things easier to manage. Real strength is something entirely different. How could someone who's just passed their exams and stands watch at the door compare to a hero who risks their life hunting monsters every day? The clerk thought to himself, well, if the job's done, let's get moving. So many words. The hunter winked and chuckled, saying, we've known each other for a long time, not just a day or two. You need anything, just call me. With that, he headed outside. Just then, a man arrived, as soon as the villain's face appeared. The clerk instinctively froze in fear, pointing directly at him, shouting loudly, that's him, the one who caused all this trouble for me. The hunter turned his head back in disbelief, asking him, all with a bright face, and he's the one causing trouble here. Hey, are you the one who caused the ruckus here? Calling yourself a hero and attacking innocent people. Don't you know heroes shouldn't harm civilians? The clerk couldn't help but laugh inwardly. The person you hit is a veteran hero with 7 years under his belt. He's well connected, knows plenty of high and low-level heroes. If you mess with him, you're done for. Duong turned around and said, mind your own business first, then lecture me. Those words sparked the fire even more. The clerk became even more excited. Duong didn't care about anyone, continuing on. Or are you planning to seek revenge for those hunters? In that moment, the anger tightened his grip on his hand. You want to die, it's over. The leading cause of a hero's death isn't monsters, it's conflicts with other heroes. His 7 years of experience kicked in, activating his escape instinct. You around? I'm busy, I'll take my leave now. He watched the reinforcements fade away. The cashier immediately sprayed some glue. Dujun inquired, you seem to dislike me. The cashier looked nervous. Without waiting for a response, he threw a backpack full of magic crystals across and casually said, ring me up. The glimmering stones inside pressured him. What is this? High-grade magic crystals? Who is this guy? The cashier stood frozen, then quickly reached for the computer before shouting in disbelief. A total of 150 million gul. Dujun silently grumbled to himself. I spent the whole day grinding and only got 150 million. Outwardly calm, he demanded, give me the 150 million. Cashier quickly responded, wait, we still need to deduct the commission. Seeing his sharp gaze, the cashier feared he had said something wrong. Fortunately, he quickly remembered, letting out a sigh. Oh right, 1% commission, so that's 148.5 million. Bring it to me now, the cashier cursed inwardly. What? The commission is 40%, is he deaf? Outwardly, he only dared to say, well, transactions over 100 million require approval from higher-ups. Dujun looked at him and ordered, then go get the approval. Now, fast, go. The cashier quickly called someone, speaking softly. Yes, boss, here's the situation. He heard the other side pick up the phone. Dujun immediately grabbed the phone, saying directly to the other person, can you hear me? Tell him to transfer the money to me now. The shopkeeper said to the customer, I understand. Please return the phone to my staff. Without listening to the rest, the staff member threw the phone against the wall. Feeling the phone's intense heat, the staff member also received instructions from Yun Shen. The superior had said to handle it, so he promptly agreed, not daring to say another word. Yes, sir, the staff member grabbed the bags of money and left the door. Next time, please handle the transaction more civilly, the cashier thought, tears in their eyes. Since when did civil transactions only benefit one side? 10 minutes later, the shopkeeper finally arrived at the store. He anxiously asked, hello, why aren't you answering the phone? What was that call about? The cashier, exhausted and mentally drained, replied, boss, I'm quitting. I can't do this anymore. Seeing the phone embedded in the wall, the shopkeeper's face darkened. The cashier, with a gloomy expression, looked at the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper called for backup. Hello, is this Du Rayon? It's your uncle. I need you to come over. The phone belonged to a woman. Passers-by looked at her in amazement. She walked in elegant black high heels, and a crowd gathered around her, making her look like a famous movie star. Is that Hyun Juzion? It's really her. Amidst the admiration, Juzion approached the shop and the door chime greeted her. Welcome. As soon as the cashier saw her, he exclaimed, oh my god, Hyun Juzion. Juzion removed her sunglasses and winked mischievously. Yes, it's me. The cashier, utterly surprised, thought to himself. Hyun Juzion, the 4th-ranked S-class hero of South Korea. I've heard she is the boss's niece, but why is she here? Juzion seemed to read his mind and explained actively. Because my uncle said he's got a headache from a hero forcing others to sell demon crystal stone. I hear more details. Du Yang and Eunze Ang were interacting in the yard. One was playing with dolls and the other was practicing martial arts. Even if I hunted all day, it would be hard to earn 100 million. At this rate, it'll be too late. I need to be strong enough to hunt the Esu rank gate just a day earlier to make that happen. The most important thing now is to regain my former strength. But unlike in my old world, the mana in the air here is very scarce. Even if I collect mana like this every day, it'll take 3 years, maybe even longer. It would be better if I had decent equipment. But there's hardly any good equipment here, even basic scraps are rare. He was troubled and then sensed danger. The little girl who had been playing happily saw her brother rushing toward her. He quickly grabbed her and said, "Eunze Ong, you need to go inside the house." Yang ushered her inside and slammed the door shut. His grandmother, seeing his urgency, immediately asked, "What's going on?" Suddenly the entire apartment trembled. His grandmother jumped, screaming, "Earthquake, it's an earthquake!" Eunze Ong also panicked, shouting in fear. His senses were extremely sharp. Yu Yang thought to himself, "That's not an earthquake, this could be something else." The sky was pitch black, and on top of that there was the crackling of water. Water cracks continued to spread, resembling a spider's web. The central crack was right in the middle of the yard. A fissure appeared and his grandmother, panicking, asked, "Jun, what's going on?" He sternly warned, "Stay inside, everyone, it's dangerous." Then he leaped into the crack immediately. Neither his mother nor his sister could catch up with Du Jun, brother. At that same time, at the Hero Association's headquarters, the staff received the alert and shouted, "Captain, crack was just discovered in Mapo." The association manager thought for a moment before issuing the order. A new crack after 63 days. The White Masters Guild is closest to the Mapo area. Contact them immediately. Quickly mobilize any other nearby heroes. Where was the crack found? The subordinate replied, "In the yard of a house." The senior manager chuckled bitterly upon hearing this. A house? This is troublesome. If an ordinary person, not a hero, enters a new crack, they won't make it out. Their head will start buzzing. Worse, if they die, a wave of monsters will spawn in the area for the next 10 days. If that happens, the entire CEO will. The manager then asked, "Has the identity of the person who entered the crack been confirmed?" The golden-haired agent responded, "His name is Seo Du-jun. He lives in the house where the crack appeared, and his grandmother said he entered the crack to rescue his sister. So, he's not a hero." Until now, when an ordinary person enters a new crack, the chances of a monster wave occurring are. The golden-haired agent hesitated for a moment before replying, 99.9%. During this hellish probability, everyone fell silent. At the same time, Hizu was furiously questioning her subordinates. She found it hard to believe and asked, "Awakened? Du-jun has awakened." "What the hell are you talking about?" Director Lee responded firmly. "He hasn't registered with the Hero Association yet. He definitely awakened at the gate last time." Hearing this, Haidu became even angrier and cursed. "What the hell is that bastard Kang Chanhu doing? It wouldn't have happened if you had killed that bastard yourself. Why complicate everything? And he's already taken the money." Manager Lai told that bastard, "Kang Chanhu, if he can't kill that guy, he must return 10 times the money he received." "I don't need to contact Kang Chanhu. What do you mean?" Manager Lai's face turned pale as he said, "A new rift has just appeared at Mapo, at Dajun's residence. We've also confirmed that Dajun has entered the rift. This news will soon be announced publicly." Hearing this, her mood improved slightly as she muttered, "So that means we won't have to see that vulgar bastard again, right?" Manager Lai hesitated. "That's correct, but only slightly better." She's still very bitter. Haidu calmly ordered, "Keep watch until everything is certain." Manager Lai reluctantly replied, "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, Dajun is inside the rift space. He stood in a dense primeval forest filled with greenery. Dajun sensed the vast and magnificent nature and his heart stirred. Unbelievable. This is the Pati Sosua forest I used to visit as a child. The shape of the forest, every tree and blade of grass, and of course, the wind, the mana in the air, even the sky and clouds, all are extraordinary. "Perhaps if I go this way," he laughed joyfully, "just as I thought. The world tree, an ancient soul tree holding the flow of pure mana. The reason the previous world was destroyed, it was because this tree was burned. The mana flow was destroyed. Unbelievable, the world tree is still unharmed. I don't know how, but now I can reclaim the mana I once had." Joyfully, Dajun sat down to train, immersing himself completely in this peak cultivation space, spending day after day in the world tree's hollow meditating. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, forgetting to eat, forgetting to sleep. He focused entirely on his breathing, training diligently until one full moon night. Dajun snapped out of his frenzied cultivation when the presence of a group of Volcana monsters appeared. He looked down at his old enemies, silently recalling old grudges. These were the ones who had burned the world tree in the past. They charged madly toward it, and Dajun, out of habit, glanced to the side thoughtfully. It would be better if he had a water element sword, but the Volcana monsters wouldn't give him the time. Dajun quickly activated his mana and made a decision. It didn't matter, he would crush them to the last one. Blue mana swirled around his body as he extended his hand. He unleashed pure mana to strike the intruding volcano. They were caught by Dajin's mana, clutching their heads and screaming while Dajin glared at them sternly. Seeing him easily destroy their comrades, they became much more cautious. The Volcana didn't dare approach Dajin recklessly, releasing their own mana. The condensed mana was released as gas, causing explosions. This method of fighting was inconvenient, and it had been a long time since he released this much mana at once. They kept a safe distance, attempting long-range attacks amid the smoky battlefield. Illusory mana bullets shot toward him, but when they were only a few centimeters away, Dajin's mana shield neutralized them. He used his mana to lift his body into the air, muttering to himself. I confirmed that the world tree is still safe. Now, with the mana flowing through my body, I decided to test it with these eyes, then cracked my neck and relaxed, turning toward the volcano. As I got closer, I roared at the volcano. Without waiting for them to fire mana bullets, I unleashed all my mana directly into the mouth of the volcano. Internal damage caused it to explode. Two ugly volcana died in the fiery blast, and from their disintegrating bodies, a mana crystal rolled out. Dajin slid past the crystals without a thought, completing the inspection. Once these creatures are dealt with, I'll finally obtain the Eternal Ember. I remembered its drop rate was quite high. Let's see how much I can harvest from this batch, all for the Eternal Ember. Dajin's excitement surged. Kept defeating and dodging continuously. After some time, I returned to the World Tree Hollow to check the results of my labor. Among the mana crystals, a shimmering golden seed appeared. Dajin's target was this golden seed. Picking it up, he couldn't help but murmur to himself. The Eternal Ember, huh? I hadn't expected to get this again. He crushed the golden seed and a flame erupted in his palm. Dajin curiously reached out to poke it playfully. I wanted to draw more mana from the World Tree, but in my current state, that was impossible. What I could do now was absorb this ember and convert my mana to fire attribute. I'd wait until I devoured one Eternal Ember. He recalled the time when he was still a sword god, a twinge of nostalgia stirring. Back then, he didn't need to absorb this residual flame, but now it takes a full 10 minutes just to intake one. Du spun his arm around to see if anything had changed, glancing at the golden beads at his feet. Silently, he resolved to absorb as much as he could. A massive crevice suddenly appeared in the sky. Journalists and media personnel immediately swarmed the scene, joined by the crowd. Gu gritted his teeth, muttering a curse under his breath. He tilted his head to look outside, his mood extremely irritable. All of this was because of that madman. What on earth is going on here? Gu glanced at his wristwatch with utter calm. He said he was doing it to save his sister. The scene outside remained unchanged, exactly as before. Sounds noble, doesn't it? He had heard that one could awaken in the crevice. So he rushed in without a second thought for anyone else. If you want to die, die alone. Why drag others into it? Hearing the remarks from the person beside him, he smiled and asked, "So, what did the sect leader say?" Gu replied, slightly annoyed. Same as always, he told us to wait, yet he himself felt a bit puzzled. But why? Gu pondered deeply. Perhaps it was because this time the crevice appeared simultaneously in the US, China, the UK, Turkey, and Switzerland. Some of the larger countries are also showing signs of fissures. It's probably why the president has been so busy. This is the first time something like this has happened. I heard they had control from the start over there. Gu gritted his teeth, his brow furrowing deeply. Only we are having trouble. It's all because of that damned guy. The one who went in first. Just wait until he comes out. I'll smash his face in when I see him. Outside the fissure, a low, ominous hum could be heard. Now, it was the voice of the news anchor. It's been 28 days since the new fissure appeared. Hero Association issued a level 1 warning for the monster surge. On the screen was a blurred image of a young man. The first person who entered, Ed, doesn't return within 2 days. Someone suddenly reached out to grab the remote and turn off the TV. Trang Xiop puffed on his cigarette, sighing thoughtfully. Are you saying that Seo Jo-jun is actually the one known as S? Gu, the director, lowered his head slightly, the light reflecting off his glasses. That's right, I had someone verify it. It's definitely Seo Jo-jun, director Kim Eong-do, the right-hand man of the powerful Xiop. He heard the announcement and didn't ask again until after a month. How likely do you think it is that he's still alive and will return? He quickly made his prediction. If he was a regular civilian, no need to say, about 1% chance. Less than 0.1% actually. Trang Xiop grinned widely, his smile a mix of eerie and smug. A civilian? Ridiculous. Hearing those words from him, the underlings nodded like they were chopping wood. The people in the Hero Association are truly blind to information, he said casually, resting his chin in his hand while offering a possibility. What if that name has already awakened? Gu thought quickly and immediately formed a hypothesis. Even if it has awakened, its rank still needs to be determined. Honestly, it's difficult to judge. The driver exhaled and leaned back fully in his seat. That's true, being skilled in combat doesn't guarantee survival in a rift. The next command from him left the man slightly startled. "That's Seo Jo Jun, he still has family, right? Keep them alive." This order reminded him of Yoonseong and her grandmother. "What you intend to do?" He could only see the driver solemnly making a decision. "For now, treat them well." Then he lifted his glasses, revealing a grim expression. "If he dies, sell his family's organs. If he survives and returns, tell them we took care of them." That, a debt is created. Then the scene shifts to a massive ancient tree bathed in radiant light. Du-jun is currently concentrating his spirit to strengthen himself. How much time has passed? In his hand is a pale yellow energy matching its name, Immortal Ember. He has absorbed hundreds of them. The yellow energy quickly swirled in his hand. Now, at any moment, he can use fire mana. His fire resistance has also greatly increased. Dazuna's eyes recalled the effort from his days as the sword god. Just considering the fire attribute alone is even stronger than at his peak when he was called the sword god. His hand gently touched the trunk of the tree. His voice echoed slowly through the air, past and present. Glittering rays from the world tree slowly descended. "Thank you, world tree." Du-run bent down to pick up the red gemstones and place them into his basket. Slinging the basket over his shoulder, he softly said goodbye. "Perhaps we will never meet again." Steadfast determination shone in his eyes. But if you encounter danger in the end, Du-run would turn and walk away with a gentle smile. "I will protect you at all costs." The scene quickly shifted to night, the moon now high above. Slowly, he began to emerge from the crevice. Toes lightly touched the ground. Du-run lifted his head to survey the silent surrounding. There was no one within a 1-kilometer radius. Everyone must have evacuated to prepare for the monster's arrival. As he looked toward the row of buildings ahead, a bright flash appeared. Strong aura radiated from that direction. Without hesitation, his whole body surged forward like the wind. Very quickly, Du-jun appeared behind the two of them. Hyung-gu observed them while silently assessing the situation. Judging by their uniforms, they seemed to be from the gate group from before. If they noticed him, it would be a huge problem. His hand swiftly summoned a golden flame from the destruction capture technique. In an instant, Du-run decisively hurled it forward. Celestial fire streaked across the sky toward the rooftop of a nearby building. Eventually, it vanished, leaving only a faint glimmer. Suddenly, a tremendous explosion shook the sky. He was stunned, unable to comprehend what was happening. "What is this? What sound is that?" Hyung-gu turned his head toward the source of the noise and light, quickly asking, "Fire, did something ignite?" The two of them hurried toward the blaze, urgency driving their steps. As soon as he arrived, the flames had already consumed the house. He opened his sharp eyes, unable to believe what was happening. "What is this? Why is there a fire here?" Meanwhile, Du-jun, from a distance, was carefully reassessing the effectiveness of his previous attack. The precision of the fire attribute when targeting seems pretty good. He lowered his head to look at his hand, a deep feeling of longing rising within him. "This is the same fire you once took so much pride in, isn't it?" The proud and confident appearance of the sword god was now recalled in his memory. "You must be satisfied now, because you are the strongest fire mage on the continent." Hyung-gu's eyes suddenly widened. His pupils contracted to the maximum. He quickly turned his head to look behind him, his brows furrowing slightly. "Wait a minute," he muttered toward the crack that was starting to show signs of change. "There's something strange about the crack." Zeon-gu couldn't help but wonder about those words. What? An instant, the crack began to shrink and then vanish. The two of them immediately rushed back to where the crack had appeared. He quickly realized something abnormal that he hadn't noticed earlier. "What? The crack?" The surprised expression on Zeon-gu's serious face couldn't be hidden. "It's gone." Now the crack only had a few flickering lights left before they faded away. "It's gone." Du-jun slowly climbed the stairs in the silent night. He turned his head, his eyes filled with power and a terrifying seriousness. Early in the morning, the city broadcast an urgent news bulletin. "Breaking news, a new crack appeared in MAPO and vanished early this morning." On the LED screen, an MC was still reporting. "Today marks exactly 29 days since the citizen named Ed entered the crack." The Heroes Association had already prepared to face the wave of monsters that was unexpectedly triggered by this strange phenomenon and was currently investigating the cause. The people walking along the streets were all looking up at the screen. They were so caught up in their discussions that they didn't notice the person they had just mentioned standing right there. At the same time, a mysterious fire broke out at the scrapyard near the waterway area. They stopped and began discussing. "That guy named S has also vanished ever since he entered the crack, huh? He got what he deserved." Who in their right mind would charge into a crack right after it appeared? They spoke with malice, but after all, he was dead. Maybe that was a bit too harsh, though. It's thoughtless talk. If the waterway hadn't disappeared, the whole Co would have turned into a battlefield. Oran thought back to the news segment he had just seen. If it disappeared, it would mean he'd never see the world tree again. What a shame, but perhaps it's for the best. He raised his head to look at the bright, sunny sky. and with the sun shining down, Doran thought to himself that there were still other things he needed to protect. Suddenly, he stopped in front of an old office, looking like no one had worked there in a long time. Inside the hallway, two men were talking to each other. The smoke from their cigarettes filled the old hallway. The scar-faced man held a cigarette in his mouth, grinning. Well, that guy is dead now. The old man and that girl will soon meet their end too, the other man replied. That's right, our boss isn't a normal person. At the very least, he'll squeeze 10 times as much from them. The scar-faced man puffed on his cigarette and continued, not even considering the old woman. That girl will probably grow up to be a tool. The boss must already be planning ways to exploit her. As they were talking, a voice suddenly interrupted. Hey Do-jun, came the voice from the darkness as he stepped towards them. Where did you arrange them? A car stopped in front of the old office. A man wearing black shoes got out and a man in a black suit followed suit, stepping down from the vehicle. He walked with a cocky flair, running his fingers through his hair arrogantly. A smile appeared on his face as if he had finally rid himself of a heavy burden. Finally, he's dead. Now I can sleep in peace. Suddenly, the man in the black suit turned to ask, Iangu Manager Kim, do we have any appointments today? He quickly flipped through his report book. We have a dinner meeting with CEO Bitch. Nothing else planned for tonight. The man then took off his sunglasses and ordered, all right, contact Mrs. Kang and tell her we're coming tonight. Tell them to prepare a few proper women for us. The man understood. Yes. They both walked up the old stairs of the office. The man's eyes widened in shock as he arrived. He saw his subordinates being kicked away. The blood of one of them splattered in front of him, causing his face to twist in horror, unable to speak. The man was thrown to the side, crashing into a pile of equipment. Do-jun stood still, watching. He continued to cough heavily. His voice, like the sound of death, commanded the man in the suit. Aren't you going to leave here like the dog you are? The man in the suit trembled, his body shaking. Drops of sweat poured from his forehead like beads of water. Do-jun quickly sat down on a nearby chair. Looking down at the man in the black suit kneeling on the floor, Do-jun's voice was cold and full of menace. Are you deaf? The man, terrified, could only crawl towards him, following his command. Long hair covered his face, making it impossible to read his expression. His voice was frigid as he ordered, bark, a scum like you doesn't even deserve to be called a human. Do-jun trembled violently while the other kept bowing his head, biting at the ground. The room echoed with a continuous, low growl like a dog. King Zipo opened his mouth wide in terror, unable to stop drooling. GRR, GRR, GRR. His two subordinates pressed their faces against the wall, pretending not to notice, too afraid to intervene. Zhang Zipo's dog-like noises persisted. Do-jun glared at him, displeased, and continued giving the command, bark louder. He sat nearby, his anger palpable. In front of me they feigned loyalty, offering their hearts and souls. Yet the slightest opening and they would strike from behind without hesitation. Do-jun's murderous gaze fixed on him. Zhang Zipo, do you think I've never dealt with men like you before? Zhang Zipo cowered, pressing his head to the floor in fear. Please spare my life, I will serve you like a dog for the rest of my days. Do-jun kicked him in the stomach, silencing him instantly. Blood spurted from Zhang Zipo's mouth, scattering across the floor. Do-jun's gaze shifted to Igongu. Hey, glasses. Do-jun assigned him a task. From now on, you're in charge, don't bow to creatures like him anymore. He continued speaking. Overthrowing your superiors isn't a big deal, right? I approve, just do it. Igongu bit his lip in fear. He bowed, trying to decline politely. Our boss has many connections. If I suddenly become the leader, it would look strange to them. Sweat poured from him, his voice trembling with fear. So please don't do this. Spare my boss this time. That trembling fool looked at him with murderous intent. How annoying. Weren't these the type of people who specialized in stuffing someone into a barrel and tossing them into the sea, or crushing them in a junkyard? He grew impatient and spoke a single sentence that filled them with terror. In that case, I'll throw him into the gate as a feast for the monsters. King Zai-op, hearing this, hurriedly kowtowed. Please, I beg you, spare my life, just spare me. I will live like a dog for the rest of my days. His underlings kowtowed as well. I beg you, I beg you. Du Rong's face was filled with disgust and contemplation. He annihilated Zhang Zai-op now. Things would be cleaner and less troublesome later. But he sighed and thought to himself, could it be that I'm softening already? He reached out as if offering a lifeline. Here, Zhang Zai-op, thinking Du-jun was forgiving him, looked up with a face full of joy. Jun tried to grab his hand. He kept apologizing, I'm sorry for everything I've done. As he spoke, a flash of light appeared from his hand. From now on, I will consider you my master. The moment his hand touched Du-jun's, it was burned by his flames. That instant, Zhang Zai-op screamed in pain. In Du-jun's eyes, he was wailing miserably. He spoke in a threatening tone, this is your final chance. Du-jun quickly withdrew his hand. Zhang Zai-op's hand, blackened from the burn, fell onto the cold floor. He turned and walked away. Behind him, the screams continued. Du Rong looked back and warned Zhang Zai-op, from now on, if any of my family even gets the slightest scratch, all of you will die. so guard them properly 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. There were many rumors, and officially speaking, Dajun was a man who had disappeared along with Kenneth, whose energy descended right at the W.C. Donal shop's door. Dajun and his sister were sitting inside the shop. The girl was eagerly eating cake. The Hero Association and all kinds of media outlets had already considered Dajun as a dead man. The news feed on the phone displayed information. He stared at the screen, quietly contemplating news about himself. Through the window, Dajun's face appeared, exuding an air of indifference. Even if I said I survived, it would only cause more trouble. He looked at his sister, who was smiling as she ate. The van would soon find us a new home, so it would be better to take things slowly and move out when it's time. The little girl happily enjoyed the cake in her hand. Some crumbs were still stuck on her lips as she looked up and smiled at him. I'm so happy because we're moving soon. Du-jun told the little girl, now you can go to preschool like other kids. And next year you'll even be able to go to school. Eunzi, did you hear what I said? Her mood instantly dropped and she became downcast. Du-jun, seeing this, hurriedly asked what was wrong. What's the matter? Don't you want to go to preschool? Little girl responded with a sad face. Yes, I do. Eunzi then explained the reason, which made Du-jun freeze. The other kids keep teasing me because I don't have parents. Du-jun turned away, clenching his lips. He looked at the little girl and gently reassured her. It's okay, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to meet those kids either. Next year you can go straight to school. When Eunzi heard him promise that, her mood brightened. Really? So I don't have to go to preschool anymore? Du-jun gently replied, don't go. He was frustrated, thinking to himself, should I send her to a prestigious private school so no one can look down on her? From inside the hotel, an angry voice rang out. What? Leaving an old lady and a child at the hotel? Du-jun was questioning Lee-hun-gu. Are you guys okay? He was sweating profusely as he explained, this hotel is under our company's management. As for safety, Du-jun finally accepted the current arrangement. Right then, he opened the door and entered. Eunzi, hearing him, joyfully exclaimed. She rushed to him and hugged him. The elderly woman, who was beloved by Du-jun, reached out and grabbed his hand happily. Du-jun, you've truly returned, right? Eunzi's grandmother tightly hugged him and cried uncontrollably. He, feeling awkward in the moment, stood frozen, unsure how to respond. He smiled and replied to her, yes, I've come back. Yoon's question pulled him back into the present. Brother, are you a hero too? Hearing the question, Du-jun, intrigued, asked in return, why do you want me to be a hero? The girl, holding a piece of bread, responded, I'd rather you not be a hero at all. Du-jun was curious about the reason. Why is that? He asked. The girl hesitated before explaining. Heroes have to fight terrifying monsters. Sometimes they even die. Eunzi's grandmother looked saddened. My family, grandmother, and I, we just want you to live with us for a long time. Du-jun opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. He tightly pressed his lips together and remained silent. Yoon's heartfelt words still echoed in his ears. Brother, we just want you to stay with us for a long time. Du-jun recalled the terrifying scenes from the past. Even in the harsh world of the past, there were still people who managed to survive until the very end. He sat atop the bodies of the fierce beasts he had defeated. Throughout the long period of fighting monsters, he had lost many things. He remembered the time when Yoon's grandmother rushed to embrace him. But now, something precious that he had once forgotten had returned to him. He remembered the meals shared with the girl and her grandmother. Jun made a firm resolution to protect them. Here, he would live to safeguard that simple happiness. The helicopter flew over the city, surveying the situation. At the headquarters of the South Korean Hero Association, the grand and towering structure stood before them. Natty Wang, the founder of the South Korean Hero Association and the director of the World Heroes Federation, looked down upon the city from above. We really can't find anything. The woman beside him bowed respectfully and answered, no, sir. Currently, we are unable to determine anything. I sincerely apologize, sir. He sighed, frustration evident in his voice. This is so irritating. If only the crack could just disappear. It could just as easily reappear at any time. She glanced at him cautiously and replied, yes, having such an unpredictable variable is truly dangerous. If it triggered a wave of monsters, it would actually be easier to handle, he remarked, displeased. Be careful with your tone. He turned back to her and added, think of the safety of the people and be grateful that it hasn't gone that far. The woman, realizing her mistake, quickly apologized. I'm sorry. I'll be more careful with my words next time. He was a man of immense power. Natty Wang, one of the top 100 most respected heroes in the world. He ran for president. He would undoubtedly win with the highest number of votes in history. People even said he could easily take down major conglomerates if he wanted. But his interests didn't lie in politics. Nor did he seek power. His only concern was the safety of the people and preparing for the cracks. He instructed, then turned away, take your time, but make sure you investigate thoroughly. He informed him, understood. Also, it seems the residents of the house near the crack zone have agreed to sell their property. He listened, his tone softening. See, that's good then. I'll emphasize the importance of the people's rights. Remember to offer prices higher than the market rate so they don't feel disadvantaged. If doing so brings even a little comfort to those who have lost loved ones, it's worth doing. He turned to operate on the computer. He silently assessed what was on the screen. After a moment, he spoke to the woman. It seems that this crack is appearing simultaneously in other countries as well. This situation is very unusual. She cautiously asked back, hasn't the US and China already dealt with it? Hesitated for a moment. The problem lies with the United Kingdom, he explained slowly. All the capable heroes have been reassigned elsewhere. Suddenly, an urgent notification appeared on the computer screen. He clicked to view it and immediately became horrified. No way, what is going on? An urgent message popped up. The agency had switched to alert status. Breaking news, the World Heroes Federation has issued an emergency alert. Monster wave has appeared at the crack in the United Kingdom. Warning, warning, warning. He couldn't believe the information. The crack in the United Kingdom. It was early morning at the shopping mall. People were bustling about shopping. Jun, carrying a bag on his shoulder, blended into the crowd on the street. Ahead there was a small shop. He opened the door and stepped inside. The shop assistant, who had been greeting customers, suddenly froze. Hello. On seeing Jun enter, the man was filled with dread. The staff member quickly reported to the manager, Sir, it's him, that person. The manager, upon hearing this, put down the newspaper he was reading. So it's him, he said, standing up from his chair to ask Jun. It's you, the one who forced me to sell the demon crystal shards in my absence. Jun lowered the bag from his shoulder. All right, today I have a lot of demon crystals to sell. I need someone with a high position to handle this quickly. He threw the strap that was hanging on his shoulder onto the floor. He then looked down at the bag on the ground, assessing its contents. It seems you're still bringing a bunch of low-level stones untouched just like last time. The manager thought to himself and immediately refused. I won't do business with you. Motioned for Jun to leave and turned his back. It seems you don't understand, he said. That 1% commission fee caused me a significant loss. I won't do business with you anymore. It's best if you take your items and leave. Jun smiled, exhaling slowly. You'll regret it, he said. He stopped walking and added, talking to you doesn't get anywhere. But just so you know, even the Getch Center charges a 5% fee for a reason. The distribution structure of demon crystals is not as simple as you think. Manager's face darkened as he warned, forget it, pack up your stuff and get out of here, and don't ever come back. Jun did not leave. Instead, he stepped forward and the dazzling crystals inside his bag immediately spilled out onto the floor. Both the staff member and the manager were stunned, watching as his glasses also fell off. His eyes widened in disbelief. Manager's heart raced when he saw it. Wait, isn't that the heroic demon quartz? Heroic demon quartz indeed. It's rumored that someone would pay any price for it. So why is it here? Run crossed his arms, watching them. If you don't want it, I'll take it. Crystal with the added green hue is the heroic demon quartz, created by a notorious demonic alchemist. This infamous alchemist emerged in Mexico while analyzing demon crystals to craft narcotics. Its power shatters everything around it. The crystal is extraordinarily powerful. It activated the latent energy within the stone and awakened into a hero. Since then, this type of stone became renowned as an essential material for awakening and enhancing magical power. Heroic demon quartz became a sought-after item among the superpowered community, serving as both a rare energy source and an extremely valuable commodity. Two of them were stunned, mouths agape, when they recognized the heroic demon quartz. He slipped his hands into his pockets and said to them, "Put it away, I'll handle it immediately." Seeing him about to leave, the manager quickly adopted a respectful tone. "Esteemed guest, could you wait a moment, please?" The employee at the counter was carefully wiping each crystal. Run was drinking water. Manager squinted and spoke. "Sir, he's sitting across from you negotiating the price. I think a 0.5% fee might be a bit excessive." Run, dissatisfied, rose from his seat. "If you don't like it, forget it." Seeing this, he hurriedly clarified, "No, it's not that I don't like it, I'm just curious." He cautiously asked why the fee was changed to 0.5%. And replied coldly, clearly annoyed. The manager, realizing he had angered him, quickly bowed. "I apologize, I truly apologize, I was far too rude." He coldly glanced at him with eyes sharp as blades. "I've heard sorry countless times. Now just say whether you're willing to adjust the fee or not." Staff member glanced at him with growing dissatisfaction. Such a stubborn man, no manners at all. He reluctantly agreed. "Fine," he said, then went on to explain at length. "The magic crystal is a rare commodity, so if you're a major partner, I can sell it to you at cost price, no commission fees. But not every time will I be selling magic hero crystals, right? It's true, especially when selling here. If you want this deal, I'm willing to offer you a 10% discount," he concluded. After hearing this, Jun cut him off, too long-winded. "I'm leaving now. If you don't like it, then forget it. The manager quickly shouted, 9%. We're truly taking a loss by offering this price. Du Jun replied, then don't make a loss. Seeing him continue to walk away, the manager lowered the offer again, 8%. If the chairman finds out, I'm finished. Du Jun responded indifferently, then don't let him find out. Manager kept lowering the percentage, trying to keep him, 7%, it can't go any lower. Du Jun sighed, well, I guess you have to give in then. 6%, 6%, the manager pleaded. I swear there's no profit left. How can you run a business with no profit? Du Jun said, looking down at him from above. The staff member continued wiping the magic crystal, visibly dejected. The manager knelt on the ground, head bowed. Du Jun, looking down from above, said to him, for old time's sake, I'll give you 1%. The manager internally screamed in frustration but still dared not speak up. This daylight robbery. He remained silent. Du Jun unleashed his ultimate move. I'll tell you up front, he said, shocking both of them with his words. I still have about 7 more bags like this. The manager hurriedly shouted, what are you still standing there for? Quickly bring the contract here. The employee responded immediately, yes, sir. Du Jun stepped out of the shop, pausing to look at the screen displaying the recently received amount. Sotin Man had transferred 6.7 billion yuan. He glanced at the screen, thinking, at this rate, buying a 1.1 billion villa shouldn't be a problem. He pressed his lips, considering something. The issue was to obtain high-grade spirit stones. The usual gates weren't enough. Du Jun had an idea. If only he could freely enter and exit the rift, that would be ideal. The manager stepped out and was startled to see him still outside. Trembling, he asked, what's going on? Are there energy waves? Du Jun ignored him, still focused on his phone. The manager looked at his screen and understood. It was the United Kingdom, nothing major, just an urgent administrative message. Now, the Foreign Office had detected energy waves in the Star Forest area. He advised tourists and staff to urgently adjust their schedule. The Grandmaster Hall was coordinating to ensure the safety of the citizens. Du Jun saw the message and fell silent, calmly reading the Foreign Office's administrative alert, the content now displayed. Emergency administrative message. The Foreign Office has just detected energy waves in the Star Forest area and advises tourists and staff to urgently adjust their schedule. Grandmaster Hall is coordinating to ensure the safety of the citizens. Seeing this, Du Jun's eyes flickered slightly before he acted as if nothing had happened. He put away his phone and turned, leaving behind only a casual remark, those without power truly on the bustling street. Jun walked alone, his mind full of thoughts. In the past, no matter where he was, no matter which association called, he would immediately enter dangerous zone. His back now stood firm and resolute, but he no longer lived that way. Cut to a barbecue restaurant where someone was flipping perfectly cooked meat on the grill. Iju Xiang sat nearby, staring intently at the meat, swallowing hard, his eyes glinting with hunger. Despite the girl's longing gaze, the server continued to flip the meat. Today, Du Jun had brought his grandmother and the girl for a truly lavish meal. Grandmother Du Jun awkwardly flipped through the menu, noticing that a few pieces of meat cost thousands of gull. Du Jun, 100 grams cost 250,000 gull. Isn't that far too expensive? Du Jun, sitting across from her, took a sip from his glass before replying with a hint of confidence. This time I earned well, just eat as much as you want, don't worry. Iju Xiang paid little attention and eagerly opened her mouth to taste as soon as someone offered her a piece. She put it in with just one bite. Taste buds immediately exploded, and Iju Xiang's eyes widened in amazement. Her face lit up with pure joy as if she were savoring the entire heaven. Iju Xiang exclaimed happily, this is delicious. Grandmother Du Jun, sitting nearby, hesitated as she looked at the meat, not daring to take a piece. Seeing her hesitation, Du Jun silently stared at something. Without waiting, he immediately ordered from the nearby server, fresh ribs, flour shoulder lean, shoulder core, and back loin. 4 portions of each, please. Grandmother Du Jun, worried by his extravagance, asked anxiously, so much? How can we possibly finish it? Why did you order so much? Jun smiled warmly, reassuring her as he picked up a piece of meat. Today, just enjoy eating as much as you want. Grandma, you have to eat plenty too. Mrs. Du Dong couldn't stop herself and just sighed helplessly. Euz, sitting beside her, quickly picked up a piece of meat and brought it to her mouth. My goodness, the little girl smiled brightly. She held the meat in front of her, not forgetting to urge her, Grandma, this meat is incredibly delicious. Please try it, hurry up, with the girl's pleading eyes sparkling. Mrs. Du Dong finally opened her mouth. She even couldn't help but tease her, such a good child, as soon as the meat touched her tongue. Mrs. Du Dong was so amazed that her eyes widened. She hid her joy, only letting out a few sounds of appreciation. After that, the 3 of them peacefully continued their meal. Just at that peaceful moment, Du Xian, with her long purple hair and striking long legs, slowly walked towards the restaurant, her slender figure gracefully entering. Her beauty made everyone unable to help but turn their heads to look at her. Suddenly Du Xian called out, Seo Jo-jun while eating, Do-jun immediately turned his head, a look of suspicion on his face. Seeing this, Do-zeon walked closer and lowered her head, suggesting, "Could I speak to you privately for a moment?" She noticed he was still eating calmly. She felt a bit doubtful. "Are you a hero or something?" Before she could finish her sentence, Do-jun coldly interrupted, "Can't you see I'm eating with my family?" His voice was as cold as ice, and his sharp gaze didn't show any hesitation as he looked at Do-zeon. "If you have something to say, wait until I'm done eating." This was the first time he had ever been turned down. Seeing such a contemptuous expression, Ju-zi immediately froze. She, with a look of disbelief, glanced down, trembling as she reminded herself, "I am Hyun Ju-zi, yet even as a renowned AD-class hero." Jun still ignored her and calmly replied with a hint of nonchalance, "Really?" Although Xian felt insulted and instinctively stepped back, a flicker of discontent lingered in her heart. What kind of strange man is this? After waiting silently for a long while in the lounge, Du Xian sat properly on the chair, drawing the attention of everyone nearby as if she were a movie star, unable to resist turning to look at her. Du Xian's presence commanded every gaze of the young men in the room. A nearby girl, watching from afar, couldn't help but blush in admiration. Suddenly, whispers arose from somewhere. "That's Hyun Zujin, the S-class heroine, the global top beauty. Could it really be her?" Yes, she's even ranked among the top world heroines." Yet Zujin paid no attention to the crowd around her. With an indifferent expression, she sat with her arms crossed, waiting patiently. The nearby young men stared at her face for a long moment, then spoke up with curiosity. "Wonder who she's waiting for. Someone like her, waiting, who could be so bold." The murmurs around only deepened Du Xian's somber expression. A surge of indignation rose in her thoughts. Seo Jo-jun, Du Xian sat aside, quietly watching his back as he laughed with his family. Months earlier, he had entered the spatial gate for the first time and returned safely. Perhaps it was then that he awakened his abilities. Rumors said he had nearly died during the new spatial water incident in Mappa. Her gaze returned to Du-jun's carefree expression, eating as if nothing had happened. Du Xian couldn't help but doubt, how could he sit so calmly here? The stream of memories continued to flow in her mind. Calling his sharp gaze, Du Xian felt a shiver run through him. A single look, a single word from that man was enough to make him tense. Yet in less than 2 months, he had become an S-tier hero, and the Capimer Oil Corporation had invested an immense fortune to exploit Martin. It normally took 5 years to produce an S-tier individual. Her expression was now filled with fear as she silently reassured herself that he could not have reached S-tier in just a few weeks. He must possess some extraordinary, special ability. Suddenly, the sound of a chair scraping interrupted Du Xian's thoughts. Yoon Xiang had finished eating. She left alongside the elder woman and Du-jun, her excitement evident. Yoon Xiang smiled brightly and sighed in satisfaction. "Delicious, I'm completely full." Du Xian, seated further away, also stood up as Du-jun passed by. Out of nowhere, a foot slammed heavily onto the floor in front of Du-jun's family. Du-jun raised his eyebrows, noticing it. Piercing glare swept over the rude intruder. That man was Cheon-gu, who looked at Du-jun with a provocative smirk and a mocking tone. "What's this? Seo Jo-jun, am I seeing this wrong? How could you have survived and made it out the gate?" These words left the other party deep in thought. Kang Cheon-gu, seeing that Du-jun didn't respond and maintained a proud expression, grew angry. He stepped closer, his demeanor threatening. "I know you're nothing but a pest." Yet unexpectedly, a cockroach. His appearance made Du Xian freeze behind them, fearful as he thought, why him of all people? At that moment, Du-jun looked at the threatening expression of the man without showing any fear. He kept his hands in his pockets, ignoring him with a contemptuous attitude, unwilling to escalate the situation. Jun immediately turned away, no longer paying attention. His gaze shifted toward Du Xian standing behind him. He spoke up, "Hey, you said you wanted to talk to me." The unexpected question made Cheon-gu turn his attention toward Du Xian. Upon seeing him, the man was stunned. "Hyun Du-zen, what is this?" Du-jun still treated Cheon-gu as if he were invisible. He continued looking at Du Xian with a cold tone. "Here's the deal. I'll help with your problem in exchange for something from your family." Du Xian hesitated. "What exactly do you mean?" Du-jun immediately glanced behind him, signaling quickly for Du Xian to follow his instructions. "Just call a taxi and take them home," he continued without stopping to explain further. "I have to leave now." Du Xian silently observed the cold atmosphere in front of him. At that moment, Du-jun's gaze suddenly turned sharp, with a strong, murderous aura radiating from him. His voice became a little colder. "I have a debt to collect." On the other side, Cheon-gu did not hesitate and snarled, his eyes wild, ready to start the fight. Outside a restaurant on a full moon night, Du Xian was gently guiding Eun Xian to the car, speaking reassuringly. "Don't worry too much, just go inside." The girl, with a worried look, glanced back at her and waved outside. "Take care, little one." Du Xian forced a smile as he watched the car drive off. The car started moving, heading toward Eun Rae-ong. Inside the restaurant, loud noises suddenly erupted. Du-jun, with his cold face, stared intently ahead, while a large red mark appeared on Cheong-gu's face. His anger flared as he turned around with a furious expression and shouted, "You bastard, do you want to die?" A trembling staff member stepped forward to warn him, "Excuse me, sir, please don't cause trouble here." Immediately, Cheong-gu swung his hand and struck the staff member, causing her to scream out in pain and curse. "Damn you, hit me already." The staff member collapsed to the floor as he growled, "Everyone get out." Fuming, Cheong-gu shouted with his voice raised, "You really want to die, don't you? Do you want to go to the grave early, bastard?" While he was yelling, a hand shot toward Cheong-gu's face. In an instant, the man moved like lightning and appeared right beside him. Cheong-gu had no time to react before being struck. He clutched his aching face and collapsed to the ground. Du-jun turned around, his face darkening as he called out. Even as Cheong-gu lay on the ground, blood splattering from his mouth, Du-jun continued to speak. "You trapped me in that damn place to die, didn't you?" With a fierce look in his eyes, Du-jun glared down at him and asked, "We haven't even cleared things up, have we?" Slowly, Cheong-gu stood up and sneered, "What right do you have to speak when you're the kind of person who even abandoned your own father? Did your stepmother tell you to kill me?" Calmly, Du-jun pulled out his phone and pressed the record button. He efficiently completed the task before speaking up. "Say that again." Cheong-gu's teeth clenched tightly, a wisp of smoke rising as he snapped, "What the hell are you babbling about?" His voice grew harsh as his arm, engulfed in flames, tightened. "What did you say?" Without warning, Cheong-gu charged with his fiery fist, cursing, "You bastard, you're nothing but a shameless woman. Go to hell." He lunged at Du-jun with a fiery rage in his eyes. His gaze flickered slightly. At the last moment, Du-run managed to block the fiery punch with his own hand. A beam of light appeared, causing Cheong-gu to be caught off guard. His pupils contracted in disbelief as he thought to himself, "My punch was deflected." The image of Du-run appeared alongside his hand, glowing with a dim blue light. Immediately after, his entire body was blown back, and Du-run's eyes sparkled like lightning as he charged forward. The air around them was thick with dust from the battle. A female staff member sitting in a corner trembled in fear and said, "Police, what's the number again? 1111. Suddenly, her phone was snatched away. Yusan smiled brightly, lifting the phone and reassuring her, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." The staff member, her body going limp, her eyes teary and trembling, said, "Miss Hyen Zuzhen, thank you." Meanwhile, Du-jun was relentlessly punching Cheong-gu until blood began to spill. Hyen Zuzhen approached, watching Du-jun, who was losing control, and thought to herself, "Even though Kang Cheon-yu is a B-rank hero, I never expected him to be overwhelmed to this extent." Xian, thinking as he walked forward, wondered, could the other person be ranked B or higher? Maybe they're even A rank or higher. Even if they're A rank, it shouldn't be so easy to crush a B rank like this, right? Her voice interrupted his thoughts, causing his movements to halt. Seo Jo-jun. Xian hesitated for a moment before saying, "Be careful, you could really die." Upon hearing her, Du-jun frowned and looked down. He stood up, stretching his wrist before walking towards Xian. She watched him with some concern and then asked, "How much do you know about Kang Cheon-yu?" Stopped, tilted his body, and with a detached gaze looked at Du Xian, saying, "I think I already know quite a bit. So, is it really that important?" She exhaled hesitantly and said, "Very important." Then Du Xian spoke up and recounted, "Because Kang Cheon-yu's cousin is Kang Jong-bi, an S-rank hero." Jun slightly lowered his head, glanced at her, and said casually, "I know, is there a problem?" Yet Xian, watching his indifferent expression, thought to herself that he had known from the start. Still, his attitude remained calm as if nothing were amiss. Reckless indeed, this man. Cheon-woo lay battered and unconscious on the ground while her voice echoed around them. Cheon-woo had always been so confident because he had strong backing. That meant what Seo Jo-jun had just done was extremely dangerous. "I heard about the feud between them, but if you think Kang Jong-bi would go easy on him, you're gravely mistaken." Du-jun's lips curved slightly, and Xian, skeptical of his reaction, asked, "With that kind of backing, aren't you afraid?" Du-jun stepped closer as he spoke, "Not at all. Actually, I'm starting to feel annoyed. You seem to know far too much about me." His face darkened and his eyes widened slightly as he stared at her. Du Xian looked up at him, lips pressed into a thin line. The tension between them made the employee hiding behind the counter quietly cry, thinking, she said she'd handle this situation. Finally, she was the one to break the tense standoff between the two. "Sorry for arriving so suddenly. I came because your uncle asked me to take care of something." Du Xian's voice rang out slowly and firmly. "You sold the demon crystal to Gassen certain man, right? Sell it to me." A hint of confusion flashed across his handsome face. "Any amount will do." She decisively made an extremely generous offer. "Want to buy everything you have." A smile briefly appeared at the corner of Du Jun's mouth. "Quite a large quantity, isn't it?" She also revealed a victorious smile mixed with a hint of something shady. The assets of an S-class hero are no small matter. Ignoring the fact that Chi On-gu was on the ground, he gently voiced a suggestion. There's nothing that can't be sold, but I have one condition. Du Xian quickly asked what condition. His pupils darkened, the dangerous, ominous feeling becoming evident. It's nothing major. If it's Haiyan Juzen, this should be simple. Suddenly, the scene changed as a bottle of wine was thrown forcefully to the floor. Haiju, angered by the information just received, spoke in a slightly raised tone. But he's dead, isn't he? I heard he perished in a newly opened crevice. She became even more irritated and threw another bottle at her director. The director appeared slightly flustered, trying to carefully choose his words. I'm sorry, I'm sure the Hero Association has confirmed his death, but she didn't find that reasonable. Stop justifying things. So, what are you going to do now? He scratched his head, hesitating before answering. But first, I have something to report. His voice was steady but had a slight tremble as he made his report. The situation with Kang Chi On Yu had already been set in motion by his thirst for revenge. Haidu's eyes widened in confusion as he tried to make sense of it. What could that madman have done to deserve this? Next thing he said left Haidu frozen as if struck by lightning. Perhaps Jun already knew something. A bead of sweat silently rolled down his temple. She turned her gaze elsewhere, carefully considering the situation. If her boss or husband found out, it would cause serious trouble. However, as long as the matter was handled swiftly, it wouldn't be a problem. But if the media got hold of it, the stock value of the company would plummet. Haidu turned her head and pointed her finger, giving orders to the director. Stop this from getting out. Call the press and tell them that if they dare publish this story, not only will the T Corporation pull all ads, but so will VK Corporation, and there will be no further collaboration. The police too. We need to silence them immediately. Answered cautiously yet respectfully. The police and the media have been taken care of already. After a tense pause, Haidu exhaled deeply, exhausted. Good, Director Lai, she said, turning towards him. But you know this isn't a fundamental solution, right? That's why I need to report something else. New information from the director made her eyes widen in surprise. Kang Chi On Yu's cousin is Kang Zongbit. Haidu's beautiful face still bore an expression of disbelief. Kang Zongbit is the one I was thinking of, right? She now recalled the person the director had just mentioned. Kang Zongbit, the notorious person in the hero community. Yang Pio, outwardly friendly, sat drinking with him, but everyone assumed Kang Zongbit had a fondness for the man. Kang Chi On Yu, known for being a lowlife, was surrounded by people who thought he was nothing but a troublemaker. However, he exploited this brother to commit evil deeds on his behalf, but in reality, he only used Chi On Yu to carry out his dirty work. He also didn't forget to add some newly discovered information. If Chi On Yu falls under police and media control, Kang Rongbich won't be safe either. I think the other side has already made a move. Her entire body leaned slightly forward, her voice carrying a hint of caution. We should meet him. Arrange the meeting as soon as possible. The director promptly acknowledged the order. Yes, I will handle it immediately. Pause for a moment. Hizu continued with additional requests. And the director of HCS Capital's luxury car division, he has betrayed us, hasn't he? Yet he also cooperated fully, honestly reporting the results. Yes, he is currently taking care of Zhou Jun's family. Her face instantly darkened and she gave a hoarse command. Contact Prosecutor Back Ko immediately. How dare he betray me and side with them? He will pay the price, transferring the scene to a team preparing to enter the dungeon. Currently, South Korea has a total of 37 rift zones. Security personnel are rigorously verifying the identities of the participating team. Among them, 5 locations are transforming into space gates, while the rest allow only heroes affiliated with the Hero Association to hunt monsters. A male staff member distributed cold, golden yellow cards and spoke up. Hero Hyun Jujin has confirmed her identity, wishing you a safe expedition. Immediately after, the entire team proceeded inside together. Ajun stayed at the rear, silently surveying the space. There was only a single entrant. They knew it well, it was Hyun Juzen, yet they still conducted strict checks. Inju is an A-rank hero and the leader of the guild. She sarcastically remarked, isn't it strange that she was the one who suggested hunting in this area first? Xian subtly shifted his gaze, trying to hide his true intention. I just felt like going because I had some free time, he said, turning his head slightly toward the back where his team was. This was also the spot where he slowly followed behind everyone. At that moment, Dajin made a rather bold offer with only one condition. You let me into the crack area, I'll sell you all the magic crystals I have at market price, he said. Why? Because hunting here makes money faster. As Du Xian walked, he couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. Was that the only reason he dared to step into this dangerous area? He's truly crazy, she thought. In front of them lay the exit, bathed in sunlight and the refreshing green grass. Even without his request, I still need those hero-grade magic crystals, so I don't see the problem. He calmly walked forward in silence, but Indu showed an excited expression and began to ask, "Come on, tell me, who is that guy?" He responded tiredly, "Just an acquaintance." Her tone carried a hint of teasing and curiosity. "An acquaintance? Do you expect me to believe that? Is he a potential boyfriend?" she teased. However, Du Zian firmly denied her thoughts. "No, not at all, I just owed him a favor. I brought him along to repay it." Indu's voice rose slightly, laced with curiosity. "A favor? Huh, a hero class, repaying a debt." Jun remained silent as he followed behind while the team engaged in conversation. It was a long story. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind blew through, causing everyone in the team to momentarily halt. Naturally, he could feel it as well. The entire team immediately adopted a battle-ready stance. A massive eagle-like creature charged toward them with an extremely aggressive attitude. Inzu's eyes widened in disbelief, seemingly unable to comprehend this sudden turn of events. It was the Ka Sokayan. As the leader of the group, she swiftly issued the battle orders. Inzu and Zujin took up defensive positions, while Senho positioned himself near its leg. Out of nowhere, a dark figure suddenly shot forward. Without a word, he decisively charged toward the massive eagle. Du Xian's entire team stood dumbfounded, watching Du Jun in astonishment. Xiao Jun clenched his fist, enveloping it in a burst of power. A tremendous roar erupted as those present instinctively yelled out loudly. Damn it, right after entering the gate, this happened. As the gigantic bird swooped down, everyone swiftly adopted a defensive stance. At that moment, Zhu Xian quickly turned around, his face serious. He urgently spoke, "Inzu and I will immediately take up a defensive position. Senhu, head for its legs." In the blink of an eye, Du Jun shot forward like an arrow, leaving everyone present stunned. In an instant, the ground was littered with rocks and debris flying through the air, accompanied by a cloud of white smoke. It didn't take long or much effort for Du Jun to stand before the massive creature. In his hand was a blazing orb of fire. His face grew increasingly serious. This sight left Kakaishin unable to react in time. Du Jun struck with a powerful punch, sending the creature flying backward. Immediately after, he landed safely amidst the swirling smoke and dust. The previous scene had left Du Xian completely stunned. He stared at him with a puzzled expression. Now Du Jun stood calmly before the heavily injured body of the giant beast, though lying helpless on the ground, its eyes remained wide with terror. The sight before him left Du Xian bewildered and he stammered, "What, just one strike and it's dead?" Before he could finish speaking, Du Jun lifted his foot. His voice echoed faintly, "Not yet." He decisively stomped down on the head of the giant beast without a shred of mercy. His tone grew colder. "This is how it ends." Du Jun's actions only deepened the astonishment of everyone present. They kept watching him with incredulous eyes. Suddenly, Du turned to Du Xian with a pleading look, stammering as she asked, "Who is that person?" After a brief hesitation, she muttered, "Just someone stronger than usual." Hearing this, her companion lost his composure. She shook Jiuxian vigorously, demanding, "What? Are you serious? Defeating a colossal beast with a single strike? How many heroes are capable of that?" Faced with her reaction, he calmly raised his voice. In a steady tone, he said, "If it were just about defeating it, I could do that too." At this, Inzu was even more astonished and kept questioning him relentlessly. "You really saying that? That was a real battle. Struck right in front of you with no time to dodge and it collapsed on the spot." With just a single strike, these words struck Du Xian like a sharp blow to her ear, and in an instant, her eyes filled with terror. That monstrous thing, just like that. As her gaze met Du Jun's silhouette, a sudden thought flashed through her mind. Who exactly is that man? Abruptly, Du Xian widened her stance. "Sister, I guess we need to change our plan." She continuously made her decision, leaving those around her in stunned disbelief. "I'll go deeper into the central area for a bit." Suddenly, Du Jun braked sharply, and Kokakayan spoke up. "Hey," he said without hesitation, emphasizing his point under Du Xian's astonished gaze. "I'm not sharing anything with someone who hasn't contributed." Du Jun pulled out a red object and gently placed it in his pocket, speaking calmly. "I'm not asking for favors either." Hearing this somewhat arrogant remark, Du Xian voiced her judgment. "I don't think your skill level suits this place. Do you intend to go further?" At this, a smirk involuntarily spread across Du Jun's lips into a complete grin. He stared at his opponent, his voice laced with admiration. "Interesting." Before he could react, Du Xian turned and walked away, casually issuing her demand. "I'll take the lead here. Stick close if you don't want to get lost." In a blink, she leapt forward, leaving him alone amidst the swirling dust. Xian glided ahead like flying. Du Jun stood still, watching the figure of the girl slowly disappear into the distance. He quickly assumed a ready stance. Soon, only Inzu's group remained in the area, watching the figures gradually fade into the distance. Inzu's voice began to echo. If Zujin was the bullet, then the other was the brilliant light, dazzling and blinding. Shortly after, the person beside him quickly replied, "President, aren't we following them?" Hearing this, she asked in return, "Can you all keep up?" The response came with a tone of helplessness. Of course not, it's impossible, they sighed. And so, amidst the green forest, the voices of the two could still be heard. I guess today I'm just a side character. As usual, just walking around to farm some experience points. The others hurried to the body of Caucasian, looking on with curiosity. When they saw its devastated state, one person suddenly pondered, everyone keeps calling us a rank hero. Owner of this thought was none other than Inzu. Her face was now filled with fear, but when compared to S-rank, they truly seemed insignificant. Dujin felt the same way. These thoughts relentlessly circled in her mind. As for that person far away, even though Xian was running at the fastest speed she could manage, she suddenly looked back. Upon seeing the empty space behind her, she felt safe but still uncertain. If I slow down a bit? Suddenly, the familiar voice of Du Jun rang out. Can't you go any faster? At that moment, Xian lost her balance and fell. She let out a terrified scream, her face entirely filled with fear. A sudden thought struck her mind. What the heck? They caught up to me. Speed is my specialty and I'm ranked second in Korea. Suddenly Du Rong's steps faltered. Yun Shen glanced back only to mock him. Compared to what I imagined, you're really slow. Earlier, you ran like you were trying to shake someone off. Hearing this, Du Xian refused to yield, continuously retorting, Who said I was trying to shake someone off? However, she kept panting heavily. She had never. In front of them now stood a towering mountain, imposing and massive. Du Jun shivered and whispered, Hey, what's over there? Upon hearing that, Du Xian's gaze hardened more than ever. She cleared her throat and emphasized, that place, as she pointed at the scene ahead, the lair where the spatial rift monster resided. Without hesitation, Du Xian warned him. Yes, have you heard of the Soyeon case? That 20-meter-tall monster that looks like a flying lizard. Don't even think about rushing in. At least 3 S-rank heroes are needed just to have a chance of defeating it. Hearing this, Du Jun grinned and asked excitedly, That thing is holding an imaginary grade magic stone, right? The other party responded immediately. Exactly, just 1 rank below a supreme magic stone. Are you even listening to me? Without waiting for Du Xian to speak further, his steps instinctively moved forward. Witnessing this, she gasped in horror. Don't tell me you're planning to catch it. However, Du Jun gave her no reply. He charged forward like an arrow, leaving Du Xian frozen in place. She was stunned, her face filled with fear as she kept trying to make sense of what was happening. I didn't bring you here to do something reckless like that. Good heavens, what is he thinking? Once she regained her composure, she hurriedly chased after him. A loud scream echoed everywhere. Hey, stop right there. The forest was now only filled with the image of the two of them constantly chasing each other, dust rising from the ground in their wake. The night quickly enveloped the entire area, and the place fell into a frightening silence. Xuxian was so terrified that her eyes widened. A fleeting thought quickly crossed her mind. What on earth? The image of Caucasian's defeat resurfaced in her mind once again. This made her fall into deep contemplation about what was happening. Meanwhile, on the other side, Du Jun was frantically searching for sharp swords. Suddenly, Du Xian turned around. Her face clearly showed determination. Caucasian was an incredibly terrifying monster. Not only that, but in her heart, there was also the figure of Ha Ezian. He stood there with a muscular build. Bok C letter 1EDD Hair Diaru, an S-rank hero, was famous for his hunts of Caucasian. Boldly advanced forward, his presence commanding. He had even led 30 A-rank heroes on his first hunting trip. Aezian had no hesitation in confronting Caucasian, and as a result, all the A-rank heroes perished. Only Master He Diaru survived, returning in a state of near death. His entire body was covered in bulging veins and his face showed signs of exhaustion. However, Master He Rieru still radiated an aura of strength. He had gathered another S-rank hero and 200 A-rank heroes to seek revenge. Vivid images of intense battles began to surface in Xuxian's mind. At that time, several blue creatures rushed forward swiftly. Without hesitation, they wrapped themselves tightly around the enemy's body, holding fast. However, in that moment, Ha Ezian and his team charged in to attack within an instant. Moments later, the monster in front of them let out a painful scream. The once darkened battlefield was now enveloped in light. The creature began to disintegrate. This sight exhilarated Ha Ezian and everyone present. They cheered with joy. They had finally taken down the infamous Ka S letter 1EDD Azon. The sky returned to its clear, natural state, yet nearly all of the forces involved had perished. Back in the present, Doran slowly stood up, the immense power of the life he had built through He Diaru's leadership still evident. 3 years had passed since the battle, and he had not yet fully recovered his strength. He suddenly cast a sharp glance at Ducian. However, the next question left her feeling confused and dazed. She knew very well she hadn't contributed at all, hadn't she? Faced with this question, Du Xian couldn't shake her doubts. She thought to herself if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed it. The image of Doran defeating the giant monster resurfaced in her mind. Ka S letter 1EDD A Dion, that infamous creature. The thought, Du Xian's face turned even more horrified. realizing he had been defeated by this man with a single strike. Du Jun's hand was now a red object. He gazed at it calmly, his eyes thoughtful. He quickly tucked it into his pocket and spoke slowly. I suppose no one needs to guide me anymore. Immediately, he began to walk away, leaving Du Xian stunned. From now on, I will act on my own. Suddenly, she spoke up. Wasn't he planning to bring along some of the ASEAN sect fragments? Beyond the demon crystal, there was also the mine. The claws were also valuable materials for research. At these words, Du Jun's steps froze. He turned around, his voice laced with indifference, not seeking permission. Hearing this, Du Xian didn't know how to respond. She stood frozen, giving Du Xian no chance to react. Du Jun simply turned his back and left, leaving only a remark instead of wasting time. I might as well hunt more demon crystals from other creatures. Take it if you want. Consider the guidance wasted. At that moment, she was focused on something beside her. After a while, she finally replied, I don't need it. Twilight quickly spread across the area. Du Jun's backpack lay quietly on the ground. Around it, the Inzu group watched in silence. Suddenly, the pink-haired young man spoke up. I'll borrow that huge backpack. Fill it to the brim with demon crystals. Can you believe it? Just as he finished speaking, someone answered him. That amount of demon crystals. The whole guilder, we'd probably have to hunt for 20 hours straight to reach that amount. Looking closely, it might actually take 3 full days of non-stop work. Meanwhile, Du Xian quietly sat to the side, absorbing the entire story. Who exactly is this person? At that moment, a single thought suddenly consumed her mind. Not only was he fast, but his numbers were overwhelming. Inzu's expression instantly fell into sheer terror. What Zhuzhen said was true. Then he could single-handedly defeat an ASEAN team without any special equipment or battle armor. What she saw next was Du Jun standing proudly atop a high cliff. That alone was enough to call him the strongest hero in Korea, perhaps even the strongest in the world. Suddenly, Inzu turned around. Face now reflected nothing but awe. Du Jun had returned, carrying 2 backpacks with him, leaving everyone around utterly stunned. He casually set one backpack down and began slowly rummaging through it while the crowd murmured. Then, as if the world itself had gifted him, another full backpack appeared. Telling this story today, no one would believe it. They'd think you lost your mind. Voice belonged to the black-haired girl and the pink-haired boy standing nearby. To be clear, this must remain a secret. Who would believe it if spoken aloud? It was probably true. Suddenly, someone approached, even as Xian and Du Jun stood exchanging words under the suspicious gaze of the other. Crowd started whispering incessantly. Wait, are those two a couple? It must be. When Haiyun Zhen brought him here, I noticed something different. Only a man like him could stand next to Haiyun Zhen without being overshadowed. As soon as he finished speaking, his companion responded. They made a beautiful pair, truly a match made in heaven, radiating talent and beauty. In that moment, Inzu lost herself in her own thoughts, and all that remained on her face was a deep fascination. Wait a second, this doesn't seem like a new relationship at all. Meanwhile, Du Xian and Du Jun continued chatting animatedly. The guy didn't treat Du Xian gently at all. I can't believe someone would dare treat her like that. The moment he handed her the backpack, everyone around them gasped. Wait a minute. The scene where he turned and walked away left Inzu stunned. She couldn't stop herself from asking in disbelief, what's this? Did he just leave? He didn't even say goodbye. Meanwhile, Du Xian simply mumbled to brush it off. That wasn't all. Inzu walked up to her and asked, what about the other backpacks? Did he leave all of them behind? It wasn't until then that Du Xian cleared her throat softly. I told him that if word got out about him taking down the ASEAN Ka S letter 1EDD, he would become an instant sensation. Words only left the other person even more shocked. Yet he simply waved his hand dismissively and said, it's too much trouble, leave it all to me. She couldn't stop herself from judging him. Is there really someone like that in this world? However, Du Xian remained silent, her face gradually darkening as a fleeting thought crossed her mind, causing her cheeks to briefly flush. Yes, is there really someone like that? The first light of day illuminated the modern city. On the shiny glass, the raised letters of the gym stood out. The punching bag was struck 3 times in quick succession, each blow landing without pause. Ha Ezian let out a yell, gathering all his strength into one final punch. In the end, the sandbags were reduced to rubble by his strike. His eyes were filled with rage, mixed with irritation. Ha Ezian glared forward, his voice dripping with displeasure. Look at the pathetic state you're in. You are worthless, Hidieru, an S-rank hero, the president of the Gilder Association, a life of sweetness, a member of the Korean Heroes Association. The bodyguard accompanying him smiled confidently, trying to reassure him. Stay calm, President. They say the longer a crab hides, the higher it jumps when it leaps. The man continued to flatter Ha Ezian, praising him to the skies. The more you endure these hardships now, the greater your fame will become. Ha Ezian wiped away the sweat with a handkerchief and silently agreed. Yes, that's right. I must make those who look down on me swallow their regret. Bodyguard lowered his head and kept speaking sweetly. Exactly. Bit by bit, everything you've endured will turn into strength and then it will explode. The bodyguard's final words made Ha Ezian swallow with anticipation. By that time, everyone will have to bow before you. It seemed the bodyguard knew exactly how to flatter his proud master. Moreover, when it came to dealing with the caster in Yian, who else understood it as well as you did? The bodyguard smiled and flattered while handing over a water bottle. Soon, you will be known as the hero who conquered Koka S1EDF Kayan with the smallest team in the world. In fact, the association might even grant you exclusive rights to exploit Koka S1EDF Kayan. Aezian accepted the water bottle without rejecting the compliments. That's true, he quickly regained his cheerful demeanor and confidently replied. No one is more deserving of that monster than I am. Looking at the photo on the desk along with my award, he paused briefly. However, compared to 3 years ago, Gilder has significantly weakened. Aezian glanced at the bodyguard with a smiling face. Even so, the only person capable of defeating that monstrous bird is still me. Right, hearing this, the man praised him even more. That's right, besides the president, who else could do it? The laughter echoed throughout the training room. The scene shifted to a personal profile of Dajin Xiong Pio. He furrowed his brows, looking at the paper with curiosity. Seo Zhou Jun, is it this guy? Kang Zhongbits, an S-rank hero from the Hero Association. He's the relative of Kang Chi-on-yu, his subordinate bowed slightly, speaking respectfully as he reported. Yes, a few months ago, hero Kang Chi-on-yu had planned to send him into the spatial gate for execution. This left him a bit surprised, causing him to ask the man in return. But he didn't die and instead he awakened his powers there. He answered carefully, yes, that's correct. Go ahead, the man leaned forward to continue presenting the information he had gathered. The person who entrusted this task is Hong Hizu, the director of T Corporation and also the second daughter of VK Group. He remained focused on the resume and casually asked, a young lady from a prestigious family like her would get involved with him. Of course, there's always a reason for everything, and the issue lies in his background. It is said that Seo Zhou Jun is the illegitimate son of T Corporation, brought into the family at the age of 5 or 7. However, 6 years ago, when Hong Hee-ju gave birth to a son, he was kicked out. Pio's lips curled into a sneer, tinged with a hint of smugness. After all, they were family, and yet the billionaire treated him so coldly. Anthong Rong stood up from the chair and casually inquired, so, how much did that person pay to cover it up? His subordinate's voice was soft and slow as it answered. 30 billion, his tone was laced with contempt for his cousin. Is that all? Pio extended his hand and picked up a golf club, then said, but he got what he deserved, didn't he? In response, his subordinate spoke obediently. Yes, I heard he was only beaten, but in reality, he suffered severe burns, his eyes were ruined, and he was left in a state worse than death. He casually placed the golf club near the ball and made a light comment. Impressive, really. With just a gentle swing, Pio flawlessly sank the ball into the hole. His face suddenly took on a dangerous and cruel expression. If it were me, I would have chopped off his limbs and crushed his skull. The subordinate continued with the report, and the next thing he said made Pio miss his shot in surprise. Yoon Juzen had helped Seo Zhou Jun back then. The ball rolled away and narrowly missed the hole. Pio stormed forward in front of his subordinate, his voice filled with astonishment. Yoon Juzen, why did she help him? What kind of relationship do they have? The subordinate's voice trembled with fear as he spoke. Really don't know. All I know is that it was thanks to Hyun Juzen's testimony that the case was settled. Without saying another word, Pio grabbed his subordinate by the collar and shouted, investigate this immediately. Look into the real connection between these two. If there's no blood relation, there must be some kind of transaction. Find out the truth no matter what. The subordinate panicked and immediately rushed toward the door. Yes, I will investigate right away. His brows furrowed tightly, filled with discomfort. The staff in his hand was gripped so tightly that it lost its shape. Mr. Pio clicked his tongue and threw the staff down onto the floor. His lips were tight, and an unsettling feeling surged in his heart. It's certain that the people from Hong Hizu will be coming for me soon. They want me to take care of the task that the incompetent On Yu failed to complete. After a moment of calm, he finally exhaled. And then, a greedy and scheming expression now appeared on Mr. Pio's face. The young lady from the wealthy family probably has no issue with money. The sky quickly turned dark and the moon rose high. Durun strolled leisurely down the empty road. It seemed like he was lost in thought, pondering something. I predicted, hunting in the open water is much more effective than in the gate. His footsteps echoed on the quiet road, adding to the loneliness of the night. It seems I'll have to rely on Hyun Juzen to lead the way many more times. Dujun recalled the words Ju Zion had spoken to him back then. If you sell the magic crystal outside, people will ask who caught it, what their abilities are, and the media will follow day and night, causing trouble. It's best to just keep it for now. She gently closed her eyes, curious about what he intended to do. If his goal was to get famous, I wouldn't mind, but what are you planning to do? Suddenly placed the backpack into her hands. At that moment, a confident smile slowly appeared on Du-jun's face. I will find another way to enter the crack zone. His footsteps finally stopped in front of the long, dark corridor. For now, let's take a break. The new house looks fine. The preparations for the car and the surroundings are decent. Gently pushed the door and stepped inside. However, a cold gleam flashed in Du-jun's eyes as he noticed the neatly arranged shoes by the door. He wondered whose shoes they were. At that moment, a sweet voice echoed from inside the house. Hey, there are some people dressed in black right in front of you, looking very dangerous. Chi only glanced at Du-jun, who remained silent. Eun-zi, on the other hand, seemed a bit panicked and rushed to hug him tightly. Hey, Du-jun did not loosen his guard and immediately asked. Who are you? The man unexpectedly interrupted his words. You are Seo Jo-jun, right? The man, with a cold expression, asked in a rough voice. I am Prosecutor Beek Ji-cheon, local prosecutor's office. Do you know Mr. Hong Trang-zi? Du-jun remained silent, carefully protecting the girl behind him. Then the man coldly made a firm statement. You are being arrested on suspicion of involvement in illegal money-lending activities at HCS Capital, the company run by Mr. Hong. Jun turned to look at her, his gaze sharp and terrifying as he spoke. What will happen if we kill Hong Hizu? The towering building stood imposingly under the gentle golden sunlight. In front of the building, there was another stone tablet with the name Peugeot Siu Siu S letter 1 EBNG service, radiating a sense of righteousness and authority, carrying the heavy weight of the law. Du-jun sat with his hands cuffed to the sides of the chair in the interrogation room. His eyes glanced in a certain direction, as if something caught his attention. A pair of legs belonging to a man in black trousers stepped onto the hallway. The voice of the man echoed, Yes, Director Lee, don't worry. Both the armored vehicle and the trembling car were surprisingly obedient, following orders. Chi Ali sat down, holding the phone in one hand while opening the door and stepping into a room. Thank you for caring even about my daughter's studies, he said, looking at the man seated in front of the computer monitoring the cameras. Through the transparent glass, he saw Du-jun sitting in the interrogation room, continuing his conversation with the person on the other end of the phone. Please convey my regards to Director Hong, he said, Du-jun sitting in the chair with his hands relaxed within his line of sight, explaining why he became a prosecutor. He leaned one hand on the table, smiling, and said, it was precisely to remove trash like them from society, as a stack of documents was slammed onto the table. Ali sat with legs crossed, holding 2 documents in his hands, and demanded, what the hell have you been doing all this time? Even the charges listed here alone are enough to land you 10 years in prison. He then held the document up for him to see. Armored vehicle side had already provided more than enough evidence against you. Du-jun's expression remained calm and stern as he looked on. Chi Ali, full of anger and losing all patience, shouted, look at that pitiful expression. Do you think I'm fooled? His face suddenly stiffened as he spoke. Isn't this the scheme of that crazy woman, Hong Hizu? He looked at him, confused. The tense atmosphere in the room made him ask who, Hong Hizu. Who is it? He thought, feeling no trace of worry. Judging by the situation, the faction of the deserted ox car must have been completely shattered. He had planned to cooperate silently to keep things smooth, but now. One of his feet stepped forward, and at the same time he spoke, as if he had been listening from somewhere. His face under the olive mask darkened, filled with a threatening aura, looking at Du-jun as he said, Did you think the Korean prosecutor is just for show? Life is over. That bastard, his face darkened, radiating golden light as he glared threateningly at him. Face under the olive mask suddenly lost all its previous menace, filled with fear. He froze, staring down at him in disbelief, his voice trembling. He gritted his teeth, raising one hand, losing all reason in a steely voice. You dog! Suddenly, a voice echoed, causing his movement to stop, hand frozen in midair. A man appeared, holding documents in one hand. With the other hand, he opened the door, calling, Prosecutor, may I invite you outside for a moment? The empty hallway suddenly echoed with a loud shout. What? Ali glanced at the documents and asked, could the machine be broken? The other party immediately denied it. No, I've checked. The machine is fine. His hand gripped the papers, crumpling them. A moment later, his voice filled with doubt. The scanner shows a hero, but then it reports an ordinary person. How is that possible? The man gently said, I'm not sure either. Perhaps the information about his awakening is incorrect. Ali Ong's face darkened in thought. But that information came from the T Corporation. They couldn't be wrong. Moreover, he even knows the name Hong Hizu. Who exactly is he? Du-run still sat in the interrogation room, staring down at the documents as the light shone on him. His face carried a hint of anger, thinking, now I understand why they call Korean prosecutors bastards. Should I just smash everything? The door suddenly opened while he was still thinking, then he dragged her with a tight grip. The man fled to a place far away. Du Xian entered and asked, what are you doing here? He sighed in frustration and replied, I don't even know myself. She placed her hands on her hips, tilted her head and advised him, don't act impulsively. I know you're in shock, but using your power will only make things worse. He looked at her and asked, so, are you going to help me? She crossed her arms, helplessly responding, it's not exactly helping, but I'm speaking out because it's the right thing to do. Now I'm sure you're innocent, so I can't ignore this. If I didn't know, it'd be different, but now that it's clear someone innocent has been wronged, I can't stay silent. He smiled, I see. She walked closer to him and said, the Hero Association will begin an investigation. They're paying attention to the illegal use of hero. The incident regarding the MAPO spatial rift at your house. He asked, what about my family? She placed one hand on her hip, looking displeased, and said, I'm your secretary, not your maid. Why should I worry about your household matters? He glared at her. She dared not meet his gaze and looked away. She turned and replied, family is safe, don't worry. His face softened as he relaxed and smiled, thank you, I will repay you for this. Her cheeks flushed pink as she glanced back at him and reminded him anyway, try to hold on a little longer. Try to resolve this as quickly as possible. Outside the building, the sunlight still gently shone down. Hyun Ju-zen did not choose to directly clear Jo-jun's name. She publicly exposed the bribery and illegal lobbying actions of the prosecutor, who was subsequently dismissed. A car sped down the highway. A fair investigation later confirmed that Jun was not involved in the incident. Yusian focused on driving, while Dajun crossed his arms and gazed out the window. I couldn't avoid punishment for the illegal use of a few heroes. But thanks to Hyun Dajun's fierce defense, the sentence was only a suspended one. A sound came from the tablet integrated into the car. Previously unseen monster had just attacked civilians in England. It resembled a praying mantis, standing about 1.5 meters tall with 4 eyes, and possessed the ability to jump incredibly far. He spoke nonchalantly, it's a mecha Circean. She gasped, startled, and turned to look at him. Wait, how do you know its name? Currently, only the association knows the name of this new monster. He didn't respond but looked out the window. You don't just make up monster names. A massive red mana stone was placed on something, surrounded by numerous energy conduits. The mana stone not only contained energy, but also stored available data about the creature. Analyzing the mana stone would reveal the name and details of the monster. A beautiful image of Earth appeared. In modern Earth, science was used. An image of a planet being destroyed, leaving only fragments, appeared. In the collapsed world, however, it was magic that caused the destruction. The red mana stone appeared again, alongside a terrifying creature similar to a praying mantis. Therefore, if a monster appeared in both worlds, it was highly likely that Jun knew its name. Obviously, he calmly crossed his arms and said that dealing with Mecha Circean would be simple. All it takes is using the red ant's fire extract. She looked at him in confusion and asked again, the red ant's fire. He looked at her and answered her question, it's harmless to humans, but it is a powerful paralytic poison to Mecha Circean. A single spray and they can't resist anymore. She fell silent, not saying anything. After a while she asked him with suspicion, Seo Jo-jun, who exactly are you? He did not answer. The car continued speeding down the highway. She glanced at him. It seemed like he hadn't heard her as he remained silent. Frustrated, she asked him in anger, are you even listening to me? His expression darkened and he suddenly spoke. What would happen if I killed Hong Hee-do? Woman, furious, bit her nails. Hee-do sat in her office, her face filled with both worry and fear, repeatedly biting her nails. A bodyguard stood straight, looking at her with concern. The bodyguard, holding a document behind his back, softly said, this is the situation. She, still biting her nails in worry, angrily spoke, Hyun Ju-zen, why her? The bodyguard held the document in one hand and extended the other, attempting to explain. Still unclear. No one knows what their relationship with Jo-jun is or why they even know each other. Her face twisted into a wicked grimace, radiating murderous intent. Her long nails broke from continuously biting them as she hissed, that bitch Hyun Ju-zen. She slammed her hands on the table as she stood up. What the hell is going on? She shouted. About Jun not being a hero. You said he had awakened, yet the air around her is charged with aura. The bodyguard's voice called out, Jun. We're not entirely sure either, but it does seem he has truly awakened. Perhaps he possesses some ability capable of bypassing hero detection devices. This is just my guess. Her eyes widened with malice as she pointed and shouted. Contact Kang Jongbit immediately. 20 billion, tell him I'll pay 30 billion, do it at once. The voice of the Ray Elder, dripping with sarcasm, said, I won't do it. 30 billion is too little, it should be doubled to be worth it. The man stood upright, hands behind his back, and said, doubling it might be a bit much, no. Xiang Pio raised a finger and said, you don't understand anything. He put his feet on the table. For Hungizu, I am the only choice. Besides, once this is done, 60 billion is nothing to her. His face darkened. A man with a blood-red, malicious grin added, and now Hyun Jujen is involved too. If we're facing an S-tier, that price is more than reasonable. The man, cautious and slightly worried, spoke. Hyun Juzen is truly a dangerous opponent. Suddenly, he slammed one foot on the table. The action startled the other man, who recoiled in fear and scorn. The TO elder exuded threatening aura, slightly irritated, and said to the man, HMPH, this fool thinking S-tier kids are like anyone else. Someone like Hyun Zuzhan I can finish in 20 minutes. The other man's face went pale with fear as he replied, yes, sir. His expression suddenly softened, no longer angry or threatening, instead wearing a gentle smile as he asked if the association had responded yet. The man replied while displaying images of expensive bottles of wine soaking in ice barrels to enhance their flavor. He explained that they said no additional money could be provided due to his financial situation. The man continued answering as he watched his back move toward the window. The association also publicly announced they would carefully select the heroes to send. He muttered angrily under his breath, saying, damn it, they're making this so complicated. He spoke sharply, the money's too little. I refuse to go and I wouldn't dare mention it. He turned to look and added, those in the association are the real thugs. When do we leave? The man quickly replied, in 3 days we'll fly out. A voice carried through the clear sky. They had arranged for him to fly with a group of Japanese heroes. He gazed out the window at the scene of a plane soaring above the city with its towering building. Ah, Japan, huh? I also plan to meet Tadakashi. His hands slipped casually into his pockets as he added, Mecha Circean is a new monster. No one has found its weak point yet. Cityscape was stunning, modern, and beautiful. If I discover its weakness, my value will skyrocket. Purple lightning crackled, binding the eyes, accompanied by endless thunderclaps. Camber zit and watched people scattering below as a flying monster soared above, looking down and following. The monster's neck extended on both sides with eyes glowing gold, staring down at those armed and standing firm in its path. Looked up at the monster with worry and fear. Suddenly, it let out a piercing screech and lunged forward. Its scythe swung down fiercely toward them, forcing them to scatter quickly to dodge the monster's strike. Heavy scythe crashed down, cracking the stone beneath. Several wielders leapt forward, slashing at the monster. One person on the ground unleashed a spell toward the monster. Its head was swiftly severed from its massive body by the coordinated attacks. The monster's head flew off its enormous body. The headless corpse collapsed helplessly onto the stone floor. They stared at the monster's body lying on the stone floor, exhausted, wiping sweat from their faces. The platinum-haired woman turned around, puzzled. Monsters resembling the previous one roared, their bound hands radiating a terrifying aura. The woman's eyes widened in fear as she failed to react in time, staring at them charging toward her. The violet beams never ceased. They blazed even more fiercely, cutting through the dark clouds as blood splattered across the bell tower. The 3 colossal monsters rampaged through the city, toppling buildings and spreading fires everywhere. The heroes poured all their strength into stopping their advance south, but with no clear intel on the enemy, they were utterly powerless. Monsters continued moving toward the cities ahead, where lights still glowed, and now, with the Cambridgette defense line just fallen, the capital London was less than 60 km away. Smoke thickened the air, obscuring vision, yet the monster's eyes gleamed bright yellow, piercing through the haze. Its golden eyes glowed as it looked ahead. Suddenly, the golden light faded and its eyes turned gray. The monster collapsed, causing a commotion that startled the others. One by one, each creature fell, losing all light. Aircraft flew through the sky, casting its light down on Du Xian, Po, and 2 others. Their faces were filled with surprise and shock as they looked down, one of them speaking up. Oh my God, it's real. Her face remained in shock, still frozen, while the others began to praise her. Hyun Zuzhan was right, the red flower extract really worked. Even Makassar Sean couldn't withstand it. You're amazing. Yeong Po's face darkened with envy as he thought to himself, impossible, does she really have this level of skill? What on earth is happening? He smiled and looked behind her, saying, all right, let's move forward, finish it. The 2 people behind her immediately responded. Order received. Du Xian smiled, holding a sword in hand as he and his 2 companions jumped from the helicopter. Hours later, an aircraft landed, and reporters stood outside the building, holding cameras, waiting. Young reporters, some holding microphones, others with cameras and video recorders, remarked, wow, the news crew is everywhere. A young man spoke up. Of course, it's Hyun Juzen. No wonder. She's the MVP of the mission in the UK. The man with glasses smiled and replied. She's the one who discovered Makassar Sean's weakness, becoming a true hero. She saved Britain from despair. Of course, she's a hero. It's said that the royal family will bestow the title of knight upon Hyun Zuzhan. The young man with bright eyes shouted out, look, she's here. A pair of legs stepped forward. Xian smiled as she pulled a purple suitcase, followed by Xian Po. Flashing lights from cameras began to blink. The reporter's questions started to pour in, making her expression stiffen with awkwardness. Ms. Hyun Zuzhan, could you look this way for a moment? How did you manage to find the weakness of the Mecha Circean in Xian? Don Pio smiled and responded to the question, let me give you a few words. I heard that you are the one who took down the most Mecha Circeans during this campaign. Xian Pio's smiling face was displayed on the large screen in the city. A group of 200 people, including the hero Hyun Zuzhan, returned today as widely known. It was their extraordinary efforts that saved the United Kingdom. Key to defeating the Mecha Circean was the dispersion of the red flower petals in the air. Du Jun, wearing a hat, slightly lifted his gaze towards the bulletin board. Suddenly, the corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. Meanwhile, the man being interviewed continued laughing and speaking animatedly. Suddenly, Du Jun's gaze turned cold. A fleeting thought crossed his mind. Kang, bit, he whispered, at some luxurious cafe somewhere. Du Xian placed several bags of items on the table and excitedly said, here they are. Du Jun, holding a cup of water, was surprised. Really? She happily pointed to each bag, saying, this one's for Mom and Love and this one is for you, Du Jun. He took his gift bag and opened it immediately, which made Du Xian uncomfortable. You could have waited until we got home to open it, she said. Why do it here? Du Jun glanced at the elegant outfit in his hands and commented, it looked expensive. She raised her glass calmly and explained, just a small token of thanks for your help. Thanks to you, I was granted the title of knight, Du Xian continued. Compared to the help I've received, this gift is nothing. If necessary, I could even give you a car. He put the outfit away, his expression calm. I'll let you know when it's needed. Besides, I've already received help myself. She looked straight at him, serious. If I asked how you knew Mecha Circean's weakness, you probably wouldn't answer right. Jun replied casually, why would I need to answer that? Even Xian could only sigh helplessly. The soft yellow light in the cafe illuminated the scene. She asked, what's the plan ahead? I'm not expecting him to go on about saving the world or anything like that. But if he intends to target Hong Hai-du or Kang Rongbit, that's troublesome. We have to find a way to stop him, she said. He spoke slowly and Du Jun tilted his head, appearing utterly serious. Need to buy a house first. She looked puzzled at his words. Du Xian asked in surprise, so you've been renting until now. Du Jun remained silent, unable to respond. Night fell. Somewhere, laughter and playful voices echoed. In a luxurious villa, beautiful women enjoyed themselves by the pool. Mr. P.O. submerged in the pool, arms wrapped around two women. His face was dark in thought. Hyun Zen, somehow he seemed different from before. Not only did she know Macasian's weakness, but she also deliberately hid how she discovered it. As for Macasian himself, no need to mention what was with that trembling. Even though Xian was resting comfortably, she crossed her arms and asked back, what do you mean? Xian Pio recounted every detail. She even helped drag him out, despite having to strike a whole prosecutor in the process. She also mentioned witnessing him turn Chi on Yu into a target practice dummy. Xian removed his blindfold and explained irritably. It was Kang Chi on Yu who started the trouble, and the assassination attempt through the teleportation gate had already failed. Even the fight began because Kang Chi on Yu instigated it. He laughed mockingly. That greedy bastard Chi on Yu did something foolish. If he dies, it serves him right. But he's my cousin. In short, I have a justified reason for revenge against Jun. Her gaze was cold as she shot him a warning glance. Xian Pio felt a flicker of fear under Du Xian's stare. She lay down, turned away, and casually spoke. Whatever you decide, I don't intend to intervene. Surprised by her action, he thought there must be something serious between them. Though Rei An-chi kept his blindfold on without showing any emotion, he had no reason to interfere either. Returning to the present, Du Xian Pio poured himself some wine while thinking. No reason, I made that clear already. He sipped his wine with a serious expression. Jun must be acting strangely. The once bustling Long Steel, Sodiu, and Anquak regions were now ruins after the monster attack. The Anquak Heroes Association was trying to send as many heroes into the rift as possible. Collect demon spirit stones before the second wave began, the man with the beard on guard muttered. What a pity, if only we had red flower essence. Even a low-level group like ours can defeat the magical beast now. The man next to him agreed, yeah, that's right. If we had stopped the wave from the start, this area would have already turned into a rich mining site for soul crystal ores. Once the wave appears, the fissure can't be transformed successfully anymore. The man continued, I've heard that the second time won't be Mecha Zozha, but something else. The man with the beard responded, yeah, we don't know what kind of monster will show up, which makes it even more terrifying. There are countries that were destroyed because of this. He then turned to look at the crack in the ground. His teammate next to him asked, what's wrong? Is something happening? The man replied, I just have a feeling like someone is coming. Person from Team Chen and that just entered earlier is already out, but it's only been 5 hours. The gatekeeper continued to remind, stay alert, focus on guarding carefully. You know, some greedy people will come for the soul crystal ores. Suddenly, lightning appeared within the crack. The guard turned around in shock. His teammate looked equally stunned. From within the crack, a man with a terrifying, muscular figure emerged, exuding a dark and ominous aura. He looked down from above, his pupils glowing purple, striking fear into everyone around. The two guards were terrified by the man's appearance. He was no hero, his attire and scars clearly differed from theirs. Quick, protect the headquarters. Before they could send a warning, he extended his metal arm and formed a green circle. The two guards were lifted by the green circles in a daze. One of them was hoisted into the air and exclaimed in panic, What is this?" The man paid no attention, stepping confidently past them. "Damn it!" The guard angrily turned and threw a throwing knife at him. The man inside remained completely still, allowing the magic circle to deflect the barrage of throwing daggers, causing them to immediately change direction. He muttered under his breath, "Pathetic." With that, the man suddenly clenched his fist. The two guards screamed in pain as if something was tightening around them. He gently extended his hand, his fingers twitching slightly. Purple lightning crackled to life. From within the lightning, a phone slowly materialized. The screen displayed the number 19.26%, still visible on the crimson-colored display. 19.26% appeared clearly. The man wondered aloud, 10 years have passed here, yet it still hasn't reached 20%. He walked past the two guards, muttering to himself, could it be a failure? After all the effort to create a spatial rift. He grumbled, first, I need to increase the mana density. One of the guards weakly spoke, what are you? But the man turned around, speaking as he brutally attacked the guard from earlier. With a terrifying, demon-like expression, the man coldly said, sorry, I have to clean up these weak insects first. In the spatial opening where monsters haunted, I wander. South Korea under the blue sky, Du Young appeared calmly, but each of his steps sent waves of shock through those nearby. Sunlight bathed his shoulders as the wind blew by. No one knew where he came from or where he was headed. They only knew that his presence silenced everything. Suddenly, strange noises around him caught his attention. Something was speeding toward the city at an unimaginable speed, bursting from the ground. A massive monster emerged, its roar tearing through the space. It opened its terrifying mouth wide, ready to crush anyone daring to stand in its way. But this time, the prey in front of him was not so easy to swallow. The entire group of monsters appeared at once. Yet, amidst the chaos, only one person stood firm. Ron did not retreat, nor did he need to hide. From this moment on, the one being hunted would no longer be human. He looked down, his gaze following into the deep, endless darkness below. Whatever awaited him down there, just a light touch, and the ground trembled, the supreme divine power distorting the very seismic force. After a moment, he calmly made his prediction. 26 of them within a 100-meter radius. Doron smirked. A ball of fire erupted from the palm of his hand. The intense heat swirled as if it could scorch the sky itself. To see how many would still survive, the red light pierced through the water. Countless flames were passed into the deep pit. Doron stood still, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. His face remained unmoved. Immediately the earth shook. A loud explosion rang out, blinding light swallowed the space. The power erupted, flames screamed upward into the sky. A towering red column tore through the clouds, ripping apart the air as if to set the heavens ablaze. After witnessing this display, Doron's eyes flickered with doubt. What on earth was that? At some point, he subtly smiled in satisfaction. Transitioning the scene. In the heart of the bustling city, towering skyscrapers loomed, like a symbol of power with secrets hidden within. The elderly man, appearing composed, took a sip of coffee. So, what kind of person is he? His subordinate, wearing dark sunglasses, spoke with a serious tone. He really is a hard man to approach, he said. A few others nodded slightly in agreement. He confirmed to me that he is indeed a hero. Min Hong Kai, vice president of the Korean Heroes Association, said in a tone filled with seriousness, he truly is a hero. Not stopping there, I motioned for him to continue digging deeper. He glanced at the assistant with curiosity. I heard that the hero's metric device couldn't measure him, right? Ian-gu casually arranged the stack of documents on the desk and nodded. Yes, I didn't get any answers. The middle-aged man in a black suit. The tall, angry face shouted loudly. What an arrogant brat. As a member of the association, he should give a clear response. He was none other than Vice President Sung Cheol of the Korean Hero Association. The atmosphere was as tense as a taut string. The man beside him gave a subtle signal with his hand. What else? I motioned once again, urging the assistant. Have you found anything else? Ian-gu held up 2 papers full of writing. He shook his head. Not much, but there are still some details. And then, he slowly revealed a terrifying secret behind the scenes. Du Jun said everything started from the dark conspiracy of the hero Kyan Chi on you. Spiritual energy surged from his hand. Du Yong lifted his head, challenging. Ready to strike first before the massive monster's attack landed. His eyes gleamed with killing intent, his hand ignited in blazing flames. Du-jun clenched his fist tightly, his spiritual power swirling as if it could burn all the enemies in front of him. Ian-gu continued, saying that Du-jun died in a battle at the space gate and awakened his powers. The entire monster was crushed. Blood and flesh exploded into pieces. A thunderous explosion echoed through the sky. The aftermath sent dust and fragments of bone flying across the heavens. Afterward, he took revenge on Kaiyan Chi on Yu. Then he handled everything by himself. The newly opened rift in Mappo. The battlefield shook and red flames rose high. The figure of Du-jun surged forward like a storm, sweeping away all obstacles. Ian-gu sternly read aloud until the end. So Du-jun possesses overwhelming strength. Taiyo, with arms crossed, thought to himself. Indeed, a wild horse is as difficult to tame as a prized steed. The monster's body exploded and blood and flesh splattered into the sky. Taiyo still had concern. He requested a hero's certification, claiming that someone would vouch for him. Who in the association is that? Ian-gu's face darkened and he answered in the heavy air, Hyun-ju-zen. Level S hero. Taiyo and Sun Chio were stunned, their eyes wide in disbelief. Flames erupted fiercely as Du-run stepped forward, a taunting smile curling at the corner of his lips. In the reflected light of the gleaming golden card, his cold expression became clear. Du-run stood frozen, staring at the golden card, the 8th hero on the level S list in South Korea. The massive monster's body lay shattered on the ground, its toxic blood staining the earth in streaks. So, I am allowed to hunt monsters freely in the rift. Bad huh? Taiyo smirked, a fierce, crazed smile as if everything was going exactly according to his plan. In the silent meeting room after that laugh, he sighed again. He looked at his two colleagues across from him, showing admiration. This kid really has some skill. Yes, his actions truly surpass that of an ordinary person. However, the tension in the room suddenly broke with a sharp voice filled with concern. Sun Chio slammed the table and stood up. Sweat ran down his forehead. His irritated voice rang out. What is this? He dared to enter the level 2 rift alone without any teammates or support. That man must be out of his mind. His gaze passed through, silent and deep. He only responded with heavy silence. Ian-gu subtly furrowed his brows, his eyes cold and sharp. It seemed like he was carefully considering every word before speaking. Sun Chio's hand froze, sweat running down his forehead. He let out a tense, awkward laugh. He seemed flustered. The discussion came to an end. He hurriedly shouted, trying to justify his thoughts. Chairman, if that Seo Jun guy comes back alive, you should announce his identity and promote it widely. He's the 8th S-rank hero of South Korea. Vice Chairman, after finishing his words. Sun Chio frowned, falling back into silence. Ian-gu, still puzzled, asked again. Some were hesitant about the consequences, but that might be something he wouldn't want. Shouldn't we ask his opinion first? Those words were immediately shot down by Sun Chio, frustrated. Hey, Vice Chairman Min, what are you saying? In times like these, if we announce another S-rank hero, the public will feel more at ease, right? The atmosphere in the meeting room shifted as everyone's gaze turned to the highest authority. Ian-gu, what do you think, Chairman? His voice was steady as he spoke. I've heard both of your opinions clearly. His face remained unchanged, his eyes showing determination. Let me meet with him directly and see. The scene shifted back to the main character. Oran charged forward with thunderous speed. His body flew straight into the massive monster. The collision shattered the ground. The monster's body was thrown back with a loud roar. He charged straight into the horde of monsters, their hideous mouths wide open. His gaze was calm, his hand stretched out as if preparing to strike. Doran's eyes were cold as ice. His hand swung up, gathering energy as he prepared to unleash a finishing blow, causing the monsters to tremble. He summoned a surge of fire, his hands engulfed in flames as the roaring blaze condensed into a force of destruction, ready to descend upon the monster. Fire erupted violently, slicing through the monster's body. Yihao slammed his foot into the ground, dust and smoke rising from the impact. His arms still glowed with lingering flames from the strike, his gaze cold and merciless, his entire presence radiating oppressive power as the explosion drowned out the surrounding space. All that remained was chaos of fire and smoke. The monster's body trembled violently before shattering into pieces. Yihao stood tall and unwavering over the incinerated remains. The dying flames flickered around his arms. Against the vast green-blue sky, he looked like a ruler, stern and aloof, as the fire on his hands slowly faded. He let out a soft sigh. Yihao glanced up at the sky, thinking silently. Just as expected, the amount of mana consumed was significant. He needed to equip a weapon quickly. The white and blue building floated above the ground, perched on solid concrete walls. In the sunlight, a sign appeared, Yasin Hero Complex. Not far ahead, a warm brown weapon workshop leaned slightly, breaking the cool tones of the complex. Inside, a young, muscular blacksmith sat at the counter, eyes glued to his phone screen. Golden doorbell with an inverted sword-shaped pendulum jingled sharply, signaling a customer's arrival. The door opened, and Yihao stood there with his hands in his pockets. Carrying a long, coarse bag as tall as himself over his shoulder, Yihao noticed the blacksmith showed no hint of welcome, speaking mechanically. "Tell me the name of the person who placed the order." Yihao set the heavy bag on the counter. Still, the blacksmith didn't even glance at him. Politely, Yihao explained his request. "I want to use this to make a weapon." The blacksmith refused bluntly without looking up. "If you're not the person who placed the order, it's not allowed. Find another place to look." Yun Shen was growing impatient with the blacksmith's indifferent attitude, his face dark and sharp as a blade, voice low and cutting. "I heard many places are full and not taking more. You're the one on the phone, right?" The blacksmith was still absorbed in his game, glancing nervously around. Annoyed by the disturbance, he couldn't hide his irritation. "Damn it, I already said the schedule is full. We have no room, go somewhere else and see. All the craftsmen in this area are highly skilled." Yun Shen grabbed the blacksmith by the collar, lifting him off the chair, veins standing out on his hand. The blacksmith suddenly screamed. "You crazy, what are you doing?" Du Jun stared at him intently. He panicked and corrected, saying he was the son of the shop owner. Du Jun stepped closer, exuding a chilling aura, eyes commanding. "Call your father here." Immediately, the blacksmith muttered, "I only came because I heard this place was good." Reluctantly turning away, the blacksmith threw a strange look at him, then shouted, "Father, there's a customer here to see you." The old man shuffled out in flip-flops, body fit and well-preserved despite his age, drenched in sweat. He adjusted his cap strap and asked, "Who sent you here?" His name was Trio Quan, a craftsman making equipment for heroes. Du Jun replied, "Hai Unju Zen." Hearing those three words, father and son Zen turned pale, half reverent, half terrified. Trio Quan asked again, "Was it really Du Rayon who sent you here?" Yun Shen remained silent. Calmly unfastening his bag, he took out two long, rough materials with a golden-brown sheen and pointed ends. Trio Quan recognized the items and was once again struck with astonishment. He approached and picked up the two items, examining them carefully while muttering to himself. "Is this what the blacksmith was curious about too? Father, what is this?" The item was over 2 hands in length. He returned to his calm demeanor, though his voice still carried a hint of surprise at the rare sight. "It's the fang of a giant black serpent." It had been a long time since he had seen something like this. Jun had made a more detailed request. "Just make me a sword that works. As for the quality, make it the best you can. As for the length, the longer, the better." He paused for a moment. "Longer, huh? You don't know," he said. "A non-metallic material like this will lose its durability significantly if you make it too long." Jun crossed his arms, listening intently with a scrutinizing gaze. Blacksmith then made another suggestion. "I'll forge 2 swords of medium size for you." Jun was stubborn and if unsatisfied would always find ways to criticize. "Are you implying that you lack the skill?" Jun retorted, his words sharp. "Then just join them and make 1 sword. Also, if possible, make sure it can absorb mana at the highest possible rate." The blacksmith, now infuriated, yelled back, "This is unbearable to listen to." "What do you mean I lack the skill?" he shot back. "My father, with his ordinary weapons, can create ones with mana absorption of level 3 or higher." Jun suddenly fell silent. He picked up a pre-forged sword from the rack. It looked very sturdy. Holding the sword by both ends, he speculated, "This looks about level 5. Saying that, Jun tightened his grip on the sword's hilt with his muscular hands. A mystical light radiated from his palms, enough to illuminate the entire shop. The blacksmith, standing across from him, stepped back a half step, startled. The next moment, as both father and son watched in bewilderment, he effortlessly crushed the sword into scrap metal, the blade breaking apart instantly. Every shard, large and small, flew in all directions. The scattered metal pieces fell to the ground. Both father and son stared in shock at the remnants. Du Jun also let the pieces of the sword fall. His clenched fist was still tight, his cold voice sending chill. "If you're going to make trash like this, you might as well quit right now." The air around them seemed to burn with intensity, as though it was ignited by fire. Blacksmith stood frozen in fear, his face pale. His usual proud demeanor vanished and he didn't dare to speak a word. One punch could be the end of him. In a clearing by the forest where the trees were bathed in lush sunlight, by the lake surrounded by green leaves and flowers, everything appeared peaceful and undisturbed. Yet a giant monster stirred, baring its fangs and growling, preparing to wreak havoc. The single eye in the center of its face was closed, but it suddenly snapped wide open. Its red pupil glowed ominously, sending a shiver down the spine. Its massive form, too large for the natural world, awoke. It hunched over, each step shaking the earth beneath it as it threw its head back to the sky. Let out a roar that echoed to the heavens. At that moment, Du-jun approached calmly. He stepped onto the shallow water with ease, finding the roar utterly bothersome. Still as noisy as ever, huh? He waved his hand casually. Flames erupted around his chest. His gaze was already locked on his target. The creature, moving swiftly like the wind, dodged the monster's thunderous kick. The monster stood frozen, watching the strange figure rush toward it, still unsure whether it was human or demon. From above, he leaned in, gathering force for his fiery palm strike. With a decisive movement, the wind-splitting blow slammed deeply into its shoulder. The monster howled in agony, its mouth wide open. It went madly, grabbing a conveniently sized tree as a weapon, veins bulging across its arms. The tree was barely used before Du-run's strike sliced through it effortlessly. The top and bottom of the tree fell to the ground with a thud. After dealing with the monster's weapon, his sharp, fiery eyes locked onto the main target. It almost no advantage. Each of his agile moves was just enough to provoke a reaction of stunned terror from it, without wasting a single second. Du-run swung his hand to strike the other shoulder, circling behind with flames surging along his magical weapon. Yet the battle was far from over. The monster possessed healing ability. Healing magic radiated green light, gradually stitching its flesh together. Torn skin and muscles recovered completely. It stubbornly bared its fangs and glared pitifully. Du-dung wasted no time. From behind, he leapt forward, legs coiled, and with a mere brush of contact, the searing fire flowed from his hand into the monster's flesh. Force was immense, blackening it as if roasted. The monster endured the full fiery strike, screaming with every ounce of its life. That decisive move severed its head from its neck. Du borrowed the wind's power to create a powerful slash, bringing the dramatic confrontation to a close. The monster was defeated. It collapsed with an earth-shaking crash. Du-run stood, staring at the smoldering fire, sweat streaming down as he breathed out in awe. Indeed, sustaining the demonic sword for so long was exhausting. He bent down, unstrapped his shoulder bag, and pulled out a glass pitcher with a handle. Du-run opened the lid, pressed into the body of the defeated monster, and scooped a cup of blood, silently rewarding himself. It was thanks to this that he had managed to defeat that elite monster back then. Returning as night fell, Du-run saw the weapon shop still brightly lit inside. He pushed the cup of blood toward the blacksmith. The man froze. What is this?" Replied casually, "Hand it over to your father. This will make it easy to fuse the two fangs of the dark slasher together." The blacksmith stared at the deep red liquid, uneasy, repeatedly calling after his retreating figure. What is that? You have to tell someone." The skyscrapers glowed under the streetlights. Du-run finally left the shop, stopping on the sidewalk, his hand instinctively tightening the strap of his bag. He pondered, "I've prepared all the basic ingredients, but to enhance mana absorption, I need that one thing. To find it, there's only one place on Earth, Bojia-ro, 12 hours away. A resort surrounded by a cooling pool. The early air here is relaxing and lively." The phone on the poolside vibrated with an incoming call. The screen showed Seo Jo-jun Du-zian, soaking in the pool, moved closer and picked up. The voice on the line startled her in a way she couldn't explain. Du-zian adjusted his glasses in frustration and asked again, "Bojia-ro, at the pool." Everyone was playing together in the water. On the shore, Du-zian and Indu stretched on the lounge chairs, enjoying their day off. The cold eyes behind Jiusean's glasses observed. She spoke up. "The council has decided to send a hero to Bojia-ro." Indu, VKF's king, sipped his drink and replied, "Yes, I heard the Bojia-ro government and the council have both conceded. Now they plan to lock down the entire rift zone." Indu lounged in a deep-cut black bikini. Exposing her chest, she gently removed the glasses with a teasing smile. Even though the monsters there were far more aggressive, the effort yielded quite a few results. The Soul Stone was also valuable and Liu Cheng's faction approved, so our guild decided to join. "You should go too, take him along," Du-zian said, probing the stranger's status. "That person is the 8th rank level 5 causing quite a stir recently, right?" she asked. "I'm not entirely sure," came her reply. "Not sure what?" he pressed. "Rumor says you two are very close." Indu hurriedly denied it. "What? That's impossible," she exclaimed. "I saw it myself. You two went hunting together, didn't you?" Du-zian's face stiffened, hiding his embarrassment. Flustered, she stammered, "Well, I knew that. Okay, fine, let's go then." Indu eagerly stretched out her hands, sweetly coaxing, thank you so much." But Du-zian suddenly cut her off, stumbling over his words. "But I'm not even sure if he'll come along," she admitted. Elsewhere, sweat streamed down the tense face of the official, voice trembling with fear. "Wait, how did they even find this?" The flawless fusion looked solid, not metallic, yet molded as one piece. Who would have thought the Crimson Sword blood could be used this way? Du-dung stood with arms crossed, exuding arrogance, a smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. The official held the wooden staff, reluctantly agreeing. "Fine, I'll follow the order. Make it as long as possible, up to 180 cm. He reminded them to craft it as a two-handed sword, though the handle should allow one-handed swings. About 5 kilograms would be ideal. His face under the hat twisted oddly. "What's this?" Suddenly speaking with such formality. "I thought you were defiant by nature." Turns out he knows manners after all. Or perhaps this weapon is so important to him that he treats it this way. The shopkeeper observed the wooden staff in his hand, rough and heavy, and said aloud, 5 kg is a bit heavy to swing with one hand. It's not something you can just swing a few times and be done with it. He spoke up. "It's fine, just do it like that." "How long will it take?" Trio Quan responded. "At least a month." Mana absorption rate could reach level 7. He thought to himself, level 7, will he be able to handle all of his power? As expected, it has to be used, but first let's shape it. For now, focus on the appearance. He muttered, as for increasing the mana absorption rate, "Wait until I bring the materials before you proceed." His pupils contracted, feeling uneasy. Could he be going to fetch those materials? A few days later, in front of the parking sign, a luxury car was parked in this area. He stood next to the car, his face full of gratitude. "Thank you. Make good use of it." Du Xian smiled in response. "It's nothing. Do I really look like I'm that short on money?" He smiled again. "And you're only asking for something worth $1 billion. That's reasonable." This left her speechless. Xian stood there, dumbfounded, looking around as he checked the car. He was somewhat curious. "What's going on with the Hero Association?" Du Jun answered. "They're planning to reveal my identity. I asked them to pay the appropriate price." She looked stunned. "Pay the price?" "President Na Ti Hong always prioritizes the big picture." "It seems so, but the negotiations failed," she said, fuming. "Can you just live decently? I'm the one who's sponsoring you. Please think of me." In response to her words, the harsh sound of the car door slamming shut echoed. Xian stepped forward, opened the door, and sat down in the passenger seat. She fastened her seatbelt. She tilted her head slightly and spoke. "The association is swamped with the task of moving troops to the Fisher area by the shore. Once things settle down, I'll arrange for the president to have another conversation." Yu Jun's voice sounded puzzled. "By the shore?" Xian's arm gently brushed against his. "Yes, that's right. They said they would completely seal off part of the area, and the distance between them was getting shorter, creating an atmosphere full of subtle tension." Yu Jun looked into Xian's eyes and asked, "Are you going too?" Her face flushed red from embarrassment, and beads of sweat ran down her cheeks. Xian's heart grew both tense and uneasy. She turned to reply, "Of course, why do you ask?" Yu Jun's handsome face and alluring voice filled the air as he said, "Because I want to go with you." That statement made Xian's heart race, and her cheeks turned slightly pink from embarrassment. In a different space, Hai Du's face was filled with fear as she trembled. She asked, "Ray Ong Pio, what is it?" "Asking for more money?" The corner of the man's mouth curled up. "This isn't the time to be stingy." "Rector Hong," she shouted angrily. "We've already paid 30 billion in advance, and now you want more money. When do you plan on starting?" "It should have been handed over to someone else," she added. Ray Ong Pio only replied, "Who would take on this job?" She sneered. "There are plenty of people who will kill without hesitation as long as there's money." He sighed, showing his distaste. There was a mocking look in his eyes as he gazed at Hai Du. "But the director really is lacking in information. Should I increase the free information for you?" Seo Jo Jun, he's an S rank. The 8th S-rank hero of South Korea. Hai Du's face twisted in disbelief. Drops of sweat appeared on his temple. He shouted loudly, "That damn brat is also an S-rank. He's the one who's been pampering my face." The man laughed mockingly. "Oh, you don't believe it. I had to pay to get that information. If you don't believe it, then just sit there and wait to die at his hands." The woman slowly stepped towards the door, her voice echoing, "Wait, what? Is he really an S-rank? If so, I can't control it anymore. I'll pay more money. Then we must deal with him." The woman's smile grew wicked. "It's not just about the money. If we become close business partners in the future, it will be even better." Hai Du seemed to lose control after hearing the information he had just been given. She yelled loudly, "Anything is fine as long as he dies." Suddenly, the phone of the woman rang. Hai Du felt uneasy in his heart. The man pressed his lips together, silently reading the incoming message. The woman's voice came up. "It seems fate is on the director's side after all." Hai Du stared blankly. "What do you mean by that?" Man's lips curled slightly as he held up his phone towards her. A perfect opportunity just appeared to deal with Seo Jo Jun, right in the business class section of the plane. Seo Jo Jun sat calmly and elegantly. The excited online comments poured in. Hero Alliance, the elite team of the 5th rank, part of the Hero Association S-Rank 5, sent to Borja, waiting for the largest military operation in history. As the situation became more heated, even the Hero Association joined the Borja mission, officially marking the beginning of the operation. In the 5th tier, the proud look of Jiang Xiangho, arms crossed, sitting calmly. "I heard Jiang Xiangho is already on his way to Borja," Busan said. "He alone is carrying the burden to help us rise to the top." Guardians sniff money like hunting dogs. Once the funds are out, there probably won't be much left. Or perhaps Ha Ezian with his toned body is lifting weights in the business class cabin. Kim is sure that Uncle He Dio would go for money too. What a gamble. Ezo 93's circle has all shrunk. They're short on cash. Xian's delicate face scans the surroundings carefully. She has no idea that online chatter is praising Hizo Haijai and that Hyun Juzen 77 has joined in. He's becoming a national hero. It's all worth a little thought. Number 1, the ridiculously stubborn guy. When the tide rises, you have to climb. Dio Dutrang Jian, my god, Hyun Duzen is outrageously sexy. Yi Ong Pio crosses his arms over his chest. Casually surveys the area. Bin, fit S letter 1 EDD, T letter 1 EDD, even PO is moving. Once the funds are out, he surely won't spare any expense. Wow, if you get the Demon Spirit Stone, you won't have to pay rent. Everything belongs to the hero Gui Iham. The 99th corridor is buzzing. Just one common grade gem can change your life. Mr. B.O. stares blankly as Jun slurps his noodle. The comment threads are still lively. Now the buzz online is all about Jun. Who is he? Social media curiosity intensified. Even the new recruits are being scrutinized by the masters. Flood of attention probably marks his public debut. DHG Ga seems young, likely being guided to gain real-world experience. Everyone is curious. At level 5, he must be somewhat capable. The plane takes off, soaring into the sky. Each person's gaze carries their own private thoughts. Eng Zai's face tightened as Ha Xian's sharp eyes flicked upward, though Xian still maintained a serious expression. Dong Bai-o stared wide-eyed in bewilderment as Du Jun and chewed on his food beneath his black hood, while the plane gradually descended toward the shore. Amid the bustling skyline of towering buildings, the plane approached the modern headquarters, where the flag fluttered briskly in the wind. Inside, heroes had gathered in full force at the Hero Association. At that moment, breaking news flashed during an emergency meeting, delivered by the editor. The South Korean reconnaissance team had just landed at the airport. The man responded with clear excitement. Good news! Of all the summoned nations, they arrived the fastest. A senior official noted this with a grave expression. Some heroes didn't return to their resting places but immediately mobilized. This country really moves fast, he stammered, while the official tilted his head. His eyes revealed a mixture of surprise and concern. I fear South Korea might uncover that information. Another seasoned leader leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes cold and calculating. No secret lasts forever, so they must be tightly controlled until this mission concludes. Group nodded in agreement. He let out a quiet sigh, clenching his hands as if gathering every last bit of composure. The atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. When the final report was read, the national-level hero of Bojado Magaiso had fallen and died at the hands of an unidentified entity. In the tense room, the narrative suddenly shifted. This was not a monster. The black box data clearly indicated a human form. The man still looked puzzled, lost in deep thought. Something strange had happened at the Santa Gym waterway. In the large conference room, the man in the suit, holding a set of documents, pointed at the glowing map as he gave his presentation. Below the stage, Du Xian stared intently at her phone, her brow slightly furrowed. A message was quickly sent. Where are you? The meeting has already started. Doran casually replied. On the plane, she muttered again about the plane. We just landed at the same time. I changed my flight. The destination is still far away. What do you mean by that? He only replied with a single word, Santa Jim. Du Xian widened her eyes. She was stunned, unable to believe it. Santa Jim, he's going to the most dangerous part of the waterway, alone. The man in the suit continued his presentation, pointing at areas marked in red on the map. A notification appeared, reminding of the route. The entire auditorium fell silent. The tension in the air was palpable. After 2 days of familiarizing with the area, the heroes would be assigned to their designated zones in order. Outside, the view of a luxury hotel named Bom Ho Tsu could be seen. The hotel's doors fluttered in the wind under the brilliant sunlight. Du Xian pulled her suitcase along, opened the door, and got into the yellow taxi, preparing to leave. Just as the girl was about to enter the car, a hand suddenly stopped her. She looked up, her eyes full of caution. A teammate unexpectedly called out to her, holding the car door tightly. His gaze was filled with suspicion as he stared straight at her, his expression naive, as if not understanding. Are you going? The schedule hasn't started yet. Du Xian half closed her eyes, her expression calm as if she didn't care at all. I have a place to go due to Ung Bio's curiosity. So where is it? Faced with the team's questioning. Xian coldly and slowly replied, Tantajim. The taxi sped off, lights flashing, while Ung Bio stood there, calm as if waiting for the inevitable. His eyes narrowed slightly when he heard that name. The land covered by countless rumors and secrets no one dares to speak of. Santa Jim, the place that even the Border Association forbids access to. Going there, the scene changes, a desolate land, steep cliffs, dry as if time had gnawed at it. Bare, skeletal trees stretch upward like ghostly gatekeepers in the crevice near Santa Gym. Du Jun's and Ju Zion's teams silently entered Santa Gym. No one spoke, only the sound of hurried footsteps on the barren ground. Each person's eyes gleamed with vigilance. The entire group walked in silence. Only the sound of footsteps echoed through the desolate land. Suddenly, Du Rayon's cold voice broke the tense atmosphere. It's already this tense. At least tell us why you're in such a rush, Ju Zion demanded. Du Jun replied indifferently, almost reproachfully. I've been waiting here. Wasn't it you who arrived late? Du Jun's tone was cold and blunt. Du Zion angrily shouted. No, if you had informed me earlier, Seo Jun wouldn't have had to wait. She squinted suspiciously. Never mind, so what exactly are you after coming here? Jun, unwavering, replied firmly, Bo Liu Ku Du. Upon hearing this, Du Zion couldn't hide her surprise and yelled, You, Ku Ru Du. That's all for this. Du Jun's face remained expressionless as he glanced at his teammate. Do you need another reason? She asked, tilting her head slightly, her tone laced with mockery. Seo Jun, did you know I'm 3 years older than you? Du Jun casually shook his head. So what? Zion snapped, frustrated. She launched her verbal attack on Du Jun. The entire forest echoed with their argument. Isn't that right? She continued. But you should show respect to someone older than you. Her gaze was a mixture of disdain and indifference as she threw the insult towards the two of them. Du Jun snapped back angrily. I've always spoken politely, all right, so you go ahead and say whatever you want. The journey of the warriors venturing into the dangerous land, where death constantly lurks, continued. The sound of their voices reverberated through the mountains. You want me to get upset? Then just keep using formal language. No, no way, Du Jun muttered. You really dare to push it like that? The conversation was cut short by the rising tension in the air. Young man glanced around, noticing the water in the crevices shaking. He spoke with worry. Hey, do you think it's safe to just rush straight into this rift? The other man immediately burst out laughing. We've got the hero Seo Jun here. What's there to worry about? The tense atmosphere spread around the rift. A voice filled with doubt interrupted. I know she's strong, but that leader over there, the rookie, he's the one I'm concerned about. A laugh immediately followed. Seo Jun shook his head in disbelief. Rookie, he turned around and reminded the gossiping pair, sneering. His voice was full of hidden meaning. A rookie's still a rookie, whether it's this one or that one. But if it's Seo Jun, then he must be a legendary-level rookie. The two young men's faces drained of color. Is it really that bad? The incessant chatter caused Du Zion and the group to become increasingly irritated. He glanced over at Du Jun. Is it happening now? Du Jun immediately drew his sword defensively, staring ahead. He snapped sharply, This is ridiculous. Du Zion's stern gaze focused on him, making him tremble. Don't tell me you came here intending to seal off this entire rift. However, Du Jun calmly responded with an unexpected reason. I'm here to gather materials, not to block anything. Du Jun stared blankly for a while. Materials? Suddenly, the whole mountain trembled violently. From the thick smoke and dust, a monstrous arm with claws sharp as daggers swung down. The wind created a chilling aura, followed by an explosive sound that shook the entire space, with a bright flash as the blow collided with the barrier. The soldier gritted his teeth, bracing himself, his body trembling under the tremendous pressure. Immediately after, the ground shook. Du Jun jerked his head back, eyes wide in astonishment. He could distinctly feel the shockwave spreading throughout the space and yelled out to warn the team. Stay alert and get into defensive positions now. Du Jun gritted his teeth. His red eyes gleamed with a mix of fury and tension. His breath was rapid. Throat dry, he could only manage a growl. A roar echoed out. Through the mist, a gigantic figure gradually emerged, dark wings stretching out. Its yellow eyes gleamed like blades piercing through the air. Dark energy surrounded the dragon, exuding pressure that made the ground tremble. This wasn't just any monster, it was a true dragon stepping out from the abyss. Du Jun's mouth hung open in shock. Compared to the image, this creature was truly monstrous. Faced with the beast's overwhelming power, a team member shouted in panic. Wait, isn't this a little too dangerous? Immediately, Du Jun stepped forward. His voice rang out decisively. Step aside. Du Jun's hand gripped the sword's hilt tightly. Veins bulged from the pressure. The cold steel gleamed. The blade vibrated, producing a ringing sound as though responding to its master. Amidst the blinding light, Du Jun stood silently, like a sword drawn from its sheath, awaiting the moment to strike down upon the world. He recalled his master's words, to take the heart of Bo Lu Ki Du Ko, you can't rely on your bare hands alone. I'll lend you the sword I cherish most. Use it to gather the materials, no need for more words. He raised the sword, his cold gaze fixed firmly on his enemy. The moment the blade flashed was when the true battle began. A single slash tore the heavens and earth apart, the sound of its explosion reverberating like thunder. It swept everything in its path. Du-jun, gritting his teeth, threw a punch. His eyes burned with fierce intent. Blood and shadow exploded into the air. That punch was more than just the power of one man. The massive dragon roared. Its scales shimmered brightly, but around it, waves of relentless attacks came from the direction of the light. Light, dust, and shockwaves intertwined as if trying to crush it. The evil dragon king spread its wings, its gaze cold. A powerful spiritual force radiated from its body. It was like an explosion from within. As the energy surged violently, rocks and earth around it exploded. The space trembled as if the entire battlefield revolved around it. Buzzing of the horn sounded, and the excitement in the air was palpable. It's just as I thought. The moment the weapon flashed in his hand, the onlookers froze, their eyes filled with fear and awe. They couldn't believe that such power came from a single person. What was that? And when the sword's edge came down, causing the earth and stones to tremble, the group gasped in horror. It was ridiculously powerful. Du-jun stood with his back turned, the sword still dripping blood. Behind him lay the shattered, gigantic hand of the monster. The flickering flames in the dark forest lit up as Du-jun set his weapon aside and sat alone by a fire, staring into the blazing flame. Murmurs behind him could still be heard clearly. You saw earlier, right? How he defeated Liu Kazoko with just a single strike. He alone felled so many opponents that I lost count. Too formidable. Turning his back to him, the purple-haired guy in the male group began whispering while covering his mouth. Keep it down. Rumor has it he took down even those like Sokayan in the same way. The other guy hearing this couldn't hide his terror and spoke loudly. Even that giant bird monster was dealt with by him. Meanwhile, Du-jun calmly stared at the fire, ignoring the whispers echoing behind him. He was clearly no ordinary hero. Before him lay a pan with 2 pieces of green meat slowly cooking over the fire. He suddenly turned his head to look at Xian, who was approaching slowly, and asked, "Have you finished handling Liu Kazoko's hearts?" Immediately she had to follow his gesture to the barrels behind him. He replied calmly, "You'll see for yourself." At the same time, Xian looked back with eyes full of doubt. What exactly were those hearts for, and what was that piece of meat roasting there? Didn't look much like beef. His indifferent reply struck Xian like a sudden blow, forcing her to widen her eyes in shock. "The meat from Liu Kazoko," he said. "You can even eat it. Want to try?" Xian quickly covered her mouth and recoiled from the meat, terrified. "We already have our food prepared. Why bother struggling to eat this?" Du-jun muttered, leaving her a remark before tossing the piece of meat into his mouth. "If you don't want it, then don't eat." Behind him, her face registered surprise as she quietly watched him chew, just as Inzu caught sight of it. She froze, unable to believe her eyes, staring at the piece of meat he was eating. Her expression darkened as she asked in horror, "Can you actually eat that?" With plenty of other food available, he still chose that one. Immediately, a pair of slender hands reached out with chopsticks, slowly lifting the meat from the hot pan. Just as she silently stared at the meat, Inzu suddenly shouted in shock, "What are you doing? Are you really going to eat that?" Jan turned to the panicked person standing up, calmly replying, "I was told it's edible." She quickly opened her mouth to eat the piece of meat, leaving Inzu stunned. The greenish meat, seemingly poisonous, was taken into Xian's mouth. A moment later, Xian had to cover his mouth in astonishment, pondering, this actually tastes pretty good." Inzu immediately stepped closer to them. He leaned in close to him, whispering a question that made Du-jun, who was chewing meat, suspicious. "Xian, what's the secret? How did you get Du-jun to do that? She's never had a boyfriend before and isn't the type to be easily moved by a man. Tell me, how did you get her to actually eat that monster meat?" Xian listened, expressionless, his gaze fixed downward. "Secret to love, must be from back when I was at the Imperial Academy, right? I was barely 20 at the time." The image of the young man named Sword God, intently staring at the charming young woman before him, slowly became clear. The young lady from the Cloud Academy groaned. The daughter of the Count groaned, her hand now firmly held by the beautiful white-haired woman. Then there was the distinguished young lady Lesser Lion, over 20 years old, Lavender Lesser Lion, followed by the powerful silhouette of the woman bravely standing before the massive monsters. Then, the final place she resided in the ruined world, Vezonia, Inju suddenly shouted right next to him, pulling him from his previous thoughts. "Hey, I'm asking you, aren't you listening? I'm asking about the secret to love." Dudu quickly turned his head to see her standing with her hands on her hips facing him. Then, in an instant, he put on an excited expression and answered, "He doesn't go looking for bees." Indu froze up when she heard that. A moment later, she had her mouth wide open, her heart struggling to believe what she was hearing. My God, that's the cheesiest line I've ever heard in my life. Inzu immediately rushed over and slapped Xian's back hard, causing her to drop her chopsticks and cough violently. The scene shifted to a major city filled with towering skyscrapers. After some time inside a luxurious room, Poe's assistant entered to report, "The information is all set, sir." Io swirled the wine in his glass, speaking nonchalantly. "I just can't get it. The operation hasn't even started yet, but they're already rushing to leave." Not to mention Seo Jo Jun, Zhang and Ju, and the Carnation Club of Zhang and Ju are involved too. There's no monster worth a dime in Santa Gym. As far as I know, there's nothing special there, the man quickly replied. As for the coast, they just said one thing: it's extremely dangerous there. Just as the phone rang, the cursed ringtone that was tied to that name, everything was completely unpredictable. Honestly, Director Hong, you're calling me today, what's up? The voice on the other end immediately asked, is Seo Jo Jun still alive? When are you going to start working? He asked with a smile. Annoyed, I responded, what's going on? Is there something happening? The voice quickly replied, my father, he must have seen the news that Jun ranked 5th, so he wants him brought home. Yo stood up and said with a teasing tone, even the chairman of the T Corporation has to personally step in, huh? No wonder you're so anxious now. The voice on the other end grew impatient and snapped, don't joke around. What's the plan now? Pyo moved toward the map hanging on the wall. Finally, a decent partner, you have to know how to keep them happy. Seo Jo Jun will surely never make it back from the shore, came the reply, full of satisfaction. I like that answer. The man pointed to a spot on the map with his pen and responded, got it, now hang up, Director Hong. Hizu made contact with Benta KCD. The assistant quickly replied, understood, and at the same time, a name on the map appeared, circled in red. Now, Seo Jo Jun had unknowingly wandered into a desolate area, making it much easier to act. Back inside the forest, Du Jun led the group straight ahead. Xian stared intently at the map. We're entering a vast forest hub. I heard there are dangerous monsters there, he responded. What kind of monsters? She quickly thought of a terrifying creature, Lin. Du Jun focused his gaze upward toward the sky. Lin, that thing is here too? Xian asked in return. Do you know about Lin? He replied, of course I do. Du Jun then took a step forward. Xian watched his back as he moved away from everyone, feeling frustrated. I knew it would be like this. I won't stop you, but put this on. Du Jun looked at the object in his palm. What is this? Xian ignored him, hurrying over to hand it to him. Earplugs. If Lin Mare's scream hits, your mind will go numb. You just said you knew. His answer left her unsettled. Not needed. Then he turned and walked away. Xian, panicked, shouted, don't underestimate Lin. The Hero Association has issued warnings before. Must be extremely careful. But he paid no attention to her words. Night gradually fell over the silent forest with Du Jun leading the way. The furred creature silently followed their every step. Under the full moon, its body became visible, and everyone's gaze on it was filled with fear. A piercing sound suddenly rang out, forcing Inzu and the others to cover their ears in panic. Lin's here, cover your ears quickly. Meanwhile, Du Jun calmly stared at the monster with sharp eyes, his gaze fixed on the creature howling under the moonlight. As it appeared, Lin threw its head back and howled, the sound echoing through the space. Even Xian, irritated by the scream, had to cover his ears. Du and the teammates behind swiftly shielded their ears, but Du Jun remained emotionless, standing calmly. She was surprised by his reaction, thinking to herself, why didn't he cover his hands? Du Run instinctively picked up a stone at his feet, channeling fire into his clenched hand as his cold gaze swept across. Du Jun swung his arm, sending the stone flying. Flames engulfed it, transforming it into an arrow of fire that tore through the air toward Lin perched on the branch. He and Du Xian were startled by his action. Lin quickly turned and fled. Du Run gave chase without hesitation. Du followed, still dazed. What had just happened? She was equally stunned. Lin's screams had abruptly ceased. He ran a short distance before suddenly stopping. His teammates quickly caught up. Under the silent night sky, Du Run stood tall, facing countless Colin. The Colin he had just attacked bared its teeth in fury. Its eyes glowed red with a pale yellow light. Lion stared intensely at Du Xian. She froze, her body stiff as it looked at her directly. Du Xian seemed hypnotized, her eyes now mirrored Lin's. At that moment, Du Jun stepped forward and gently covered her eyes. His deep, warm voice rang out, those aren't screams. Du Xian glanced at him, her eyes still faintly yellow. He continued explaining. The gaze that paralyzed the mind was Lin's. Du Run grasped his sword and reminded her, close your eyes for a moment. She silently obeyed, shutting her eyes tightly. Du Run walked elegantly toward the zither in front of him, the sword wreathed in blazing red flames, thinking to himself. This was the limit. With just a light swing, the sword created a blazing ring of fire. Du Jun stood frozen amidst the flames, awestruck by its imposing presence. He reflected inwardly on the sword techniques of the Wen Jian clan. Du Jun's eyes gleamed with intense focus. First move, Kili a Demolager Zosakal, an extraordinary single strike. Flames engulfed the sharp sword. His gaze was cold as he raised the blade with majestic authority. A fireball appeared at the sword's tip. Spirit Pack cowered in terror, flattening themselves. The fireball grew larger, blazing brightly in the air, leaving his comrades behind in astonishment. What the hell is that? It looked unimaginably dangerous. Du's face trembled as if encased in a layer of metal, pale yellow auras emanating from his eyes. Unleashed the technique. The sword's flame shot forward like a missile, tearing through the air. A radiant ring of red fire lit up the sky, heading straight for the spirit pack. They followed the blazing fire with wide eyes. Gaze remained vacant, still unaware of what was happening. Only when the fire approached did the spirits jerk back in shock, eyes widening. In just a moment, the entire pack was surrounded by flames. The massive inferno swept through the forest under the quiet night. Inzu and Zusian shielded themselves from the fire's ferocity. Spotting something, she widened her eyes in astonishment. The colossal blaze tore through the ground, leaving a scorched black trail, burning the surrounding trees to cinders. On the ground, the spirits fell, their bodies still smoking, lying motionless among the ashes. The others met the same fate. The entire group stared in shock at the scene, mouths agape. Durian broke into a sweat, stumbling over his words. "T the sect, this can't be." Among the ashes, a spirit still struggled to breathe. It made an effort to lift its body. Dajin slowly walked forward, sword in hand, approaching the remaining spirit. It glared with eyes full of defiance, trying to project an aura, but it had no effect. Dajin showed no mercy, decisively slashing the spirit in half with a clean stroke. The spirit remained stunned, blood pouring from its mouth. Its eyes reflected the figure of Dajin. His cold voice rang out, "Don't try to act tough here." Dajin touched its wide-open eye. "This eye, I'll take it. Who knows, it might come in handy later." Dajin fixed a sharp, unyielding gaze on it. Indu and Du-zi observed him with trust. The spirit spoke with awe. "That's insane. Are you even human anymore? You're probably stronger than Azzy Alphonse. You might even be on par with Ken Lester T." Ken Lester T, the strongest hero in the world? Impossible. Around them, the monsters waiting in the water prepared to strike. Bared their sharp teeth at Dajin's group. Dajin's team assessed the situation. They really don't know when to quit. Undead monsters don't have brains. As soon as those words left his mouth, the monsters swiftly leapt toward them. Unfortunately for them, they were met with a powerful punch from Dajin immediately. Not only did he punch them, but he also gave each one a solid kick. His face showed nothing but menace as his body moved with lightning speed. Cutting through the group of monsters, he delivered a devastating blow, severing their heads with a clean strike. The remaining creatures trembled violently beneath him as he stomped them into the ground, the horrifying scene unfolding around them. Everyone was stunned, almost knocked off balance. The air was filled with the agonized roars of the monsters as they screamed in pain, the peaceful scene now a distant memory. At this moment, while walking alone with Du-jun, Du-rei spoke up, asking, "Where did you learn that sword technique?" The familiar sound of the clash echoed as they continued their walk. A brief moment, a flash of his own image appeared in Du-jun's mind. He replied, "What do you want to learn?" Du-rei, surprised, responded, "Can I really learn it?" Thoughts began to swirl in his mind. In this peaceful world, why would one need such a technique? Thinking this, he answered, "Learning it now, what would you even use it for?" Du-rei, frustrated, muttered to herself, "When will you stop? I'm an S-rank hero, you know." Irritated, she shot back, "At least I should be able to use it once before I die, right? Or is it that you just don't want to teach me?" Du-jun shot a glance at Du-rei, who wasn't intimidated and stared right back at him. In the end, he relented. "Fine for you, I can only do this much." Zhu, helpless, intervened to ease the tension between the two, saying, "Come on, let's go through the crack." The entire team quickly followed orders. Yes, they all hurried toward the crack. Inzu thought to herself, thanks to Du-jun, no one was injured. Next time we come near this area, we can shorten our travel time. After finishing her thoughts, she swiftly made her way through the crack and entered. As soon as she stepped through, Inzu heard a voice shouting, "I'll kill you." She was confused. "Is that Japanese?" The curses kept echoing. "How dare you block our way?" Inzu soon realized the accent. At that moment, Zeus was being held in Dajin's arms. The one speaking was Gajizo Matakashi. He was a rank S, the leader of the Empire faction in the Yakuza. Jizoma approached Dajin and continued, "Today, I finally get a chance to have fun with the King of Rights and you dare to interfere. When he makes a move, I'm ready to strike." Whispered softly, "Disappear before I crush your face. Do you understand? This team is really annoying, huh?" Inzu listened as he spoke fluently with Zizoma. Zuzai, surprised, asked, "You can speak Japanese?" Dajin hesitated and nervously responded, "A little." He thought to himself, actually, it's Dajin who learned it. Zizoma's aura flared up, warning them. "What are you spacing out for?" The thugs from his gang quickly joined in. "What nonsense are you talking to our leader? Apologize immediately." Zizoma's gaze froze them in place. "You know who this is?" The chilling look in Dajin's eyes cut them off. "I don't care what you're doing, just leave." The atmosphere froze as tension filled the air. Inzu also thought to herself, the Empire is a fifth-tier gang in Japan. They're notorious for being lawless coming from the Yakuza. No matter how strong the opponent is, it's best to avoid them. She quickly stepped forward to mediate. Both stay calm, she said, but Gajizo waved her off. This is no place for a woman to interfere. Hearing that, Inzu froze. A woman? The group behind him immediately erupted in criticism. You're just a girl, what do you know? They shouted as the situation escalated. What are you idiots doing? How dare you offend our leader? You fools, damn it. Inzu hurriedly intervened. Everyone quiet down, then she calmly introduced herself. I am Inzu from the Hua Jin Cheng Guild. Resolving this peacefully would be best. Zizoma didn't care and continued speaking. What? I've never heard of your guild. If you want to get beaten, don't worry, your turn will come. With one swift motion, he pulled Du Rei away from Du Run. Du Jun rushed forward to stop him. Seeing Du Jun step up, he threw a punch. Get out of the way. I have something to show you all. Anyway, I was planning to kill you, so just sit still and die. Du Jun thought to himself. Something to show me? You're trying to provoke me. If you want to fight, then let's go. A devastating punch landed directly on Zizoma's cheek. The punch, though soft, sent him flying over 100 meters. Seeing their leader get tossed like that, Zizoma's subordinates were terrified. Du Jun reminded everyone. Everyone, step back. He struck first, so this is self-defense. Let's keep this a one-on-one fight. Get rid of the lackeys to lighten the load. Zizoma had regained consciousness after the blow. He ordered everyone step back. His muscles bulged as his face grew increasingly fierce. Zeus, standing next to him, began to worry about Du Jun. She silently prayed, Dajun, please only kill half of them. Takashi's men suddenly looked ahead in shock. Ju Xian, Inzu, and Xianqin stared forward in panic. Dajun leapt and stomped directly on Takashi's head, slamming his face into the ground painfully. Dajun kicked him flying. Takashi clutched his nose in agony, thinking, damn it, how is he this strong? Who the hell is this guy? He's nothing like what I heard about him. Damn it, Dajun shot him a glance. Seeing that look made him tremble inwardly. I'm going to die. Immediately after, he spun around and tried to run. But Dajun appeared in front of him in an instant, his voice low. Who sent you to cause trouble for me? I can already guess who it is. Dajun grabbed his hair, making him shiver. Please forgive me, he begged. Dajun replied coldly, you want me to forgive you? Never. Then he gripped his fist tightly and punched him straight in the face, sending Shizo flying. Zeusian's men watched, eyes wide in astonishment. Dajun flexed his arm after punching Takashi to the ground. Inzu looked surprised. I guessed it, but I didn't expect the battle to be so one-sided. Dajun placed his foot on Takashi's head. Seeing this, Inzu tugged Zeusian's sleeve. At this rate, he'll kill him. Zeusian, say something. Seeing Dajun stomp harder on Takashi's head, Zeusian finally spoke to stop him. Dajun, stop. If you keep going, he'll really die. He replied without hesitation, I'll take responsibility. But Zeusian grabbed him firmly and questioned, how can you take responsibility? You shouldn't have done these things in the first place instead of having to answer for them now. Dajun explained, I've seen plenty of scum like him before, it's best to just kill him. Inju stepped forward, holding his hand to stop him, saying, Dajun, you shouldn't let someone like that affect you. Stop, Du Xian added. You've already learned a harsh lesson, Indu shouted urgently. If you don't want to end up like him, speak properly. Say you won't cause trouble anymore. The three of them immediately knelt, heads bowed, answering in unison, yes, sir. But Dajun still looked dissatisfied. He questioned, just kneel, bang your heads on the ground. Hearing that, they instantly slammed their heads to the floor obediently like frightened pups. Dajun asked, gangsters, don't you have to cut off a finger when you mess up? Upon hearing this, each of them kept pounding their heads, begging for mercy. Please spare us. He made a demand, say, I'm sorry I messed up, I apologize, and I will spare you. The black-haired one ground his teeth and said, I'm sorry I messed up, I apologize. Izu looked at him, speechless, while everyone else laughed mockingly. Even the tall guy on the ground stammered the words, I'm sorry I messed up. Dajun looked at him, satisfied. At the riverside, a man in a suit scanned the documents in his hand. He was tall, then he glanced at Inzu and Zaizan standing in front of him. After arranging the documents, he thought silently, do I really have to believe this? An S-class hero like Takashi was beaten to the point of being crippled. His opponent was just one person. Takashi was the only one injured, so it can't be denied, but it's still too hard to accept. On the Ta-Jiang side, they hoped Korea could cooperate to close the Santajim gap. Then he spoke, if this report is accurate, the association has already taken action, and we cannot intervene. We'll send this person to the Hero Association of Korea and Japan. You will receive their decision. Inzu replied, understood. He continued. Have you all reached near the Santa Jim stream? Is there anything unusual there? Inzu quickly responded, sir, there's nothing strange at all. Du Xian thought to himself, what could be unusual? After hearing the reply, he said, I see. By the way, the name Du Jun appears most frequently in this report. And why hasn't he come here? Inzu hesitated. Well, Du Xian quickly provided a reason. He said he had to go handle something. The man was puzzled. Handle something? In the hospital corridor, groans could be heard everywhere. Takashi Zenji's eyes widened in fear. It turned out he was staring at something. Jun was standing in front of him holding flowers. He spoke in a calming tone, "Lie still. I'm here to visit, really." Jun took out a sphere and placed it on Takashi's forehead. He spoke, "Now tell me what happened." The room suddenly fell into an eerie silence. Takashi, as if hypnotized, spoke. "Because of lowly trash like me, I caused trouble with the Korean gang." Jun furrowed his brows as he looked at him, then turned and walked away, leaving Takashi babbling on. "Thugs are scum, thugs are scum." Jun walked out of the room, his fists clenched tightly. Rumors about the clash between the Korean and Japanese heroes spread quickly. News articles began to appear with headlines such as, "Taking down Takashi with a single strike." The kind of violence that was even more terrifying than brutality itself was hatred. The support for Jun among the people was spreading everywhere. The mysterious hero. Aikua finally spoke up while reading the news. He really cleaned up all the domestic news. It's truly explosive. News about the hero Seo Jun was released daily. The man wearing glasses spoke up. But is it true that the Japanese Hero Association refused to investigate further? Aikua responded, "I heard that the victim, Takashi, said that. I don't really understand. He's always tried to make a fuss out of everything. It shows that Japan is trying to avoid something." The man in glasses seemed confused. "What do you mean by that?" he asked. Aikua gritted his teeth and replied, "I don't know, it won't be long. Everything will soon focus on Hero Jun. I feel like the balance of heroes around the world is about to be shaken." One day remained until the activities to seal off the water gap at the Jia-ro shore began. The Korean heroes arrived early to adjust to the area, coordinating with other heroes from around the world who were gathering in the next wave, sharing both joint activities and individual plans. A pre-battle celebration party was held to ensure success. The star of the event was, of course, Seo Jun. At the party, Jun was talking to a group of people. Inju looked at him and muttered, "The rumors about him regarding Takashi seem to have spread globally. Everyone here is only talking about that, yet he doesn't boast at all. Truly impressive. Compared to him, do you think we seem insignificant?" Inju noticed Zian remained silent for a long time without responding. She looked at Rian, wondering to herself, "He doesn't even listen to me." She observed his tense expression and thought, then turned her gaze forward. She wondered what was bothering him, his face so tense. After a while, she glanced ahead again. Jun was standing close to a seductive woman. She looked at Jun with admiration. She was Geologia Tyler, an S-rank hero from the United States. Ranked number 1 in the world in the most handsome heroes poll. Inju hit Juzian's hand hard, making her flinch. Inzu shouted, her tone sharp, "That's enough, you've had enough of this. Why are you just sitting there? Go," she said. She stammered, What should I do?" Jun glanced at Zusian and she shyly walked toward him. Zian blushed and couldn't bring herself to look at Jun when he saw her cute expression. He smiled happily. As soon as Zian arrived, Tyler turned and walked away. "That was interesting, see you again sometime, Casio." She was confused and asked, "Who is Casio?" Jun, holding his wine glass, took a sip and replied, "That's me." Zian looked surprised. "Do you have an English name?" Jun explained. "That's the name I used before Jun." She looked at him, silently wondering, did he live abroad when he was younger? Checked his file before and there was no mention of this, she thought. Why has he never mentioned this name to me? In the distance, someone was quietly observing Zusian and Daja. He silently thought, that bastard Takashi. Even a scum like him can't be dealt with properly. In the end, I'll have to handle this myself. He overheard Zusian warning Dajan, "But you need to be really careful, Dajan." He walked past them, listening in. "Know you're very strong, but enemies don't always play fair. Takashi has some close allies, the most notorious being." Before she could finish speaking, Dajan replied, "Forget about it." Zusian stood frozen for 5 seconds after hearing this. "What do you mean, ignore it? You should know who I am, right?" Dajan sneered, "You're just like Takashi. Cowardly weak but pretending to be strong, aren't you? People like that are not worth worrying about. Not worth it at all." A man stood in the corner of a party, listening to his words, his anger rising. His eyes filled with cold, murderous intent. In contrast to him, Jun wore a mocking smile. He clenched his fists and glared at Jun, silently cursing him. "That clever bastard, I will kill him myself." The evening sky was already filled with stars. Inya, with a thoughtful expression, spoke up. "This is the first time I've seen something like this. It's near the crack area close to Santa Jim." Inya continued. Entrance to the crack looked gloomy and dark. Ziong smiled and said, "What's there to worry about? We have 2 S-rank heroes here. Let's just go in and close it off." Inya agreed, "That's right, what's the worst that could happen? Everyone, let's go in." Everyone answered in unison. Orders received, they now stood before the crack. Seeing Jun hesitate, Jia Zian looked at him in confusion. Then she spoke up, "What's wrong?" He replied, "Don't you feel it?" Zhejian asked, "Feel what?" She then turned to ask Inya's sister, "Do you feel anything?" Inya also seemed puzzled. Not at all. What do you mean? Are you sensing something? Jun looked ahead with concern. He could sense it. The concentration of spiritual energy had increased. The air around them suddenly felt unnervingly quiet. At this moment, someone high above was measuring the spiritual energy level at 23.61%. He spoke. It won't be long before it reaches 30%. These filthy pests, it would be much easier if they all died from here. Everyone suddenly felt an intense pain. My body feels unbearably heavy, aching, and suffocating. I can't breathe, Du Jun thought. The level of spiritual energy here is completely different. The concentration is even denser than in the Ba Ti forest. Du Ji glanced at him. This is the first time I've seen Du Jun so tense. There must be something here. Jun stared straight ahead and spoke to calm everyone. Stay calm. This might be a characteristic of this ravine. Since our bodies feel heavier than usual, don't let your guard down. Du Xian, protect the formation. Du Jun, you do the same. Du Xian nodded obediently. Understood. Du added, we just need to find out why the density has changed. Du Jun agreed. Understood. Du commanded. First priority is to secure the ravine. Everyone, heighten your vigilance and move. Acknowledge. They all shouted in unison, clear and loud, heightening their awareness and observing the surroundings as they entered the northern ravine of Santa Gem. On Earth, the largest city in the ravine is where the teams from Fa, Han, and Bo Jiaro were dispatched. Suddenly, everyone was attacked, the venom making them bleed from the mouth. The whizzing of wings echoed everywhere. In the sky, venomous bees appeared, relentlessly attacking Inzu's group. They were assassin bees, flying-type monster bees. Seeing his teammates poisoned and collapsing, one member of Du Jun's group thought, impossible. Assassin bees should only be hunted by C-rank heroic monsters. Everyone seemed powerless against the 7 bees. One by one, they were poisoned and fell to the ground. Seeing this, one team member thought silently. Even an A-ranked hero was defeated in a one-sided battle. A wasp raised its sharp iron tail and darted towards him. He raised his hand to strike it, but it dodged. He silently sighed, thinking it's too heavy. Normally it would have exploded into pieces by now. Seeing the wasps frantically attacking his teammates, he wondered how many people would survive here. A knife strike was forcefully aimed at Inzu. Black flags suddenly appeared with sharp weapons in hand. The wasp shields, still confused, thought, this is strange. Why are the black flags so strong? The people in the group took turns advancing to attack the black flags, while another person continued to move forward to fight them. The black flag looked at him with a fiery glare, then raised the sharp scythe in his hand. He swung the axe down with full force, but fortunately Du Xian rushed to his aid, saving him from the black flag's blade. He spoke, thank you, then she reminded him. Don't approach carelessly. The sound of the black flags grew closer. Du Xian immediately flew toward the black flags. Seeing this, the black flag swung his axe. Suddenly, a purple smoke surrounded the black flag. Du Xian had flown around him, then delivered a powerful kick to the black flag. In pain, it turned toward the attack, but Du Xian vanished instantly. She was now above the black flag, raising her leg high. Shot down like an arrow toward his head. In agony and fury, the black flag swung his axe forward, but unexpectedly, it struck one of the other black flags standing in front. It grew even angrier as the black-flagged man continued his assault. She delivered a powerful kick, sending the man flying far away. He cried out in pain, spitting out a mouthful of syrup. The onlookers thought to themselves, feeling a tremor of fear. They had forgotten how terrifying this was. Truly, this was the level of an S-rank. Too strong, the black-flagged man screamed in agony. But just after, he took a punch from Dajun. Dajun had knocked out a black-flagged man in the blink of an eye. Inzu thought quietly, with this kind of difficulty, even with the two of them, it wouldn't be easy to secure this place. The black-flagged man lay unconscious on the ground. Seeing Dajun observing the unconscious black-flagged man, Dajun approached and asked, "What are you looking at?" He replied, "Do you see something like black ripples anywhere?" He asked back, "Ripples?" He confirmed, "You need to focus to see it." "What is this?" Dajun thought to himself. "Why is there dark mana here?" Everyone was surprised to hear this. Both Inzu and Ju Xian furrowed their brows, looking puzzled. The atmosphere around them grew quiet after Dajun spoke. On a dark moonlit night in a desolate, remote place, a monster was struggling against something. Of course, there were people trying to stop its power, but it seemed the monster was still resisting, unwilling to give up. Everyone felt that things were becoming more difficult. They really wanted to eliminate it as quickly as possible. This chaotic battle truly needed to end here. Everyone felt that the situation had become more unstable than ever. Some have already questioned this strange phenomenon. Even the swamp monsters are growing unusually strong, and human power alone cannot counter them. If this continues, humanity will be powerless to resist. Could that last strike really tear through full battle armor? Truly, it is dangerous. Exactly is happening. Even at my clearest, I cannot stop it. A blue-haired girl soared high, unleashing her power, and that monster refused to yield. but she is extraordinarily clever. If the swamp monsters are already this strong, the danger must be even greater. Could there be something special about this rift? She seems to be contemplating something. Worried expression crossed my face. Not just at Zazer's edge, could all the rift regions worldwide be like this? Near the rift by Manhwa. This place is desolate and remote. A young man is racing against time, his face full of worry. Sweat dripped down his face. All of these creatures are S-rank, yet just a few lily pads have already cost him dearly. The purple-haired girl turned in surprise at the name. When Du Jun looked over, he immediately understood what was being said. Exactly, especially those infected with dark mana. They must be treated with extreme caution. Dark mana is the black energy that envelops the body. What did it contain a day ago? Now it has appeared on the swamp monsters. Is this what has made them stronger? The cycle keeps spinning with no end in sight. Imagine a dense surge of energy relentlessly crashing into their bodies, with Xian struggling to maintain control as best as he could. Like something out of a game, unleashing skills with a sigh like that. What is this? Could mana really exist in the real world? The greatest difference between a hero and an ordinary person is whether they possess mana or not. The monsters were growing more ferocious. Du Jun truly wanted to obliterate everything as fast as possible. Everything was spinning into chaos. Did this world ever even have the concept of mana? Then it must have once been a peaceful world. Unfortunately, that peace wouldn't last much longer. Honestly, he didn't want any of this to happen. Du Jun wanted everything to return to its former course, and yet he had already done all he could. Du Jun wanted to crush everything with his feet. He would prove that this world deserved peace. He was the bravest person that had ever lived. His teammates stared in admiration, holding back their hunger. Xian still had questions running through his mind. In short, among all types of mana, that dark kind grows stronger as the monsters do, right? If you compare it, it's like injecting steroids into an athlete. She had a question, so she asked him, but how did Du Jun know about that? For him, it was far too simple. On the other hand, it was strange that they didn't know. Falling out of the swamp, the flower sect still heeded the warnings, knowing this was an extremely dangerous area, so they deliberately slowed their pace and moved with caution. Everyone felt nothing but fear after hearing this, yet a hand signaled them to stop. They had detected it. Du Jun was the bait. Judging by its shape, it's enough to deduce that everyone should be cautious. That danger is definitely nearby, yet someone spoke up to deny it. Jun recognized an even graver problem. The real danger lay elsewhere. Fortunately, we discovered it early. What? Yidun, could it be that you're a mate? You mean the danger comes from this cluster of cocoons? Yidun will show everyone just how deadly they can be. Those things can suddenly explode all at once. Exactly, the corrupted demons, controlling them is like handling puppets. If left unchecked, they'll immediately surround both front and rear. Then sweep everything away in an instant. Now all that remains is to eliminate it. Du Jun kept trying to demonstrate the truth to everyone. It had absorbed hack mana, manipulating them like puppets. If we don't act immediately, we'll be surrounded and wiped out in the blink of an eye. Now all that's left is to take down that threat. Everyone focused intently on his words, astonished by Du Jun's composure. Facing this situation for the first time, he showed no hesitation. The more you look, the stranger it seems, this man. I had assumed he was just powerful. But such strength is far beyond human limits. Xian gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Come on, tell me, have you been reincarnated and lived a second life? Hearing this, Du Jun couldn't help but laugh. A second life. The second life could also be considered somewhat similar, right? How much farther until we reach the core of the swamp? The short-haired girl immediately relayed the information. Once we get through this forest, we'll be halfway there. Du Jun suddenly made an unexpected decision. I will seal this place today. Even Xian couldn't believe this statement. Someone voiced their concern about the current situation. If it's him, Du Jun, it might be possible. But the others won't make it. They're exhausted after the battle in the swamp. Du Jun looked at the weary figures before him. He didn't want to force them into a difficult situation. Then rest, I'll handle it quickly and come back. And so Du Jun ran alone into the deep forest. He had made up his mind and was determined to carry it out. The others still couldn't figure out what he intended to do. How does he still have that terrifying strength? Du Jun had entered the deep forest, his gaze alert to everything around him. Jun moved quickly while keeping a close watch on the surrounding. His eyes were filled with vigilance about this place. This forest truly made one feel uneasy. Suddenly, spider webs appeared before him. Du Jun tried to assess whether it was something he needed to destroy. He was delighted. Finally, after all this time, he had found it. Du Jun immediately drew his sword. That creature was also imbued with a terrifying power. In an instant, it appeared above Du Jun. The creatures continued to appear more and more. It was trying to make him lose his focus. Dajun had to focus as quickly as possible. Both of their strengths were evenly matched, but he couldn't allow himself to lose to him easily. Jun fought with only a sword in his hand. He was already feeling exhausted, but he still had to push himself to the limit. He sighed with relief as he looked at his hand. Thanks to the operation of his mana technique, he absorbed the mana marks, so he still didn't feel tired. Du-jun returned to the others, leaving them in confusion. Xian and the others stared at him in disbelief. He had taken it down by himself. Just hearing it was hard to believe, but seeing him with no signs of exhaustion was even more unbelievable. Jun made a request to everyone. The monster's aura was no longer present in the forest. Let's take a break. So they all gathered around a fire to warm up. The grilled pieces of meat made everyone hungry. Du-jun was focused on his task. A girl came over and shyly asked him, "Can I try some of this meat?" Du-jun agreed without hesitation. A person nearby, curious, asked the girl, "Why would you want to eat that?" She replied, "Maybe it's because eating this is why he's so strong." The person, eager to try, immediately ran over. "I'll try it too. Wonder if it really works." "Sit down, you won't lose anything by trying." The two who were bandaging their wounds watched her eat, feeling intensely envious. Of course, he had already guessed their intentions. That piece of meat only helped fill their stomachs, it had no real effect. But he didn't mind those who were eager to grow stronger. He considered it a small act of kindness to give them a little gift. As they ate, both felt a strange change within their bodies. The girl thought it was effective and became extremely delighted. Taking a bite of the meat, she felt her energy surge instantly. Seeing this, Du-jun couldn't help but laugh. It was time to discuss their next target. Just a bit further and they would reach the core of the rift, but everyone was exhausted. "Let's return to rest and resume the assault tomorrow," Du-jun said, planning to seal it today. "Our backpacks are already overflowing." Du-jun felt something odd and turned to ask Xian. She agreed too. What else could she even do? Claiming not to be tired would be a lie. The monsters had grown stronger because of that thing called Hakmana. Du-du stared at the map, lost in thought. The original plan was simply to delay sealing the rift as long as possible, so they could gather rare materials like blue crocodile hearts or items only found overseas, collect as many as possible. The appearance of Hakmana had changed everything. An unknown variable was never a good sign. This Hakmana felt unsettling somehow. He emptied all the diamonds from his pocket. "Take this and head back to the hotel first," he said. Du-du abruptly turned away mid-sentence, leaving them confused. He didn't forget to glance at Tran-en. "I'll seal it and return immediately." Monster still unleashed tremendous destructive power. Du-jun was fighting hard to restrain it. He wouldn't let it invade again so easily. Du-jun's eyes widened as if he had seen something horrifying. He gripped his sword and, without hesitation, plunged straight into it. He immediately obtained a brilliant diamond. Everyone had witnessed his skills by now. The short-haired girl grew concerned about his condition. Du-jun should be fine, right? Xian thought it was nothing out of the ordinary. As you can see, he just waved goodbye briefly and rushed off like a bullet. He still had plenty of energy left. He was still very much in good shape. The short-haired girl looked at her and teased her. "Why do you look so gloomy? Are you worried about him?" Xian tried to dodge the question. "What's there to worry about? I just felt a bit awkward telling him that he's on the same level as us. There's no one in the world who could compare to him, right?" Du-jun was still fighting relentlessly, not taking a single break. He was so close to defeating that monster. Du-jun only wished to finish it as quickly as possible. He quickly grabbed his sword and drove it straight into the monster's head. The monster grew furious at him. Du-jun was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. The monster had become enraged upon seeing his calm demeanor. Du-jun continued to use his own strength. He was going to burn it with his intense energy. The monster didn't even have a chance to retaliate before it received its painful fate. Du-jun was their mortal enemy. Two gigantic monsters were easily defeated by him. Du-jun had also secured the diamond he needed. Both girls had already packed their things and were ready to leave. Everyone was carrying heavy backpacks. They all continued on their journey. Du-jun was still driving his sword into the monster. He wanted it to die in the most painful way possible. When Du-jun takes action, no one can be more ruthless than him. Make them feel the utmost pain. Du-jun even took their internal organs out, placing them in a jar without any mercy. He showed no pity as he preserved their innards in a jar, continuing his relentless onslaught without hesitation. Quickly closed the lid tightly to fit it inside. The bodies of the monsters were all leaking blood. The diamond films he had collected were appearing in increasing numbers. In no time, he was about to become the one with the most. For a single one to gather this much is pretty impressive. The trembling figure continued carrying the luggage on his shoulder. He would go to a new place and continue his journey. At headquarters of the Heroes Association, in the Situation Room, everyone in the room was in a state of panic. A signal had been sent from a small area somewhere. It seemed that danger had appeared again here. The faces of everyone were filled with worry, but after a moment they all celebrated together. The rift has closed. Dangerous area. Which team was sent there? It was a team from South Korea called the Hua Chin Brigade, but the woman next to them wondered. They just reported that they returned 10 minutes ago. They said they had just stepped out of the rift gate a short while ago. What's going on here? What is happening? About 10 minutes ago, the two-headed monster started stirring again. Jun didn't expect its power to be so intense. This monster evolved rapidly thanks to hack mana. Its wounds also healed quickly. He felt that its strength was even greater than before. Jun had discovered something strange. Is that the core? Hurry up, let's end it quickly. The two-headed monster wasn't willing to back down in front of him. Jun drew his sword. The monster also had a weapon in hand, its fist. Jun felt that this fight was becoming harder to win. He wouldn't give up because of that. The flames were about to start glowing. The monster remained determined to use its own fists. Jun realized that danger was approaching him. He had no choice but to find a solution as quickly as possible. The magic book activated and the spell was cast through the sword. The monster screamed in agony as it felt the consequences, as though it had 1,000 daggers stabbing into its body. The monster was in pain and unable to retaliate. Jun had many more intriguing secrets ahead. Surprised, right? Everything is just beginning. Quickly drew his sword. The monster tried to attack him from behind, but before it could strike, it was impaled in the stomach. The two-headed monster attempted to fight back but couldn't. Jun found it truly amusing to provoke them. Now it was his turn to strike. Unaware of his intentions, the two monsters were bound by invisible flames, their pain intensifying as they struggled. Bodies couldn't withstand the heat and began to tear apart. They were approaching the highest temperature ever. The monster couldn't believe it was facing such consequences. It tried to retreat quickly to protect itself, but it aimed to attack him from above. However, its legs were once again severed in two. It screamed in pain, unable to stop its agony. Jun's strength was growing stronger by the second. He continued to exert as much power as he could, aiming to create a barrier to prevent the monster from getting any closer. He quickly eliminated all of them. Jun sighed in relief before sheathing his sword. The core began to reveal itself, growing larger. He approached it without fear, and even though he was near the core, the concentration of dark magic showed no signs of diminishing. If it isn't the core emitting it, could this magic be coming from an external source? That would mean someone is behind this incident. Filling an entire fissure with this kind of dark magic isn't easy for just anyone. Only a lord or an ancient archmage could do it. If they are truly present here, almost all life on Earth would be doomed. I still can't draw a definitive conclusion. In any case, if the source of the magic is external, simply sealing the water tray won't completely solve the problem. He steeled himself to find a solution. Jun struck the core with all his might, and a crack actually appeared. The core shattered into countless fragments. I still can't reach a clear conclusion. Further investigation is needed. At this moment, he was in the Hero Association's main office. He held the report in his hands, reading it, and his hands began to tremble. Regardless of the magic's origin or the investigation's outcome, the report sounded utterly unbelievable. Some fissures required a three-nation coalition just to enter the field. In the end, only one S-class hero survived. Meanwhile, another team from Korea not only sealed the fissure but also preserved every member's life. The reporter had clarified this doubt. We are receiving a series of urgent reports from other fissure zones, but most indicate that the teams failed and had to retreat. I will compile all the information and submit a detailed report as soon as possible, but this still does not ease his worry. Could each water crack with at least one F-rank hero in charge still fail so miserably? So, the only successful team was the Korean team led by the hero Jun. But calling it the Korean team isn't entirely accurate. He's holding the report but still doesn't quite understand. Did we overlook something? Isn't the Korean team the one assigned to close the crack? The crack was sealed after they left. It's hard to believe. So, who was the one who sealed it? Where's Hero Xian right now? The person reporting immediately gave an update. She'll be at headquarters to report everything soon. He couldn't wait any longer. Get me to her now. Since Xian and the team left the crack, it took them about an hour to reach headquarters. During that time, Jun had sealed the first crack and was heading into the second one. The core of this crack is underwater. He immediately dove down. Right, let's go. He seemed a bit doubtful after hearing that. You want me to believe those words? Xian felt that what she said was completely accurate. If it's that person, then maybe. But he still had doubts about what was said. You saying that Hero Jun alone sealed the crack? Maybe he's still sitting there pondering this. This matter was supposed to be top secret. But other regions, many S-rank heroes have perished. Xian revealed everything she had done for her team. If not for him, Jun, I probably would have been just like them. He lowered his head, unable to say a word. Honestly, it's hard to believe, even though the monsters have become stronger. Thanks to the energy called Hakmana, and that power can surpass even an S-rank hero. Could it be that Jun exceeds all of those ranks? However, a report just came in stating that several cracks in the southern region have been sealed. Perhaps Hakmana Moon has not yet appeared there. Still, she had to issue a warning first, sir. Do not be overconfident. The level of danger now is completely different from before. He picked up his phone to check the situation. She said the color of the crack gate has changed, right? At present, besides that method, there's no other way to verify it. So he immediately gathered everyone and began inspecting all the waterway gates across the territory at once. Hurry up. After saying this, Xian quietly turned and walked away. Took heavy steps in her high heels. Suddenly, Xian received a call from the chairman. He seemed to have something he wanted to discuss with her. Xian wanted to ask directly, the thing called Hakmana, has there been no movement in the Korean region? He coldly replied with only one line, there's been no report like that yet. Keep monitoring the situation closely. Xian thought silently, sensing something was off. Even if it's S-rank, facing multiple Hakmana-infused monsters is extremely difficult. If even one of them absorbs that power, the consequences will be absolutely catastrophic. Everything must be prepared quickly. At this moment, Du Jun was nearly swimming across to the other side. Cracks in rivers, lakes, and seas usually have cores deep underwater, but humans cannot breathe there. Therefore, the number of heroes who can unleash their full potential in this environment is extremely small. There is one national hero here, an S-rank hero specializing in underwater combat. He is highly valued by various nations for his ability to handle underwater fissures around the world. Thanks to his unique underwater breathing ability, which he awakened when becoming a hero, he can sense the Hakmana in the water, which is much denser than usual. Jun began diving into the water as he gradually got used to it. He was determined to conquer the cracks at the bottom of the lake. This was great. It must be because of the Hakmana. Du Jun continued swimming deeper into the ocean. He kept himself calm, breathing steadily. First, he had to control the buoyant force of the rocks. He calmly swam deeper into the vast lake. He recalled the lessons he had learned before coming here. His face was filled with determination. After a long period, he finally reached the bottom. Du Jun immediately became alert. Shortly after, he discovered a massive monster behind him. It had already locked onto him as its target. Du Jun recognized it right away. Next to the black mana, it seemed to be brimming with vitality. He decided to use his fists. Du Jun was determined to control everything immediately. He would not easily give in to anything. Du Jun silently observed everything. Ugly creatures with grotesque bodies began to appear around him. Fiercely watching the monster, he kept his focus on something far in the distance. Du Jun envisioned the most dangerous scenario. He could hardly imagine what would come next. Surely, anyone who saw them would be terrified. He paid no attention to the buoyant force. He could once again control his body freely. His legs were as steady as if they were touching the ground, and his punches were as swift as if he were standing on solid earth. The situation had trapped him among them, and he needed to find a way to escape before anything else. It was too gentle of him. Fighting all of them would be exhausting. Du Jun decided to look for a way out. He would fly into the open space ahead, but there was something dangerous up ahead as well. With a determined resolve, Du Jun flew toward it. A monstrous creature was opening its eyes. Du Jun still couldn't identify what it was. However, he felt it was also a great danger. Du Jun thought he must quickly deal with the situation. He rushed toward it to see what it was. Its eyes was glowing. This was the first time he had seen such a creature. Its gaze seemed to be directed toward him. He never expected to find it here by chance. In his previous world, legendary figures had one thing in common. Before they became famous, they had hunted such creatures. An opportunity like this was priceless. How could he possibly let it slip away? But for Du Jun to capture it was not going to be easy. The creature charged straight into a deep lake. He immediately threw his hand down forcefully. Du Jun could not let this opportunity slip by. There was no such thing as a natural enemy for this creature. No matter who it was, it created a virtual space to devour everything. Du Jun was on the verge of sinking into the ocean. He could feel that the situation had become even more perilous. Du Jun had to try to stay as calm as possible. He wanted this to end quickly. Fighting this creature proved to be extremely difficult. It just stared wide-eyed without making any move. Meanwhile, he gritted his teeth to endure it. Dajun was trying to figure out the most practical approach. Killing it would be easy. That wouldn't allow him to claim the virtual space. Pure mana had to be used to suppress it. Only then would this space truly belong to him. His figure seemed to sink into a sea of flames. Yet some of the fish inexplicably began to rot. They had been infected by the radiant power emanating from him. Dajun tried to focus all his energy, feeling his body's strength draining. If this continued, he would lose. His hand reached out as if trying to grasp something. He fought with sheer determination. The more mana he poured, the more dark mana he had to draw from the abyss. Dajun decided to use both hands to counter the power. He seemed to sense something unusual. He could not afford to lose. With his body already pushed beyond its limit, somehow his image had fallen into the eyes of that fish. Dajin trembled, feeling he had nothing left to lose. Fine, give it everything this time. The currents were growing ever stronger. Suddenly from the ocean floor, a surge erupted toward the shore. The fish and he leapt together. Jun had followed the plan he had devised. He felt a sense of joy in his heart as his plan had succeeded. He had finally obtained what he wanted, but moments later, for some unknown reason, he collapsed. The water no longer remained as calm as it once was. Only a void remained in the middle, looking vacant. Everything continued unfolding as it had been. Jun seemed to have drifted to some mountainous region. In front of him was a group of birds standing and staring at him. Jun was still hazy, unable to fully regain his awareness. But suddenly, a creature approached, startling him. Then they suddenly flew off. Jun opened his eyes after witnessing this scene. He recalled everything and realized that he must have fainted. Jun sat up to regain his focus. He was recovering his strength in his hand. His mana had increased compared to before. The effort had been worth it. Jun seemed to remember something. The illusionary space was still vivid in his mind. He had to fight to claim it for himself. What stood out most to him was that he dove back into the circle with his belongings. He felt a sense of joy having completed his noble task. Now there was nothing left to regret in this rift. The seal was done, time to rest and head back. At the Korean Hero Association, the assistant spoke up. Although no official announcement had been made, the news of the hero's passing was confirmed. Ta-i passed a glance with a regretful expression. We've lost some valuable talents. The assistant continued, I heard this only happened in certain areas with specific cracks. Ta-i asked, was Hero Seo Do-jun really able to seal places like these? He's truly more capable than I thought. He added that the association had already drawn all the attention to the incident involving Ziamata Kasi. He feared that after this, the situation would cause an even bigger wave, he recalled. Back in England, the hero Hyunju Zeon gained a lot of attention. Honestly, I'm pleased that a hero from our country has become the subject of discussions due to his action. So what's the situation with the cracks within our country now? The assistant holding the papers replied, no signs of anything abnormal like what was found on the border yet. I suspect this could just be an isolated and sudden incident that can be resolved. Ta-i circumflex qua reminded him, don't jump to conclusions too quickly. And never let your guard down in monitoring those cracks, even for a moment. The assistant nodded in acknowledgement. Yes, Ta-i circumflex qua said, expressing concern. By the way, I'm a bit worried about Hero Seo Jojo. The assistant asked, puzzled. What do you mean, sir? He explained, President Daniel Lopper, the head of the border city, is famously very tight-fisted. He will definitely try to make the most of Hero Seo Jojo's abilities while he's at the border city. The assistant disagreed. No way, Ta-i circumflex qua looked at him in surprise. What do you mean, no way? The assistant continued. I think maybe President Lopper will be completely drained of resources by Hero Seo Jojo while he's there. After hearing that, both of them fell silent for a few seconds. Then, suddenly, Ta-i circumflex qua burst out laughing. That sounds about right, Seo Jojo is no average person. The scene shifted to President Lopper furrowing his brow, looking ahead with a tense expression. Then he spoke loudly. Hey, don't ask for too much, Yun Shen asked calmly. Asking too much? Then I have nothing more to say, I'm leaving. The man in gray hurriedly stopped him as he turned. Wait, think about the safety of Borealis. Isn't that the responsibility of an S-class hero? Yun Shen questioned, responsibility? I already sealed 2 extremely dangerous cracks by myself. What more responsibility do I have now? Tell that to the heroes of Borealis who haven't fulfilled their duties yet. Don't misunderstand me. The safety of Borealis has nothing to do with me. On the contrary, if the cracks in Korea were to change like they did here, would you be willing to dispatch your heroes to assist? The man in gray retorted. Seeing his opportunity, the assistant urged him earnestly. Hero Seo Do-jun, the current situation is extremely critical. All crack zones within 500 km of Santa Gym are inaccessible. The man in gray added, exactly. Affected areas can no longer be salvaged. If such an incident occurs again, Borealis will face a disaster. Yun Shen furrowed his brow and looked toward him. Inzu and Zusian exchanged glances. Zusian spoke up. Chairman, if that's the case, the answer you seek becomes even simpler. Please accept his request, Zundia said. Compared to the safety of Borealis, that request isn't excessive. Chairman Loper fell silent, pondered, and then made his decision. I agree from now on. Each time you successfully seal a crack, I will pay you $50 million. Dajun replied contentedly, wouldn't it have been better if you had agreed to this earlier? First, regarding the 2 locations where the cracks have already been sealed, transfer $100 million up front. Du Xian thought to himself, if this gets out, he will certainly be criticized as a greedy person. But the Bureau Association has a strong sense of pride, so it won't leak. He glanced over at Du Xian, who was staring determinedly at the gray robe. Du Xian smiled inwardly. He wasn't one to care about such matters either. It was really a 2-in-1 deal for him. Indu, seeing her smile, looked puzzled. Dajun stared ahead, then closed his eyes, thinking to himself, this money is enough to buy the safest house I've always longed for. I kept my promise. Are you satisfied? Although the Bureau Association appeared flustered by Dajun's demand, they had no other option, so they finally agreed. They also requested Dajun to sign a confidentiality agreement first, ensuring his image wouldn't be negatively impacted in the public eye. The scene shifted to a muscular man drinking, and another person lying in a hospital bed, covered in wounds. A group of people was carrying several coffins onto a plane. Family members were all mourning their loss. Among them were Dajun and his teammates. Dajun lowered his head, feeling sorrowful. At the hotel, Inzu spoke up with a question. Do you think this will be the end of it, Dajun? Inzu asked. Dajun's gaze remained fixed ahead, his expression unreadable. Only time will tell, Dajun replied quietly. The weight of their actions seemed to hang in the air, heavy with unspoken thoughts. Will you be coming with us to the next crack? Dajun silently ate without responding, making her feel a little embarrassed. He didn't seem very enthusiastic, did he? Suddenly Du-run spoke up. I'm just weighing which option brings more benefits. Hearing this, she was curious. Benefits? He continued while I seal a crack. Guild can move to the entrance of the next crack. Inzu asked, so will we seal the crack together there? Du-jun smiled and complimented her. You're clever. Suddenly someone spoke up. While we're cleaning up the sealed crack together, will you, Dajun, go seal another one? Dajun confirmed exactly. This way we can seal up to 3 locations every day. I'll share my portion of the bonus from the crack we collaborate on. Everyone cheered excitedly. Then, Du-run whispered into the ear of the purple-haired woman. Before I go to that crack, don't overexert yourself. Just focus on protecting the guild members. You can do it, right? After all, you're an S rank. He shyly responded, yes. Seeing this, everyone whispered among themselves. What were they whispering about? They must be encouraging each other. Look at Hero Hyun Ju-zeon's face, it's all red. They must be dating for real. Then, everyone burst into laughter. Du-jun spoke, once we finish eating, let's head out. Everyone agreed, understood, Captain. The scene shifted to a bright, sunny sky. Du-jun walked alone in the grassy field. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound. It turned out to be a large monster standing in front of him. Du-jun smiled at it. They are monsters of the Seeker lobster line. All right, let's see. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed toward the creature and landed a powerful punch to its face, then smiled as he spoke. Take them down and earn a little spending money. Sunlight poured over the forest, and in the peaceful scene, a flock of birds suddenly soared into the sky. It turned out that Du-jun had applied physical force to the Seeker lobster, causing it to go completely berserk. The monster flipped over after his punch. Its gaze was trembling, filled with hatred. He noticed it was still standing, and after such a blow, he marveled at his own power, truly remarkable. Time to test out a new skill. The monster let out a cry and lunged at him, but Du-jun quickly dodged its attack. He swept his leg, kicking straight into the monster's face. His strike shattered a few of its teeth and sent syrupy blood flying everywhere. However, this monster was quite resilient. After the kick, it still stood frozen as if nothing had happened, its eyes brimming with hatred. Suddenly, smoke began emanating from its body. Jun glanced at it and then created a spatial void. Just as the monster reached out to attack, it was sucked into the space, letting out a few pained cries. It turned out that the punch it tried to throw backfired, redirected by his spatial skill onto its own head. Du-jun thought silently. Applied in real combat, the efficiency was still lacking. The mana consumption was enormous. At this moment, the rift in the southern region of Ma-Yudu had been completely dealt with. Everyone was shocked upon hearing the news. The man in the suit thought to himself, clear the cracks in just 8 hours. He immediately gave an order to his assistant. Transfer the money to them right away. The assistant obeyed. Understood, sir. Afterward, he promptly transferred 50 million USD, then spoke in a worried tone. But if things keep going like this, in just a few days, the budget will hit the billion-dollar mark, sir. The man in the suit coldly replied. No way I'm letting him pick that number. At this point, the assistant understood the implication in his words. He turned and asked, so your plan is to delay the payment, sir? He shouted fiercely. Fool, what if he decides to bail out and stop working? The assistant nervously asked, then do you have a plan, sir? The man in the suit ordered. Call all the A-rank international hunters at the resort here immediately. Form a special team to compete with Seo Du-jun. Reward this team with $10 million. Give them both the money and psychological strength to make sure they beat him. Force them to seal the cracks before Seo Du-jun does. The assistant immediately followed the command. The man in the suit thought to himself, all right, let the competition begin. Between Seo Du-jun and the International Hero Alliance, let's see which side can handle more gates. At that moment, Ung Bio suddenly received a message. picked up his phone to check. So the president finally settled on this plan, huh? The assistant beside him spoke up. Rumors about the death of the ad-level hunters are spreading everywhere, throwing the whole situation into chaos, and you're supposed to respond. Even if the payout per person is $10 million, it wouldn't be a big deal, but the 10 relics in the water rift are far more lucrative, so this plan still works. But if we gather everyone into one alpha team to deploy at once, the assistant said, that's the order from above. Hearing this, Bai-oh gritted his teeth and muttered that if he was assigned to a squad with that annoying Seo Do-jun, he'd be furious. The assistant, scanning the roster, exclaimed that Seo Do-jun's name wasn't on the list, and he quickly demanded, hey, let me see that. Sure enough, both Hyunzu Xian and Inzu's names had disappeared from the list entirely. Something strange is definitely going on. At this moment, Do-jun was checking the transfer amount on his phone. Du Xian asked curiously if the association had already sent the payment. He replied coldly, yes. Du Xian guessed aloud that the fee must have been hefty, which is why they grouped all the foreign hunters into one team. Hearing this, Du snorted lightly and added, the association isn't stupid. Why would they let me take all the prize money? Du Xian murmured, I suppose so. Seeing her reaction, he immediately noticed something was off and asked, what's going on? At that moment, Du Xian cheerfully lifted her legs. He really is impulsive. Du-jun, clearly the guild was scheming behind his back. Du-jun thought to himself, since I've already gathered the full amount that Seo Do-jun initially agreed on, now money no longer matters to me. From this moment on, there are more urgent matters that need attention. Just as the guild had calculated, the race between the two factions had already been decided. Outsider in the room kept typing updates about the situation at the rift. 15:00, the rift in Area A35 had been sealed, a victory credited to Seo Do-jun and his guild. 17:10, the rift in Area C12 had been closed by the Hero Alliance team. One level 5 and 5 level of fighters sustained minor injuries, but 2 level A members were seriously hurt, so the rescue team was called in immediately at 21:50. Rift A037 had been successfully sealed. The team in charge was Lacio Dajun. He handled everything alone. Dajun's eyes shot forward with a sharp intensity. After defeating a monster, days passed in the same routine. Everyone in the room, reporting the news, showed clear signs of exhaustion from following the battle for such a long time. One man, noticing his colleague's fatigue, handed him a can of coffee and some rice. His dark circles stretched all the way down to his chin. He reached out to take them and replied, I'm a bit tired. I just tried to nap a little, but it didn't help at all. This is how things stand right now. Rifts overrun with dark magic were dealt with extremely quickly. However, in other words, ordinary rifts were being ignored. Those areas were being monitored closely 24/7 by agents using machinery and sensors, unsure of what sudden disaster might strike. So they stayed in a constant state of readiness for battle every day. The man wearing glasses sipped his coffee while continuing to monitor the status of the rift. Suddenly, a large red dot appeared on the computer screen. However, just as quickly, the dot disappeared, signaling that the gaps in the fissure had been completely sealed, causing the two agents monitoring the screen to widen their eyes in surprise. From a room in the building, a loud shout could be heard. Du Dung and the other heroes successfully closed all the gates. A joyful voice echoed, the fissure in Sector B41 has been completely sealed. Everyone was so happy that they were brought to tears. It was finally over. One person quickly ran toward a room. It turned out to be Lalit's assistant. He joyfully announced, Chairman, we have sealed all the fissures within a 500 km radius around Santa Zeng. Lobit exhaled in relief and asked, so, the urgent situation has been resolved now, right? The assistant confirmed. Yes, all fissures containing dark magic have been sealed. Hearing this, Lobit seemed to relax. I see you all have worked very hard. Seeing that the assistant was about to leave, he immediately called him back. Wait, hold on. There are still a few minor cracks left, but taking a day off shouldn't hurt anyone. The assistant seemed confused and stammered. What do you mean, sir? Lobit replied. I will host a banquet to thank the hunters and agents for their hard work during this time. At the banquet, delicious grilled meats will be served. Mr. Bo was standing and chatting with his colleague while a band played music on stage. Inzu approached and spoke up. Chairman, we've come to say goodbye. Lobit asked in surprise. Goodbye? Inzu smiled and replied, our team is preparing to return home. Hearing this, he hurriedly asked, return home? Why the rush? Lobit looked away and instead of smiling at him, smiled at someone else. Lobit tried to hold him back, saying, there are still many areas with cracks. At the very least, everyone should complete this mission before heading back, right? Inzu reiterated the agreement between the two sides. The original agreement was that our team would only handle the Santa Gen area. Once done, we were supposed to withdraw. Don't be hasty, hold on a minute. Don't rush like this, how about this? At least Hero Seo Do-jun can stay, right? Indu felt uncomfortable hearing these words. What does at least mean? It's clear he's targeting Do-jun specifically. She turned to Do-jun and asked, What do you think? Du-jun remained silent, but Lo-bit quickly spoke up. Hey, it's not the right time to talk here. I need to speak with you privately for a moment. Watching their figures move away, Du asked Du Xian, what do you think, will Du-jun stay? Du Xian answered with concern, he's already done enough. Plus, he's even gathered rare resources like elite crocodile fish essence. He'll probably leave. Inzu teased. Silly girl, you don't want to be apart from him, do you? She shyly denied. No way, you're talking nonsense. The two quietly observed the conversation between Lobby and Du-jun. When they saw Du-jun turn and walk away, they continued to guess. Looks like he's decided to leave. That's great then? Indu was unsure. Suddenly they were surprised and shouted loudly, is that bait holy? Indu pushed Du Xian's arm, urging him, let's go see what they're talking about. Du Xian refused, what's the point of going over there? But Indu kept insisting, let's check if they're secretly dating or something. Du Xian grumbled, secret dating? In a crowded place like this? Indu, seeing her carefree attitude, reminded her, you're so naive. The beauty like that in front of him, do you think he'd have the mind to pay attention to anything else? If you don't want to be left behind, you better act now. Du Xian stood there frozen. Suddenly, she overheard a faint conversation between Du-jun and Bait Holy. Please consider carefully, she heard. This is also a great opportunity for you. Du Xian, hearing that, became curious. An opportunity? What did she just say? Could be some kind of inappropriate proposal. Maybe something like living together, Bait Holy suggested. I'll wait for your response. Feel free to contact me anytime. Du-jun didn't reject immediately but replied, I'll think about it. Du Xian looked at Bait Holy, secretly admiring her. She really is beautiful, but he still seemed pretty calm. Could it be that he's impotent? What am I even thinking about right now? Du Xian suddenly snapped out of it when Du-jun spoke up. Since we're meeting here, could I ask you for a favor? Bait Holy agreed. Of course, what is it? Du Xian continued eavesdropping on their conversation. Du-jun asked, the upcoming gold auction, I want to check it out. Could you get me an invitation? She thought to herself, a gold auction? Is he talking about the world-renowned auction held annually in Las Vegas? Why would Du-jun want to go there? Bait Holy smiled and replied, of course I can do that. However, I have one condition. 1 week before the auction opens, come to my house. Du Xian was even more stunned by Bait Holy's request and stood there gaping. Images of Bait Holy's alluring, sultry form kept flashing through her mind. She watched the two of them, nervously wondering, what's he going to do? Du-jun remained silent. Du Xian observed them with sharp, piercing eyes while Bait Holy smiled at him, waiting eagerly. Suddenly, she realized a pair of eyes were fixed on her. It turned out Du Xian had been standing there watching the two of them talk all along. He spoke leisurely in English, but since I sincerely hope you will come, I'll give you the golden market ticket in advance. This one is better than the single-use invitation, right? Immediately after, he checked his phone and saw he had received a VIP golden ticket. Du-jun thanked her while Du Xian remained confused, thinking, since when did she ask for Du-jun's phone number? Suddenly a voice rang out, this side looks truly spectacular, doesn't it? It was Kang Jo-eung-pyo walking over while mocking them. Two great beauties from Korea and the US are standing side by side. What a beautiful scene. Seo Du-jun isn't bad either. Holding 2 flowers in one hand, he must feel like he's holding the entire world. Right, Du-jun glanced at Jo-eung-pyo. Meanwhile, he looked at him with a provocative expression. Du Xian felt uneasy. Kang Jo-eung-pyo, it seems like he's about to start trouble. Suddenly, he laughed loudly, drawing everyone's attention as Mr. Bo pretended to be dignified. Really, there's no need to be so tense. I don't mean any harm, I just want to introduce you to a friend of mine. By the way, do these two happen to know each other? Du Xian looked at the approaching figure. Bait Holy also stared at him in surprise. Du Xian was secretly surprised, thinking Takashi. The person standing before him was indeed Takashi. With one of his arms in a cast, Du Xian raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, has he been discharged from the hospital already? The president seemed a bit startled to see him here. In fact, he hadn't invited the hero Takashi because he was afraid this exact situation would happen. How did they end up meeting at this exact moment? Dojin stared at him with a blank expression while Takashi glared back at him angrily. Suddenly, Dojin spoke up. It seems like your body has fully recovered, hasn't it? Takashi politely replied, thanks to someone I had quite a memorable experience. Dojin responded, as long as you're all right, that's all that matters. The president noticed the tense atmosphere and decided to speak up. Hero Takashi, your body has recovered quite well. I didn't invite you to this event because I was worried you might overexert yourself, but now that I see you, I'm no longer as concerned. Over there's a very comfortable sofa. Please make yourself at home and rest while we talk. Dojin secretly cursed under his breath, realizing that things weren't going as he had hoped. I'm that old man, he muttered. I can't let the opportunity I worked so hard to create be ruined like this. He immediately added, yes, Takashi, you should rest. The injuries caused by the tremors must still be quite painful, right? Oh, and by the way, I'm not sure if you've received an apology yet. After all, you were beat. You deserve an apology, don't you? The more he spoke, the angrier Takashi became. He glared at Duzian. Both Duzian and Bethely tensed, watching Takashi closely. Dajun smiled and called out, "Hey, Takashi. Yakuza are just a bunch of scum, aren't they?" Everyone was shocked when they heard Dajun ask Takashi that question. Although Xian and Bethely froze for a moment, lost in thought, Takashi bared his teeth and snapped angrily, What's going on? Can this even be said out loud here?" Du Dung ignored his words entirely and firmly stated, "Of course, they're nothing but worthless fools." Mr. Bo, seemingly unable to believe it, stammered, "What?" Du Jun pressed on. "Worthless trash that contributes nothing to society, right?" "Certainly, nothing but trash," Du Xian thought silently. This scene felt oddly familiar. As Mr. Bo placed a hand on Takashi's shoulder, he whispered, "Takashi, what the hell are you doing right now?" Takashi didn't reply, turning to glare at him with a face full of anger. He lifted his phone and reopened the recorded conversation. A voice echoed through the room, "Takashi, about what I told you before. He needs to act quickly." "About what?" "Forgot already. There's someone who must be eliminated at the shore." "Ah, recently I've been too busy. What was his name again?" Dujun's ears caught this, leaving him utterly stunned. Voice continued from the recording, "Just deal with him in the crack, that's enough." "Right, talking too much just tires me out. Is there anything else at the shore?" "If there is, maybe dating some girls. I'd like to try flirting with Jilogia this time, or Hyunzu Zion. She doesn't seem to have a boyfriend yet, so I'll see you at the shore then." Wang Bai-o suddenly looked at Takashi with disbelief, while Dujun thought with amusement, "Unexpectedly, Lin's gaze has such a strong effect. Wang Bai, you've picked the wrong opponent. From now on, I'll crush you to the point where you'll wish you were dead." At that moment, hundreds of eyes were staring at him, making him feel embarrassed with beads of sweat on his face. His brow furrowed so deeply that the veins on his face were clearly visible. Suddenly Duong Xian burst out laughing. A voice echoed, "Damn it, all of this was ruined by that stupid Yakuza." Takashi stood facing Duong Xian. The tension between them felt like a fire ready to ignite at any moment. The voice continued, "That's right, even though he's caused all kinds of trouble already." Dujun thought to himself, "But if this keeps going, it will lead to something big." As expected, Duong Xian raised his hand and punched Takashi in the face with all his might. Takashi coughed violently. "Shizo!" he screamed in pain. Seizing the moment, Duong Xian quickly fled. The president, worried, immediately gave the order. "Go capture him." The bodyguards acknowledged the command. "Yes, sir," they said, chasing after Duong Xian. Du Xian saw this and urged them forward. "Jun, hurry and catch him." Suddenly, she froze, seeing that Du Jun was still standing still. She thought to herself, why isn't he chasing after him in this situation? If it were Du Jun, he could have stopped him. Du Xian, puzzled, asked, "Why didn't you stop him?" But Du Jun just stood there in silence, offering no reply. It was a night that caused a huge shock. The incident quickly spread around the world, and the shock that both South Korea and Japan had to bear went far beyond imagination. Both governments and the Hero Association tried to avoid the public scrutiny. The media relentlessly exposed the past actions of Kang Jong-bo and Takashi. In a room full of scattered objects, as if someone had violently destroyed it, Hong Hai-chu angrily shouted, "Bunch of idiots, bastards, cursed fools." Hong Hai-chu relentlessly used her staff to smash the furniture. It seemed like she was venting her anger on the household item. Section Chief Lai stood outside, silently enduring her fury. Suddenly she shouted, "Section Chief Lai, come in here," causing him to be startled. At this point, the room was in ruins after Hong Hai-chu's outburst. She picked up a cigarette and asked, "What's the situation with Kang Zhuo-bo now?" Section Chief Lai immediately reported the situation. He had heard that the Interbo and the World Heroes Alliance were aggressively searching for him. However, there was still no information regarding his capture. She angrily cursed the bastard, wishing he would resist and die right away to get out of her sight. "What about the tail? Has it been handled?" Department head Lai replied, "Yes, I've taken all necessary actions. From our accounts to the communication network, everything has been exposed. Even the security cam footage has been thoroughly dealt with." "Is there something that worries you, madam?" Hong Hee-chu didn't respond, instead throwing her phone at him. Department head Lai caught the phone and, looking surprised, asked, "Wait a moment, is this a phone?" She then retorted, "Can't you tell by looking? This is the one I use for personal matters. Only family knows this number, but you should read the latest message." Department head Lai looked down at the phone and saw a threatening message. "Cooperate with us, partner. If you refuse, I'll release the evidence. We'll contact you again soon." He frowned, suspecting, could this be because of the beer issue? What on earth does that person want to cooperate with us about? Hong Hee-chu seemed to lose her composure and shouted angrily, "What's the big deal? As long as he's involved, it's already a huge problem. A bunch of useless fools. Get out of here now." Saying this, she threw a bottle at him. As department head Lai walked out, he secretly thought to himself, if I stay involved any longer, I'll be in danger myself. I need to figure out how to save myself first. Just as he was leaving the door, he ran into Selkie Ung Choi. his piercing gaze locked onto department head Lai. Selkie Ung Choi was Hong Hee-chu's father-in-law, head of the tea corporation. The moment department head Lai saw him, his face turned pale. He quickly spoke, "Apologies, chairman," as he saw him approaching. Hong Hee-chu flinched, trembling as she explained, "Dad, what I meant was," but Seo Kyung Choi interrupted, slapping her across the face. Hong Hee-chu clutched her face, trembling as she lay on the ground. He furiously demanded, "Do you think I'm some washed-up old man?" Hong Hee-chu shakily asked, "What are you saying, Dad?" Before she could even recover, Seo Kyung Choi slapped her again. He interrogated her, "Do you think I don't know you hired Kang Do-ung Bio to kill Do-jun? The flesh and blood of mine is a level S hero," he continued. "I will definitely bring Do-jun home." Hong Hee-chu was taken aback by his words. Seo Kyung Choi added, "I've never liked the T group, always so arrogant just because of that kid Jang Sung-ho." He smiled wickedly, "But the heavens are still watching over me, Seo Kyung Choi." He grinned maliciously. "But first, let's figure out how to deal with the mess you've created." Hong Hee-chu furrowed her brows, beads of sweat on her face. Meanwhile, the situation around Kang Do-ung Bio was chaotic. Do-jun's group had returned to South Korea. Looking out the airplane window, Do-jun thought to himself, "This expedition to breach the rift has been quite profitable. We've gathered enough materials and the money's good too." Suddenly, Do-zeon leaned forward and asked, "I'm curious about something. Can you answer a question for me?" Do-jun turned to her and asked, "What is it?" Do-zeon continued, "It's about Kang Joung-bai. You deliberately let him escape, didn't you?" Do-jun smiled and replied mischievously, "Only by doing that can we move on to the next step." In Seoul, South Korea, Eun-zeon happily enjoyed the hamburger in her hands. Do-jun smiled and asked the little girl, "Is it good?" She replied contentedly, "It's absolutely delicious." Watched her eat with a joyful expression, though his eyes seemed to hold something deeper. Do-jun recalled the events that had happened before. After returning to his country and reuniting with his family, Do-jun was completely shocked. His grandmother's health had noticeably declined. Seeing this, he anxiously rushed over to ask, "Why won't you go to the hospital, and why didn't you call me even once?" Eun-zeon whispered, "Brother, please don't scold her." He said that was the money he had earned at the cost of his life, so it shouldn't be spent wastefully. Do-jun placed his hand next to hers. He said, "Going to the hospital when you're sick isn't wasting money." He whispered by her hand, "I've already earned a lot of money. So don't worry, just go to the hospital. From now on, anything you need or want, don't hold back. Live comfortably." Hearing this, she was moved to tears. Do-jun immediately admitted her to the best hospital in South Korea, and every day Eun-zeon visited her. The sharing hamburgers together became their daily routine. The two cousins happily ate hamburgers together.